teacher's job sounds simple enough, protecting and guiding the next generation. At least, that's what the textbooks say. But in reality, it's mostly just dealing with rowdy kids who'd rather do anything else but listen to a lecture. Solo Pastry stares out at the student flying around on their brooms, realizing pretty quickly that this profession might not be the right fit for him. Welcome to the School of Magic, Orion. It's the top academy in the country, but even here, things aren't always what they seem. Magic is the backbone of this world, used for everything from daily chores to hunting down dangerous monsters. Naturally, the pressure is on for these kids. Solo puts on his best inspiring teacher face, telling Class 2D that they're the future of the world. He's laying on pretty thick. To get their attention, he uses a transformation spell to turn himself into a little bird. He's really trying his best to make the lesson interesting. But the class is a total disaster. Half the students are laughing at him, and the other half are basically having a party in the back of the room. Nobody is paying attention. They're just talking about broom riding and fashion while Solo chirps away at the front. A student named Miko Cecilia interrupts the lesson just to ask which nail polish color is cuter. Solo tries to get back on track, but she's more interested in her magically color-changing nails. Still stuck in his bird form, Solo officially introduces himself as their teacher, though it's clear he's already lost control of the room. Later that night, Solo collapses on his bed. He's completely drained, admitting to himself that he just can't do this. He's frustrated because not a single student listens to a word he says. He's basically a punching bag for a bunch of teenagers. He looks through a teaching guide that tells him to always keep a smile on his face, but he's currently seething behind his glasses. He groans about how much he hates kids. It's obvious they all look down on him, and he knows it. Solo wonders if his attempt at playing the kind, youthful teacher was a total mistake from the start, but then his gaze shifts to a wall covered in documents. He stares at his real workspace, a wall of targets. His actual plan is to eliminate his target quickly and just go home. This teaching gig is just a cover. See, in this world, people are split into those who can use magic and those who can't, and that gap creates a lot of problems. Wizards are taught to use their power for the good of society, like this woman fixing a kid's broken cup with a simple spell. It looks like a dream world, and most people wish they were born with that kind of power. Solo, however, knows the darker side. He knows the world doesn't actually run on pretty words and helpful spells. When power is involved, greed follows. Beneath the surface, people use magic to exploit and threaten others. This guy is begging for his life, offering money just to be spared. But mercy isn't on the menu tonight. A cold, calculating eye watches from the shadows, locking onto his prey. Solo stands there, hooded and hidden. He doesn't feel anything for the person begging in front of him. To him, this is just work. He is number 0, an assassin whose job is to clean up the evil that deserves to be buried. It's a dark profession, but he's the best at it. After finishing a job, he gets a call on an old rotary phone. His employer congratulates him on another successful hit. Solo sits by the window of his cramped room, looking out at the city. He justifies his actions by telling himself he's taking out people who sacrifice lives for experiments. The boss on the other end starts lecturing him about the state of the country, but Solo cuts him off. He's heard the speech 1,000 times before. Solo tells the boss that if a target has been decided, he'll take care of it. No matter who they are, he'll get the job done. That's his pride as an ace. Ironically, using magic to kill would technically make him an evil wizard too, but at least he's an assassin with a steady paycheck. The new mission location is revealed, the Orion School of Magic. Solo liked having a job where he was valued, but this one is an undercover mission. The boss gives him details: infiltrate and wait for instructions. Solo is calm until he hears the catch. To get inside, he has to become a teacher. Solo nearly falls out his window when he hears that part. It's the last thing he expected. He screams in protest, telling the boss there's no way he can be a teacher. But the boss just tells him get it done and hangs up. Solo is stuck. Flash forward 2 weeks, and Solo is walking through the academy halls, completely miserable. He hasn't heard anything from the guild since he started. He thinks about how ridiculous it is for him to be teaching. He has 0 academic experience. Everything he knows about magic, he taught himself in a guild for assassins. As he heads toward the faculty room, he's stopped by a staff member who wants to introduce him to someone. Solo just wants this day to end. It turns out there's a new transfer student joining Class D today. His name is Ibuki, and Solo is caught completely off guard. Ibuki looks at Solo with a cold, intense gaze. He doesn't look like your average student, and Solo can feel the tension immediately. Solo realizes his class of 12 has now grown to 13. He can barely handle the students he already has, so he's not exactly thrilled about a newcomer. He tries to make small talk as they walk through the corridor, asking Ibuki about his last school. He gets a blunt, one-word response. Average. Not a great start. Solo sighs, thinking Ibuki is just another kid who thinks he's better than everyone. But as an elite assassin, he's weirded out. He can't sense any presence from the boy at all. Ibuki puts a finger to his lips, signaling for absolute silence. He's clearly taking this secret meeting very seriously. With a swift motion, he casts a high-level concealment spell to make sure nobody can eavesdrop on them. Solo is genuinely impressed. A kid should be able to pull off magic this advanced. Ibuki drops the student act and bows formally, addressing Solo by his codename, Number 0. Solo can only stare, wondering just who this kid thinks he is. He explains that for the current mission, he's been assigned as Solo's buddy. It's a fancy way of saying he's here to watch Solo's back. Solo is immediately annoyed. He never heard anything about a partner, but a bookie just casually moves the conversation along as if it's no big deal. The bookie closes his eyes, sounding way too mature for his age. He says keeping their information secret is the top priority right now. Solo thinks the kid is irritating, but a bookie doesn't notice. He starts talking about Solo's reputation as a legendary hitman from Kronos. Suddenly, a bookie's professional mask slips. He gets all sparkly-eyed and asks, almost begs, for the honor of shaking Solo's hand. He grabs Solo's hand and starts shaking it like a maniac. He says there isn't a single person in the assassination industry who doesn't know the name Number Zero. Ibuki is full-on fanboying now, listing Solo's stats like he's a professional athlete. Voted most reliable hitman 5 years in a row. This kid has definitely done his homework. He catches himself and tries to regain his composure. He formally apologizes and identifies himself as a member of the Department of Magic's assassination unit. Ibuki gets dead serious again. He warns Solo that failure isn't an option because this is a state-sponsored request. The pressure is officially on. He talks about Kronos, the secret guild that exists to wipe out evil. They aren't officially recognized, but they'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. Ibuki believes they have a superb sense of justice, but Solo isn't buying the heroic speech. He just wants to finish the job and move on. The kid is just honored to be paired with his idol. Solo just sighs, missing the days when he could work alone without a fanboy following him around. Solo puts his teacher mask back on and tells Ibuki he hopes they work well together. Ibuki is practically glowing with excitement. They agree to talk about the details after class ends. For now, they have to keep up the act of being teacher and student. Ibuki is absolutely thrilled. He's been looking forward to this undercover mission ever since he heard Solo had already infiltrated the school. Back in the classroom, Solo introduces the new transfer student. The class is as chaotic as ever, with students whispering and joking about Ibuki. Solo starts to point out Ibuki's seat, but the class is already ignoring him. They're way more interested in the new guy than the lesson. Miko Cecilia jumps up and suggests throwing a welcome party for Ibuki instead of having class. The rest of the students are all for it, much to Solo's annoyance. Miko calls Solo a total downer and a boring teacher. Solo tells Ibuki to just leave her be, but he can see the kid is getting worked up. Ibuki gets a terrifyingly cold look in his eyes and leans in, asking Solo if he should just kill her right now for the insult. Solo panics, whispering for Ibuki to stop. He explains that as assassins, they definitely shouldn't be murdering students in front of an entire class. It would kind of blow their cover. He's sweating, realizing Ibuki is a bit of loose cannon. He tells the transfer student to just go sit down before things get even weirder. Ibuki tells the class that school is a place for studying and that the teacher is right. Miko is genuinely shocked that anyone would actually take Solo's side. Miko laughs it off, saying Ibuki is way too serious. She shows off her navy nails again, telling him that their class doesn't have good grades because they just want to have fun. Ibuki stares at the low-ranking wizard eggs. Miko is offended by the term, but it's clear she's used to being looked down on. The school divides classes by grades, and Class D is at the very bottom. They're basically the dropout class that nobody expects anything from. Solo leans back, listening as Miko says he's just a replacement teacher who's only here because it's his job. She doesn't think he actually cares about them. She mentions that the last teacher quit because they couldn't even bother to remember the students' names. Ibuki just watches the exchange, silent and watchful. Miko gives a final shrug, telling Ibuki that if he's looking for a teacher who's actually looking out for them, he's in the wrong place. Solo doesn't argue. Night falls over the academy, and the scene shifts to the quiet woods outside the school walls. Solo is out on patrol, lantern in hand. Solo is exhausted after another tiring day. He's especially drained because of Ibuki's constant intensity. The kid asks why they have to patrol the woods at night. Ibuki asks Solo if he truly hates the role of teacher. Solo doesn't even hesitate before answering. He goes on a full rant about how much he hates early mornings, grading papers, and those stuffy teacher outfits. He thinks teaching is insanely exhausting and completely impossible for him. To him, assassination is a way better gig. You just get rid of target and get praise and money. Teaching has none of those perks. Ibuki steers the conversation back to their current mission. He wonders what kind of person could be so dangerous that 2 high-level assassins were sent to an ordinary magic school. Ibuki's eyes sharpen as he delivers the truth. The target is an evil wizard. And not just any wizard, but one who is destined to be extremely dangerous. Deep in the forest at night, Solo, Pastry, and Ibuki are tailing someone. Solo recognizes the voice immediately. They peek through trees to get a better look. It's way past curfew, so Solo wonders what she's doing out here. It's Miko Cecilia. She's waving a stick around, shouting at the top of her lungs to become a dragon. The only response she gets is crickets. Miko keeps posing like a magical girl hero. Solo thinks she acts completely different here than she does in class. Ibuki thinks this is the perfect time to take her out since no one's watching. Solo is just stuck on the fact that she's a target. Solo looks at her through his glasses. This girl is really the one he's been sent to kill. Solo can't believe it. To him, Miko is just another ordinary student. Ibuki doesn't seem to share the sentiment. Miko is losing her cool, frustrated that her transformation magic isn't working. The guys just watch her have a total meltdown. Then everything shifts. A massive burst of light and magic energy explodes from her body. The shockwave nearly knocked them off their feet. Something huge is definitely happening inside that smoke. A massive dragon head snakes out of the clouds. This isn't some low-level illusion. Solo's jaw hits the floor. She actually did it. She turned into a real dragon. The dragon lets out a roar, and a massive explosion rocks the entire area. Solo is caught right in the blast zone. Ibuki jumps in front of Solo, throwing up a magical shield just in time to save him. Solo thanks him for the save. Ibuki plays it cool, reminding him that they're partners and he shouldn't let his guard down. But even Ibuki is sweating now. That military-grade barrier he brought for emergencies just shattered in a single hit. The dragon is rampaging, and Ibuki says Miko has completely lost herself. Solo still doesn't understand why she has to die. Ibuki explains the policy known as egg smashing. It's a government policy where they use precognition to find future threats and kill them before they can hatch into villains. Solo's never heard of this. Ibuki tells him it's a top-secret mission to protect the safety of the nation. In a predicted future, Miko is destined to become an evil wizard and murder a massive number of people. Ibuki doesn't care why it happens. He just sees the threat she'll eventually become. He looks Solo dead in the eye and says he'll kill her for the sake of the country's future. It's just his job. Solo looks at the destruction. He can tell she's tapped into a talent way beyond her current limits. Ibuki's already got the cover story ready. They can just say she was attacked by monsters in the middle of the night. The dragon towers over them like a mountain. Ibuki asks Solo if he's ready to finish this here and now. Solo gives him the most deadpan look ever. Nah, I'll pass. Before Ibuki can process that, Solo lunges forward with insane speed. Ibuki can barely track his movement. Ibuki tries to argue that she's evil. Solo points out that right now, she hasn't actually done anything wrong. He looks at his student. To him, she's just a blameless child who worked a little too hard on her own. Solo isn't an executioner. Killing kids is where he draws the line. Ibuki starts screaming about government policy and protecting the future. Solo just brushes him off. Solo puts a hand to his chin. He wonders if they could just teach her better so she never turns evil in the first place. Ibuki is losing his mind. He can't believe Solo is talking about being a teacher at a time like this. And a giant, slitted eye opens up in the darkness. They've finally been spotted. The dragon opens its maw and unleashes a massive blast of energy right at their feet. Ibuki is coughing, barely holding on after that last hit. Solo is still standing, completely unfazed. The dragon hovers above them, looking like a literal god of destruction. Ibuki is pinned to the rocks. It prepares another breath attack. Ibuki knows they won't survive a second round. Solo stepped in front of him, looking totally calm. Ibuki is stunned that number 0 is actually going to do something. Solo tells him he won't kill Miko, but he's not going to let Ibuki die either. Solo flies into the air and delivers a punch so powerful it cancels out the dragon's fire. He's returning a favor for that earlier save. Solo stares, unable to believe what just happened. Even Ibuki is speechless, watching Solo shut down a dragon's attack like it was nothing. Solo faces the massive dark silhouette of the dragon. He begins to recite Miko Cecilia's name and every detail of her appearance. Her indigo eyes, her sky blue hair, telling her to remember who she really is. He even mentions her navy nails, reminding her of a lesson from class about how to undo a transformation by focusing on your original self. The light fades, and Miko returns to human form, looking up at her teacher in total shock. She looks at her hand, touched that he actually remembered her nails. Solo just tells her to close her eyes and forget, treating the whole thing like a bad dream. Miko drifts off, her eyes closing as the last of her magic drains away. Solo looks pretty shaken up by the whole ordeal, wondering if he's actually cut out for this teaching gig. He catches her before she hits the ground. She's completely wiped out from overusing her magic. Ibuki just stands there, giving Solo a look like he's grown a second head. He asks Solo if he has any idea what he's just done by letting a target live. Ibuki starts yelling about breach of contract and their job to eliminate the target. Solo just sighs, saying he can't force himself to do something that feels wrong. The kid is furious, asking if Solo is really just walking away from mission. Solo admits he's never had to cancel a request before, so he's figuring it out as he goes. Ibuki warns him that he's going straight to the higher-ups with this. Solo starts stressing out, realizing that if his guild fires him for this, he's basically finished. Morning breaks over the mountains, and school is about to start. Back in the office, Solo is staring at his notebook, officially panicking about the mess he's made of his career. He's convinced his reputation with the boss is in the trash. You don't just ditch a government-sanctioned job and expect to walk away. He's already imagining his own execution when he hears the door click open. The students start rolling in, and Miko walks in yawning like nothing happened. They're all buzzing about some monster rampage in the mountains last night. Miko laughs it off, telling Solo she had the weirdest dream about being a dragon. He's relieved she doesn't remember a thing. But he can't stop thinking about that look in her eyes from the night before, when she asked if he could be a good teacher. He tells himself that remembering details like her nail polish is just a professional habit from his life as an assassin. But his own past is starting to bubble up. He remembers being a lonely kid in a dark room, just wishing someone, any adult, would actually see him. Looking at Miko and her friends, he realizes his whole journey to becoming a teacher started from that same desperate need for recognition. Miko catches him staring and looks back, curious about what's on his mind. Suddenly, the door swings open and Ibuki marches in, catching Solo off guard. The kid walks right up to his desk with a dead serious expression. Ibuki drops a bombshell. Miko Cecilia's future has officially changed. According to the latest readings, she's no longer destined to become an evil wizard. Solo is stunned, but Ibuki says he doesn't have details. That's just what the bosses told him this morning. It turns out Solo's act of teaching last night actually managed to rewrite the path of the future. Solo thinks he's off the hook, but Ibuki tells him the real work is just beginning. The goal has shifted from killing one girl to changing the futures of the other 11 targets in the class. Ibuki looks around the room, noting that beside him, there are 12 students in Class D who are all under watch. Solo looks at the rest of his rowdy students, realizing they're all potential world destroyers. In the original timeline, these 12 kids were supposed to become the legendary wizards that bring the country to its knees. Ibuki delivers the new orders. Solo isn't supposed to kill them anymore. Instead, he has to teach them well enough to change their destinies. Solo stares blankly, realizing his simple undercover mission just turned into the hardest teaching job in history. Solo's checking out some documents in the faculty room, looking like your average, tired teacher. Then, this other teacher starts cracking up, saying he totally forgot to give Solo the old exam results when he took over the class. He tells Solo not to sweat it though, since Class D is a lost cause anyway, so he should just do whatever he wants. At his desk, Solo's flipping through the papers, reminding himself that his actual job is being a legendary assassin. Then he sees the scores, 2 points, 7 points, 16 points, out of 100. It's a complete disaster. He starts sweating as the weight of it hits him. If these kids really are the future villains who destroy the world, he's got his work cut out for him. He puts on his best fake smile and heads to Class 2D, trying to act like the enthusiastic new guy while announcing they're reviewing the results. The classroom is pure chaos immediately, with students yelling about why they're getting tests back now or laughing at someone's pathetic score. Solo's eyes twitching behind his glasses. He's already over this and realizing he's definitely not a kid person. Looking around, he sees one kid reading a cookbook and another girl casually mixing a suspicious-looking potion right at her desk. He's about to snap his pen in half, thinking there's no way he can actually guide these kids when they're all just goofing off. That's when Ibuki steps up, trying to play the responsible student by telling everyone to pipe down since they're actually in class. One of the guys tells Ibuki to relax, saying they already know they're the bottom-of-the-barrel leftovers of school. The whole class starts cheering, calling Ibuki, Ibobi, and saying they just want to enjoy their school life instead of studying. Solo watches them with a blank stare, thinking they're definitely idiots, but they also seem like just regular, happy teenagers. He catches a glimpse of Miko Cecilia, who's just staring off into space looking completely bored with the whole situation. Later at the boys' dormitory, Ibuki is already at his limit, sighing about how he can't handle the disrespect from the other students. Solo is just chilling on his bed while Ibuki asks him if kids like that could seriously become a national-level threat in the future. Ibuki is getting genuinely heated now, saying he can never forgive the way they look down on Solo. He's practically begging Solo to just use his actual power to shut them up once and for all. Solo stays calm and keeps pouring tea, reminding Ibuki that being a teacher is just an act for the job and that their client is waiting. He explains that the government itself ordered the hit on Class D, and he's actually pretty nervous about meeting his superior. He's hoping if this meeting goes well, he can finally negotiate a way to leave this teaching gig and get back to the guild. They arrive at the meeting spot, where a fancy tea set is already waiting, and a voice thanks them for coming. Suddenly, the room fills with a strange magical glow right over the tea table. Before Solo can even react, a massive, terrifying horde of shadowy monsters erupts out of nowhere, surrounding him completely. He's caught off guard for a second, wondering what the hell is going on. The monsters lunge at him from every side, but Solo's instincts kick in and he starts dodging the first wave of attacks. He quickly realizes there's a never-ending swarm of these things, and he's starting to get the picture of what this is. He pulls up his assassin's hood, deciding he's dealt with plenty of difficult clients like this before. He figures this is just a little test to see if he's actually as good as his reputation says he is. He activates Unbreaking Dawn, and suddenly the space behind him is filled with dozens of magical swords. And he calls out Witch's Arsenal, ready to end this little game in a single move. A massive slash tears through the room, obliterating the monsters while Solo just stands there, making sure he doesn't get dirty. In a blink of an eye, the entire horde is shredded to pieces, and Solo casually notes that he got every single one of them. The dark, monster-filled void vanishes, replaced by a beautiful, sunny field of white roses. Solo looks toward the tea table, where a mysterious figure is waiting for him. A woman with her face hidden by a magical shadow welcomes him, addressing him by his codename, Number 0. She introduces herself as Rose, the one from the Department of Magic who personally requested this mission. Solo takes his seat, noticing that she's using some high-level magic to keep her identity secret. Ibuki shows up to serve more tea, and Rose commends Solo for passing her skill test so flawlessly. She's genuinely impressed, Most wizards can only make a few weapons at a time, but Solo wiped out her entire army in one shot. Solo tries to cut through the small talk, telling her he didn't show up just to be buttered up with praise. Rose, her face still hidden by that magical shadow, gets straight to the point. She wants him to kill the worst possible future. He looks completely baffled. He's a professional killer, not a miracle worker, and playing teacher doesn't seem like part of the job. Rose just brushes off his confusion, telling him he's doing excellent work so far. Solo is sweating, feeling like he's being pushed into something way bigger than he expected. She gestures toward a wall filled with different paintings, and things are about to get a lot more serious. She starts pointing out familiar places, the school, the capital where she lives. Everything looks peaceful and normal in these precognition paintings. But then the mood shifts as she shows him a painting of the country falling into total ruin a few years from now. Solo's eyes go wide when he sees the source of the destruction, a group called the 12 Evil Wizards. Rose explains that the wizard who draws these paintings can see the future as clearly as a photograph. In one of the frames, Solo recognizes a familiar face. It's Maiko Cecilia, but she's all grown up and looks like she's just walked through hell. It turns out every single one of those 12 legendary villains are the current students of his very own Class 2D. Rose admits the magic isn't perfect. They can only see fragments of what's coming, not the whole story. She explains that for years, the government has used these visions to quietly eliminate threats before they ever become a problem. They call it egg smashing, killing potential villains while they're still harmless kids so the country stays safe. Solo finally understands the dark truth. His original mission to assassinate Class D was just another round of egg smashing. But then Rose reveals something impossible. There's been a major glitch in the prophecy. She shows him a new painting where the destruction has vanished, and Maiko is nowhere to be found among the villains. She points right at Solo and tells him that he's the one who single-handedly changed her destiny. Solo's stunned, thinking back to the moment he decided to save her instead of taking her out. Rose then shows him another painting of a classroom labeled 3D, representing school 1 year into the future. The room is completely empty, and Solo asks the obvious question. Does that mean everyone is gone? Rose confirms it. In the original timeline, every single student in Class D was destined to drop out and disappear. And in that timeline, it would go on to become the monsters that destroy everything. But in the new future Solo created, Maiko didn't drop out. She's still there a year later, sitting in her seat with a smile. Rose's theory is simple. If the students stay in school, they'll never turn into the evil wizards. Because Solo stepped in during Maiko's dragon rampage, she didn't lose hope and drop out, which effectively saved the future. She tells him she's never seen anything like this before. He changed the world without having to kill a single person. So her new request is this. Stop the rest of the students from dropping out, and you'll kill the villains of the future before they're even born. Solo thinks the whole thing is absolutely absurd. He's a legendary assassin being asked to act like a guidance counselor. Rose just laughs, pointing out that as their teacher, he's in the best possible spot to keep them from falling off the deep end. She tells him he can constantly monitor and manage their lives, but Solo's just looking at her like she's lost her mind. The bookie finally pipes up, asking if there's really no other way to handle the situation. Rose admits they could just go back to the old way. There are too many variables this time, and egg smashing might not be the best move. And she lets her guard down for a second, admitting that she actually doesn't want to kill those kids if she can avoid it. Both Solo and Ibuki look surprised to hear a high-ranking official sound so human. She says she's always struggled with the idea that the only way to protect the country is by getting her hands dirty with children's lives. She wants to try this new path, protecting both the kids and country's future at the same time. She mentions how Solo's own report said he couldn't kill a blameless child, and it seems she shares that sentiment. But she leaves him with a chilling warning. The survival of Class D is now entirely his responsibility. If he can't stop them from dropping out, she'll be forced to go back to the original plan and wipe every single one of them off the face of the earth. Rose breaks the news. The order to take out Class D is officially on ice. Solo can't wrap his head around it. The higher-ups are actually pausing the hit. Before he can ask any follow-up questions, Rose vanishes into a cloud of smoke. She'll leave him stuck with Ibuki, who's supposed to be his new partner in this mess. A sudden magical force sweeps Solo off his feet as the secret meeting room dissolves. Rose's last warning hangs in the air. Break the contract, and there will be consequences. She isn't kidding either. If he fails, she's going to dismantle his entire guild. The petals settle, and Solo finds himself standing alone in the empty courtyard. He ends up back in his room, collapsing onto the floor from sheer mental exhaustion. Face planted on a rug, Solo realizes just how deep of a hole he's in. Ibuki tries to check on him, but Solo is too busy worrying about his guild getting crushed. He finally looks up and tells Ibuki that if they're going to pull this off, they have to do it together. Ibuki's eyes practically turn into stars at the thought of working with his idol. Solo, on the other hand, is significantly less enthusiastic about the whole arrangement. Ibuki goes full soldier mode, claiming he's just a tool for the mission with zero personal feelings. Solo finds it hard to believe Rose actually cares about these kids, regardless of what she says. Then Ibuki drops a bomb. He's perfectly willing to kill every one of them if the plan fails. He even says he respects Solo's soft heart, which just makes the teacher feel even more awkward. Their heavy conversation is cut short by a loud knock at the door. Solo and Ibuki look up to find a group of students standing right there. They're only there for Ibuki, though, completely ignoring Solo like he's part of the furniture. The legendary assassin watches helplessly as his partner gets kidnapped by his own students. It turns out the whole class was waiting outside to throw Ibuki a proper welcome. They've got a whole picnic spread set up under a tree, just a new guy. Kai starts things off by offering up some homemade cookies he baked himself. Azu isn't far behind, shoving a bottle of her special beauty potion in his face. Dante tells him to watch out, since Azu is notorious for using people as guinea pigs. Suddenly, it's a free-for-all of everyone trying to give Ibuki their tokens of friendship. The kid is quickly losing a fight against a mountain of random gifts. Even Miko Cecilia gets in on the action, handing over her favorite bottle of nail polish. She gives him a wink and says everyone in the class really wants to be his friend. Watching from a distance, Solo tries to keep his guard up, remembering these kids are targets. The students laugh and joke about how having their boring teacher around would just ruin fun. They talk about Solo like he's a total pushover who doesn't even realize they're making fun of him. Ibuki clearly isn't enjoying the trash talk, but he stays quiet as the party continues. Solo sits on the balcony above them, listening to the very people he might have to kill. He stares at his hand, the weight of the mission starting to feel much heavier than any blade. He tells himself he's only doing this for his own survival, not for the sake of the kids. As far as he's concerned, they're just a bunch of annoying brats he has to manage. But then he looks at the pile of gifts, the cookies, the potion, even the nail polish. He realizes they must have spent the whole morning getting everything ready for Ibuki. His thoughts are interrupted when the class teacher shows up to ruin the mood. Solo meets with the vice principal, who thanks him for being such a great buffer. After all, having failing students around makes everyone else look better. Solo tries to keep his cool, but it's clear the school just sees his class as a dumping ground for losers. The guy's twisted logic makes Solo sick. He actually thinks looking down on others brings peace of mind. Later, Toturi brings over a token of friendship, a special fire poppy she's been trying to grow. She explains that it's a rare flower that only blooms with magic, and she's determined to make it work. The other students whisper that it's an impossible task for someone Class D. The Class B teacher laughs, mocking them for even trying such an advanced magic assignment. Solo watches as Toturi prepares to cast her spell, her face full of determination. A bright light suddenly erupts from the flower as Toturi swings her wand. The plant begins to shake and glow, far beyond what anyone expected. The flower explodes into a massive, shimmering display of light that fills the entire area. The Class B teacher is left speechless, unable to believe a dropout could produce such powerful magic. The students celebrate their first real victory, cheering for Toturi's incredible success. Toturi is over the moon, her hard work finally paying off in front of everyone. Later that night, Ibuki is struggling to carry the mountain of gifts the students gave him. He complains about the extra junk, but Solo can tell he's secretly touched by the gesture. Ibuki confronts Solo, asking if that spectacular flower display was actually his doing. Solo tries to play it off, claiming he just wanted to shut the annoying teacher up for a bit. Ibuki is impressed, realizing Solo used a high-level stealth technique to cast a magic through the student. Suddenly, Miko Cecilia appears from the shadows, surprising both of them. She confirms her suspicions. Solo isn't the boring, plain teacher he pretends to be. Miko admits she never actually saw Toturi succeed at casting that spell before. Solo starts to sweat, realizing his secret might be out sooner than he planned. Miko thanks him, admitting that his thoughtfulness really saved the mood for the whole class. She mentions how crushed Toturi would have been if she had failed in front of the other teacher. She spins around and heads off, leaving Solo and Ibuki alone in the hallway. Solo tells Ibuki to get used to the disrespect, since it's all part of their cover. He looks at the prophecy paintings in his mind, knowing these kids are destined for darkness. He reminds Ibuki that their real job is to make sure nobody drops out Class D. Ibuki asks if any other students have been flagged for bad grades or behavior recently. The school looms over them, a massive place full of potential problems for the assassin-turned-teacher. Solo realizes he spent so much time worrying about the targets that he didn't actually look into the individual students. Miko suddenly comes running back, looking completely panicked. She asks if what everyone is saying about Xiao is true. Solo is confused. He doesn't even recognize the name Xiao Shahar. Miko is shocked that their own teacher forgot one of his students. Solo realizes Xiao hasn't shown up to class even once since he took over. Xiao Shahar, student number 01, is a complete mystery to him. And then the bombshell drops. The class president is about to be expelled. Solo and Ibuki are left stunned, facing their first major crisis in the mission. The school bell rings through the quiet grounds of Orion. Someone is busy scratching a cat behind the ears, and a little guy seems to be loving every second of it. It's Xiao Shahar, the class president who never actually makes it to class. He looks pretty bored for someone currently playing truant. A soft voice whispers to this guy, "I miss you." Meanwhile, Solo walks through the grand halls with his assistant Ibuki and their classmate Miko. They stop by the fountain, trying to figure out their next move. Solo is playing the part of the happy-go-lucky teacher perfectly, laughing off Ibuki's serious attitude. Maiko comes running up, looking like she just heard some bad news. Turns out, the vice principal is considering expelling Xiao Shahar for skipping too many classes. Maiko is upset by the news, while Solo tries to keep a straight face despite the setback. Solo's job is to keep these kids from dropping out and turning evil. Ibuki asks what kind of person this Xiao guy even is. Xiao is student number 1, the top of the food chain in Class D, even if he's never there. Maiko explains that Xiao hasn't shown up for a single class since the school year started. Solo and Ibuki exchange a private look. Ibuki uses magic to keep their conversation hidden from Maiko. Solo decides they need to find Xiao and talk some sense into him. Maiko is all for it, her eyes lighting up at the idea. Solo wonders if he's taking this teacher gig a bit too seriously for a world-class assassin. Maiko jumps in, insisting she wants to help for Xiao's sake. Ibuki asks why a transfer student like her cares so much. Maiko gets flustered and says it's her duty as a classmate. Ibuki puts on a smug grin and claims his dream is to become a teacher himself, so he wants to watch Solo work. Maiko buys the lie, while Solo just smiles through the cringe. He tells Maiko they'd really appreciate her help since they don't know Xiao. The second Maiko turns back, Solo's smile drops. He thinks Ibuki is a brat, and Ibuki asks how long he's going to keep up the kind teacher act. Solo tells him it's better for the cover if he stays in character, especially since people already look down on them. He tells Ibuki to try and fit in with the rest of Class D instead of acting like he's above everyone. Ibuki isn't a fan of the idea. He'd rather just complete the mission than make friends with the targets. He admits, a bit awkwardly, that he's never actually had a friend before. Since he was trained as an assassin from a young age, the concept of hanging out is completely foreign to him. Solo is a bit surprised by the honesty. They catch up to Maiko, who is ready to give it her all. Solo just hopes they can find the kid before the future goes off the rails. The search begins, as they weave through the crowds of students in the main halls. They check the library and a garden, asking everyone to see if they've spotted the class president. But after hours of searching, there's no sign of him. The mood starts to get a little gloomy. Maiko points out that students aren't even allowed to leave campus on weekdays, so he has to be around here somewhere. She's seen him wandering the grounds before, acting like he owns the place. It's a big school, though Orion has been standing for 300 years, and it's full of hiding spots. Maiko explains how the ranking system works. Your student number tells everyone exactly how good your grades are. Xiao is number 1 because he had the best scores in the entire year, despite his attitude. Ibuki likes the sound of a system based entirely on merit. Then Maiko realizes Ibuki is number 13, the very bottom of the list. Ibuki quickly blames it on being a transfer student. It's weird. A genius like Xiao should be in class, and not stuck with the failures in Class D. Solo had tried asking the other teachers about him, but nobody seems to know anything about the kid's personal life. Suddenly, Maiko stops and points. She's finally spotted him. They see Xiao in the distance, but he's not alone. It looks like he's caught in the middle of a fight. A group of third-year students has him cornered, claiming he bumped into them and got their uniforms dirty. Xiao gives a half-hearted apology, but the upperclassmen aren't interested in making peace. They pull out a wand, ready to teach him a lesson. Earth snakes. The ground erupts, and massive stone serpents lash out at the bullies. Solo watches from the sidelines, sweating bullets. He knows that if this fight continues, Xiao will get expelled before he can even start his mission. Maiko doesn't seem surprised at all. She points out that Xiao is the top-ranked student in their class, regardless of his behavior. Xiao just smirks at the upperclassmen. Did you really think I meant I was only number 1 in Class D? He leaps in the air, his cape fluttering as he prepares his next spell, Lull of Venus. It turned out he was the top student in the entire school during his first year. A massive explosion of rock and debris follows, completely overwhelming the third years. Maiko explains that some ordinary upperclassmen never stood a chance. Xiao only ended up in Class D after some major incident back then. As the dust settles, Xiao lands gracefully. Solo and Maiko can only watch in silence as the kid stands over the defeated bullies. Solo realizes that a genius ending up in a failure class usually means the kid is a real problem child. Xiao spots Maiko and breaks into a huge grin. Jo, Miiko. It's been a while. The cheerful greeting is such a contrast to his previous coldness that Solo and Ibuki are left completely confused. Solo clears his throat and steps forward to introduce himself as the new homeroom teacher. Xiao looks him up and down, clearly unimpressed. The kid suddenly panics, realizing he completely forgot to introduce himself in all the excitement. My name is Xiao. Nice to meet you, Mr. Solo. He's surprisingly polite, though he still can't believe Solo is actually a teacher. Solo whispers to himself, wondering if the kid might actually be a nice guy after all. Xiao's attention quickly shifts to Ibuki, who is standing nearby with his usual straight face. He gives Ibuki a friendly pat on the back, saying he seems like a cool guy. It's the first time they've ever met. To break the ice, Xiao pulls out a picture of a cat. This is for my kitty photo collection. Ibuki just stares at it, saying he prefers dogs. Solo can already tell that Xiao is getting on Ibuki's nerves. Maiko, meanwhile, is just staring at Xiao in disbelief. Xiao doesn't miss a beat and brings up the rumors. More importantly, what's this about me dropping out? He admits that if he cuts class anymore, the school is definitely going to expel him. Solo puts on his best encouraging teacher face, asking Xiao if there's any reason he can't come to class so they can solve it together. Xiao just laughs. Aren't you passionate, Mr. Solo? He finds his sudden concern a bit unexpected. He sits down on the stairs and confesses that he's just been playing hooky on his own. Even so, I'm fine with dropping out. The blunt admission leaves Maiko and Solo completely stunned. Xiao looks away, his expression turning cold. After all, school is boring. He clarifies that he doesn't hate Class D, but the lessons themselves are just a waste of his time. None of the teachers here teach what I want to learn. His eye narrows as he says that staying at Orion School of Magic has no meaning for him anymore. Solo doesn't back down. He looks Xiao in the eye and asks what magic he actually wants to learn. Xiao explains that he's looking for some incredibly difficult magic that isn't found in any textbook or library. He claims that not even the principal or the vice principal know how to use it. Maiko and Ibuki look like they can't believe what they're hearing. Solo doesn't skip a beat. He beams at Xiao and offers a deal. If I can teach you that magic, will you promise to come to class? Xiao is skeptical. He asks Solo if he's really more than just some new faculty member who thinks he knows everything. Maiko and Ibuki are frozen in shock, wondering what Solo is even thinking. Xiao lets out a loud laugh. You're pretty pushy, Teach, even though you look so plain on the outside. He decides to give Solo a chance and tells them all to follow him. They trek deep into the woods until they come across a small grave. Solo asks what they're looking at. Xiao explains it's the grave of an old cat named Anpan who died a few months ago. The playful delinquent is gone, replaced by someone with a very heavy secret. Xiao looks Solo right in the eye. Teach me the magic to bring friends back from the dead. Ibuki is the first to snap, shouting in disbelief. What on earth are you saying? Xiao just tells him to pipe down. The magic to bring back the dead is one of the 3 great magic taboos. The revelation hangs in the air, weighted with danger. Such magic is strictly forbidden by law. Ibuki tries to talk sense into Xiao, reminding him that even learning about such taboos is prohibited and controlled by the government. Xiao just brushes him off, calling him too serious. Xiao looks at Solo with a mixture of hope and skepticism. He's certain that a mere school instructor couldn't possibly possess such forbidden knowledge. I know, right? Xiao lets out a hollow laugh, his grin not reaching his eyes. He admits he was just asking, knowing full well what the answer would likely be. He turns away from them, looking back at the small grave one last time. To him, there's no reason to stay at a school that can't give him what he truly desires. So I'll go ahead and quit school. Okay then, Teach. With a casual wave, Xiao starts walking away, seemingly finished with the conversation. Maiko calls out to him, but Xiao doesn't stop. Ibuki watches him go, his expression grim. He warns Solo that the boy is dangerous. Solo remains silent, his gaze fixed on Xiao's retreating figure. Ibuki realizes that while Maiko might become a problem, someone like Xiao, who is actively seeking the ultimate taboos, is on a whole different level. Solo suddenly speaks up, his voice calm and steady. How about it then? Would you like to resurrect your friend with me? Xiao stops his tracks, his single visible eye widening in shock. Xiao and Maiko stare at Solo, stunned by his bold claim. Ibuki looks at his master, wondering what kind of game he is playing now. Solo just gives him a small, unreadable smile. Ibuki's mind begins to race. He knows Solo isn't just an excellent wizard with incredible magic power. He's an excellent assassin, whose reputation precedes him. He recalls the witch's arsenal magic Solo showed them earlier. While it's a common offensive type, Ibuki is certain that Solo is hiding far more power than he lets on. He is a man of deep, dangerous secrets. Ibuki's mind is racing. Even if this guy is a legendary assassin, how could he possibly know about the forbidden magic taboos? Solo just flashes a grin. He tells Xiao that teaching this kind of thing is exactly what a teacher is supposed to do. The group heads out to a place called Torial 2. It's the closest major town to the school, making it the go-to spot for the students. Maiko is having the time of her life, practically skipping through the streets while Xiao and Ibuki follow behind. Ibuki, on the other hand, is still on edge about this whole extracurricular lesson. The town is packed and full of energy, exactly what you'd expect from a place like this. Solo puts on his best fake happy teacher face and reminds them they're not just here to play around. But the students immediately get distracted, with Xiao playing with cats and Maiko eyeing some new jewelry. Ibuki looks like he's already over the day. He pulls Solo aside, asking if he's seriously going to teach a taboo to a kid who's destined to become a major villain. He's terrified that giving Xiao this kind of knowledge is just asking for disaster. Solo drops the act for a second, coldly stating that he doesn't care about the nation's future since he lives in a world where he could die any day. Her response leaves Ibuki completely speechless. Xiao suddenly sneaks up on them, and Solo immediately snaps back into his cheerful persona. Xiao just laughs it off, acting like they're all best friends now. Ibuki is having none of it, since they definitely weren't friends 5 minutes ago. He wonders why Xiao even bothered tagging along while Maiko gets lost in a perfume shop. To get down to business, as Solo explains, they need a bunch of specific magical materials for this ritual. They start browsing through the local shops looking for supplies. Xiao is genuinely hyped about the idea of bringing things back to life, but Solo makes him promise to actually show up to class first. Solo leans in and whispers that he's got a plan. Next thing you know, Ibuki is stuck carrying a mountain of bags because Maiko went overboard. They manage to gather the goods, flower crystals, ogre eyes, and special tree fruits. Xiao and Ibuki figure that should be everything on the shopping list. Maiko is totally wiped out, and Solo wanders off to prepare himself, which sounds suspicious. Ibuki finds it weird that they found all these supposedly taboo ingredients so easily in a normal shop. Maiko is starting to have her doubts too, wondering if this random junk can really resurrect a cat. Ibuki knows the 3 great taboos are world-ending levels of dangerous. Xiao agrees, knowing it's not something to take lightly. He starts imagining some super complex, dark ritual, but Maiko thinks he's way too chill about the whole thing. She's worried they're going to get raided by the magic police for even trying this. Xiao gets a serious look in his eye and asks Maiko if she honestly believes the teacher is going to follow through. Maiko is stunned and asks why he even came if he thought the teacher was lying. Xiao admits he just thought the whole situation seemed interesting. He figures if Solo actually does it, then it's a total win. Maiko can't believe he's taking this chance after hating teachers for so long. Xiao teases her, asking if she's starting to like the guy, which Maiko finds absolutely disgusting. She finds Solo's constant smiling way too creepy to be normal. As far as she's concerned, he's just a bad teacher. Solo finally shows back up, grinning as usual. His big preparation was just buying a bottle of booze. He tells the group they need to find a place where they won't be spotted. He points them north of town, toward a cavern with a lot of water. Solo leans in with a devious grin, saying it's finally time to start their little practicum on forbidden magic. They arrive at the Torialta Caverns, a secluded spot that's perfect for doing things they shouldn't be doing. Inside, the cavern is flooded, but Solo's magic lets everyone stand right on the surface of the water. Miko is practically bouncing, amazed she can walk on water, but Solo warns her to stay still or she'll sink. Ibuki is definitely not having fun, worried that even resurrecting a cat is a massive crime they'll get arrested for. Solo just gives him a cold look and says they'll be fine as long as they don't get caught. He gets right to work, telling the students to offer up the ingredients they bought in a specific order. He reveals the name of this ancient resurrection magic, Witches' Reunion. Solo explains that witches were an ancient tribe with way more power than any modern human wizard. He tells a story about a grieving witch who created this spell just to see a loved one again. Miko nods, having heard the legends. Xiao looks down, clearly thinking about someone he's lost. Solo says that in witch culture, the dead were buried at sea, and this ritual uses the traces of that old magic. He finishes pouring the alcohol into the water and tells Xiao that the rest of the spell is entirely in his hands. He explains that only someone with an incredibly strong desire to see the dead can make this ritual actually work. Xiao pulls out a ribbon he had tied to his pet cat, Anpan, using it as the physical link for the soul. Solo tells him to offer it up, promising he can have it back once they're done. He tells Xiao to chant the spell while picturing the one he wants to see, their face, their voice, and their name. Xiao focuses with everything he's got, desperately wishing for a return he's been hoping for forever. Lets it rip, shouting, "Lull of Venus," as his eyes glow with power. A massive explosion of energy erupts, sending water flying and leaving Miko and Ibuki completely stunned. In the middle of the mess, a tiny glowing light starts to flicker above the water. Solo is genuinely impressed, telling Xiao he successfully summoned the soul of the departed. He pulls out a box with a sleeping cat inside and tells Xiao there's just one more thing to do. Xiao's face goes pale when the realization hits. The soul needs a fresh body to live in. Solo explains that they need a sacrifice with a similar body to the one they're bringing back. Miko is horrified when she realizes Solo snatched the cat Xiao was playing with in town just to use it as a sacrifice. Solo hands Xiao a dagger and tells him he has to be the one to kill the cat, or the spell won't work. Ibuki looks ready to snap. Solo just laughs at them, asking why they're so shocked that forbidden magic has such a dark price. He stares Xiao down, telling him this is what resurrection magic actually looks like. Xiao is sweating, frozen with hesitation as Solo tells him to just go for it. Solo explains that while the ritual is simple, it's exactly why it was banned. Most humans just aren't strong enough to handle it. He baits Xiao, reminding him he used to be the top student and telling him to show them what he's really got. Miko screams for him to stop, arguing that if even top wizards find this hard, there's no way a student can do it. Solo just laughs her off, saying he only promised to teach them magic, not make sure Xiao could actually pull it off. Xiao grits his teeth, his hands shaking as he holds the knife over the sleeping cat. Solo keeps leaning in, asking Xiao if he's really going to back out after coming this far to see his friend. He pulls out a teaching manual and jokes that a teacher's job is just to provide the lessons, not do the work for the kids. Ibuki has seen enough and rushes forward to stop Xiao before he does something he'll regret. Xiao looks down at the cat and softly mentions that cats hate water, worrying that it'll be scared when it wakes up. The ritual comes to a grinding halt as they stand in the quiet cavern. Ibuki demands to know if Solo knew this was how it would end up, and Solo admits that he pretty much did. He's livid, asking Solo what he would have done if Xiao actually killed the cat, but Solo just casually says that success wasn't even possible. Solo points out that Xiao's kind nature was obvious when he took them to his pet's grave, and there was no way he would ever actually kill Cat. Ibuki is confused, questioning why Solo would even bother teaching the spell if it wouldn't result in the cat being resurrected. Solo shrugged it off, arguing that the deal was simply to teach them magic, so his part of the bargain is already fulfilled. He smiles, thinking the request is much simpler than expected since the actual result of the magic doesn't even matter to him. Ibuki has a bad feeling that Xiao isn't going to show up to class after being pushed this far. Solo is genuinely shocked by the thought. Solo starts yelling about how this is a professional job and that he's completed his side of the contract, so he expects his payment. As they walk back towards the cave entrance, Solo starts to realize that dealing with a child isn't as straightforward as a business contract. Xiao suddenly speaks up, catching everyone off guard as Solo tells Ibuki to stop grabbing his shoulder. Xiao looks down with a grim, intense expression, asking if he can pose just one more question. He asks if the sacrifice has to be something closely related to the person he's trying to bring back from the dead. Xiao reveals that the person he truly wants to resurrect was a boy just like him, same age, and even a bit shorter. Solo is taken back, confused about where Xiao is going with this line of questioning. Xiao clarifies that the spell he wanted to learn wasn't for his cat, but for a human friend he lost. He holds up the ribbon, revealing that it actually belonged to his friend who died only a year ago. In a sudden, terrifying move, Xiao holds his dagger to Ibuki's throat and asks if he can use him as the sacrifice instead. Solo breaks into a cold sweat, realizing that this brat might actually be a lot more dangerous than he anticipated. Zhao's got Ibuki in a chokehold, casually wondering if he should just use him as the sacrifice right now. Ibuki isn't even flinching, but Zhao's looking like he's ready to pull the trigger on the ritual. Maiko finally pieces it together. The friend Zhao's trying to bring back has been dead for an entire year. Solo's hanging back, trying to figure out how to shut this down without getting Xiao expelled for good. Xiao isn't having it. He snaps at the teacher, telling him to just shut up and watch what he can do. Solo's actually surprised. Usually, his students don't get this bold with him. The teacher realizes he might have struck a nerve, but it's too late. Zhao's magic is starting to redline. Zhao is convinced he's got this, completely losing himself in the power of the forbidden spell. Suddenly, a massive water golem explodes out of the ritual circle, and Maiko straight up loses it. The thing slams its fist down, sending a massive wave through the room while Solo stands his ground. Solo identifies the monster as a golem, a mindless pile of magic sludge that's starving for a sacrifice. He realizes Xiao has entered a magic trance, just like the dragon incident with Maiko earlier. The raw power coming off the kid is insane, and Solo knows he has to be careful with his next move. Zhao's eye starts glowing with a weird star pattern as his body begins to strain under the pressure. The golem lets out a roar, demanding its payment to complete the contract. The whole place erupts as the magic water goes completely out of control. The flood carries Ibuki and Maiko away. Solo stays on his feet, realizing the situation just got a lot worse. He tells Ibuki to keep the others safe while he stays behind a deal with a giant puddle by himself. Ibuki can barely believe the teacher is just going to solo a monster like that. Solo gives him a quick grin and a thumbs up, telling him he's counting on his partner. Ibuki watches him disappear into the chaos as they get sucked further into the tunnels. A while later, the three students wash up on a shore, soaked and exhausted. They've ended up in the depths, a massive underground cavern filled with glowing ruins and mushrooms. Ibuki's coughing up water, trusting that Solo won't be taken down by a simple golem. Maiko's just relieved they're still breathing, even if she's lost a robe in a flood. She asks where the hell they are, but Ibuki's just as lost as she is. Xiao is still out cold. Maiko figures he completely drained his mana tank during the ritual. Even though he's unconscious, she starts giving him a piece of her mind for almost getting him killed. Once she calms down, Ibuki asks the question on his mind. Who exactly is Luca? Maiko's surprised he caught that name, but she knows it's time to fill him in on the tragedy. She explains that Luca wasn't just a friend. He was Zhao's biggest rival back in the day. Both of them were the top students of their year, always buried in books and competing for first place. Maiko remembers them from their first year at Orion, along with other classmates like Azu and Dante. They weren't just nerds, though. They were actually decent guys who spent their breaks feeding the local cats. They were the kind of duo everyone thought would go far together in a magic world. But then everything went south during a magic class when a monster attacked and killed Luca on the spot. That was the day Xiao changed. He stopped showing up to class and his grades tanked. He blamed the teachers for letting it happen, and his constant outbursts eventually got him kicked down Class D. Maiko realizes he never moved on. He just went quiet so he could find a way to bring his friend back in secret. Xiao finally wakes up and tells her to pipe down. He's heard enough about his own history. Ibuki doesn't let it go, asking him straight up why he lied about the whole witches' reunion thing. Xiao just looks away, admitting he was too proud to tell the truth to a teacher he didn't even know. Xiao admits he just didn't feel like explaining himself to a teacher he'd only just met, and honestly, wanting to see his friend again wasn't a lie. Ibuki points out that his own pet died of old age, so he was able to say goodbye without any regrets, unlike Xiao. Xiao's caught off guard, finally apologizing to Ibuki while admitting he's not even sure why he tried to sacrifice him in the first place. The grief is still heavy, though. Xiao can't shake the feeling that he still has so much to talk about with Luca. Ever since they were kids, they were always together. Now that Luca's gone, School just feels completely meaningless to him. Maiko can only watch, feeling the weight of Zhao's loss as he finally lets his guard down. But Ibuki isn't here for the pity party. He looks Xiao dead in the eye and tells him his whole obsession is just plain stupid. Maiko is absolutely floored that the usually quiet Ibuki would say something that harsh. Ibuki doubles down, calling Xiao a coward for continually clinging on to someone who's already dead. He's been thinking about it, and he asks the one question Xiao never wanted to hear. Why couldn't he have prevented Luca's death himself? He points out that if Xiao had been strong enough to rescue his friend, Luca wouldn't have died in the first place. Ibuki's brutal truth bomb hit home. It wasn't the teacher's fault, it was Zhao's own lack of ability that day. He tells Xiao he's just pushing the blame on others instead of reflecting on his own weakness. Xiao loses it, screaming at Ibuki to shut up as the air around him starts to crackle with dangerous magic. Ibuki doesn't back down. He challenges Xiao to a wager right then and there. If Xiao wants to quit school so badly, then he has to fight for it. If Xiao wins, Ibuki will let himself be the sacrifice. But if Ibuki wins, Xiao has to drop the ritual and come back to class like a normal student. Ibuki pulls out his wand, admitting he actually wants to help Mr. Solo with his work. The cave explodes with magical energy as the two students prepare to clash for real. Ibuki has something personal he wants to confirm, and he's not going to hold anything back. He gives Xiao a cold smirk, asking the former #1 student if he's actually scared of losing to number 13. Maiko is losing her mind in the background, wondering why on earth these two idiots are actually trying to kill each other now. Maiko Cecilia introduces herself as student number 9 in class 2D. She's just a normal girl who mostly cares about doing her nails. She explains that they're currently in one of Mr. Solo's extracurricular lessons. The topic is the Witch's Reunion, a legendary spell meant to bring the dead back to life. But things went south fast. Xiao used that forbidden magic to summon a massive water golem, and now their teacher is nowhere to be found. Maiko runs for her life as the cavern explodes around her. She's definitely not getting paid enough for this. Meanwhile, Xiao and Ibuki are locked in a heated standoff. Both students are already exhausted, standing amidst the craters of their previous exchange. Zhao's eye glints with a strange star pattern as he prepares his next move. He whispers a command for the lull of Venus. He unleashes his Knight of the Devilish Winds, sending lethal blades of air cutting through the stone floor. Maiko cowers in the background, feeling the sheer force of magic shockwaves even from a distance. Ibuki remains calm, dodging the wind blades with ease. He admits that Xiao is pretty capable with wind magic. Xiao looks down on him, calling Ibuki's efforts nothing more than light breeze magic. Ibuki counters instantly with a massive electrical beam, blasting the ground where Xiao was standing. Maiko is at her limit, hiding behind a rock and regretting every life choice that led her here. She only came because they'd been friends since their first year. She thinks back to Solo Pastry, wondering what their teacher is actually up to while everything falls apart. She remembers a weird dream where he saved her after she'd somehow turned into a dragon. It felt strangely real. Another explosion shakes the cave, snapping her back to reality. She's worried about what to do with these two while Solo is missing in action. The duel continues, and Maiko is shocked that Ibuki can go toe-to-toe with someone as naturally talented as Xiao. Ibuki levels his wand with a cold expression. Xiao starts to realize that this guy isn't just some random transfer student. Xiao notices the way Ibuki moves. It's the posture of someone who survived real combat, not just classroom duels. Xiao grits his teeth, realizing he might actually lose this. Ibuki's electricity magic is a total nightmare to deal with. It reminds him of his old friend Luca, who also struggled against lightning. Luca was always better at earth and stone magic. He slips into a memory of them as kids, when Luca used to ask him what his dream for the future was. Back at the orphanage, Luca wanted to join the Wizard Knights just to have fun and finally get out of that place. They both looked up to the knights who fought for the country, even if the selection process was notoriously brutal. Young Xiao didn't want to be left behind, so he promised to join too. They made a competition to see who'd become the top knight. Luca smiled, telling him not to lose. They knew they'd have to study hard and save every cent to make their dream happen. Back in the present, Xiao reflects on how Luca was his greatest rival and best friend. He just wants to see that smile one more time. He knows the ritual he's performing is evil, but he doesn't care anymore. He just wants his friend back. Ibuki watches him closely, acknowledging that Zhao's raw magical power is likely even higher than his own. But something is off. Usually, a wizard's eyes sparkle like stars when they cast, but Zhao's look different. He remembers that peculiar star pattern in Zhao's eye from before. He wonders if that's the mark of a burgeoning evil wizard. Ibuki needs to be sure. He wonders if he just misjudged what he saw for a split second. He gets lost in thought about magic trances, realizing he needs to adjust his own output so he doesn't accidentally kill his classmate. Xiao doesn't give him any time to think, launching a massive boulder straight at his head. Xiao taunts him, telling Ibuki to use his electricity for Real. He's fully prepared to turn Ibuki into a sacrifice for the ritual. Ibuki just smirks at the threat. He asks if Xiao is referring to his static shock magic. The insult lands. Electricity begins to crackle violently around Ibuki as his temper flares. Xiao is taken aback by the sudden shift in pressure. Ibuki starts listing his credentials, mentioning his past in assassination unit called the Rose Garden. Ibuki lunges forward, shouting that if Xiao thinks this is just a static shock, then actual electrocution shouldn't be a problem. Xiao laughs, ready to finally get serious himself. Maiko screams for them to stop, but they're not listening. The two powers are about to collide in a massive blast of light and wind. Suddenly, Solo Pastry appears out of thin air, catching both of them by the heads mid-attack. Both students are completely shocked. He is absolutely livid. He asks what on earth they think they're doing and proceeds to slam their heads together with a satisfying thud. Maiko can only watch in terror. Solo Pastry stands between the two students, looking like he's just come back from a light stroll despite the explosions. Maiko is relieved to see him, but Xiao and Ibuki are both nursing some serious head bumps. Solo starts scolding them, especially Ibuki for not protecting the others like he was told. Ibuki tries to play it off, saying his hands just moved on their own because of all the killing intent in the air. Xiao watches them, realizing Solo isn't just some pushover teacher. He reflects on how Solo managed to stop them both so effortlessly, which really hit a nerve. Maiko is also impressed. She's never seen a teacher handle a situation like this with such ease. It's almost like he's not a normal teacher at all. She thinks about how Solo always seems a bit pathetic and clumsy at school, always smiling. But the person standing there right now is completely different. Xiao tells Solo to stay out of it. He claims Ibuki volunteered to be the sacrifice and demands they finish their match. Solo just sighs and tells Xiao that even if he wins, it's no use. The ritual is already over. He holds up a small, glowing core. He explains that this was the heart of the water golem Xiao summoned. But now, the core has returned to water, and the soul has gone back to where it belongs. The ritual failed completely. Xiao is furious, asking why Solo would do such a thing. Solo points out that if left alone, the golem would have rampaged through the nearest town looking for a body to inhabit. Solo explains that he sabotaged the ritual from the start. He swapped the alcohol Xiao bought, which he shouldn't have anyway since he's underage, with a completely different liquid using sleight of hand. Ibuki is stunned by the teacher's trickery. Solo hands Xiao back his ribbon, apologizing for not getting it to him sooner, though Xiao is hardly in the mood for apologies. Xiao realizes that Solo never had any intention of letting him succeed. He feels betrayed by the one person he thought might actually help him. He begs Solo to teach him the real magic to bring the dead back to life, desperate to see Luca again no matter what. Solo tells him it's impossible. He cites the 3 great magic taboos, wizarding rules that strictly forbid touching the realm of death. Xiao argues that the school only cares about apologies and covering things up. He's tired of hearing the same empty words from every adult he meets. He remembers how everyone told him to just embrace death and move on, like losing his best friend was something he should just grow out of. They told him it was a curse to the dead to try and bring them back, and that he needed to grow up and accept the tragedy. Xiao screams that he's heard all before. He thinks Solo is just another teacher trying to show him that his wish is impossible because he's too weak. He waits for the lecture about how bringing back the dead is wrong and bad, bracing himself for the usual teacher-like argument. But Solo just looks at him and says nah. He tells Xiao that bringing back the dead isn't really the issue here. Xiao is completely caught off guard. Even Ibuki and Maiko look like their brains just short-circuited. Solo just casually shrugs, like it's no big deal. Solo ponders for a moment, admitting that while it might be ethically wrong according to standard values, he personally thinks it's fine. He points out that humans die so easily, often for the most trivial reasons. He's seen it happen way too many times in his previous life. So, in his mind, shouldn't it be just as easy to bring them back? He looks at Xiao and says he knows all he really wants is to see his friend again. Maiko and Ibuki are speechless. This is definitely not the kind of thing a teacher is supposed to say. It's a pretty dangerous mindset for someone in his position. Solo clarifies that the witches' reunion is only bad because it requires a sacrifice. That's the part that makes it forbidden. Xiao doesn't care about being a good person. He's willing to become an evil wizard if it means he can see Luca one more time. Solo just sighs, seeing there's no helping his stubbornness. So Solo decides to make a deal. He tells Xiao that if Ibuki is okay with being a sacrifice, then he'll allow the ritual to proceed. There's a catch. Xiao only gets the final secret ingredient from Solo if he can win a fair duel against Ibuki. Solo even gives Ibuki a wink, clearly up to something. Ibuki is thrilled, feeling like the teacher is finally relying on his strength. He agrees instantly, shouting an enthusiastic, "Yes, sir." Xiao, skeptical, accepts. He figures he won't lose to someone who isn't even attending classes properly. Ibuki tells him not to underestimate him, just because he's a transfer. Solo adds that even with a sacrifice, the ritual isn't guaranteed to work if the caster is immature. He tells Xiao he needs to grow as a wizard first. And to do that, Solo tells him he should come to class and study. He even manages to trick Ibuki in hyping up his superb lessons, much to Maiko's confusion. Solo admits his lessons might not be that amazing, but it's the only path he can offer. He tells Xiao that if he ever tries to hurt an innocent person, the deal is off. Xiao's expression darkens as Solo warns him that the moment he crosses that line, he'll truly be an evil wizard. And if that happens, Solo says he'll have no choice but to kill him. Solo's gaze becomes incredibly sharp for a second, his killing intent filling the air. He asks Xiao if he really has a reason to kill, something that can justify taking a life. And just as quickly, the tension vanishes. Solo laughs it off, saying he was just kidding and that his duty as a teacher is to guide them, not kill them. Xiao is left completely shaken. Solo points out that if Xiao wants the ritual for real next time, he has to beat Ibuki. The two boys lock eyes, the rivalry officially reignited, but this time within a structured deal. Solo adds that if Xiao shows up to class, he'd really appreciate it. He starts walking away, leaving the students to process everything that just happened. Xiao remembers the teachers from the past who told him to just grow up. He looks at Solo's back, realizing this man is the first person to ever actually acknowledge his pain. A small, sad smile finally touches Xiao's lips. He lets out a soft laugh, feeling like maybe, just maybe, he can find a way forward after all. Tears stream down Xiao's face as he realizes he's never had a teacher actually say something like that to him before. It's a moment of profound realization that he's no longer alone in his grief. He looks at Solo with a mixture of awe and confusion. In reality, he understood what the other teachers were saying all along, that his wish was impossible and could never be validated. A flashback shows a young Xiao standing alone in a rainy cemetery, surrounded by silent headstones. The weight of his loneliness and world's indifference was almost too much to bear. He remembers burying his face in his hands, wishing for someone, anyone, to just listen to him and acknowledge his pain instead of telling him to move on. Back in the present, a sudden meow breaks the silence. Everyone looks over to see a large, round cat sitting in the path. Maiko and Ibuki are surprised to see it there. Solo is holding the cat, explaining that it got caught up in all the chaos from the ritual. He looks as calm as ever, while the others are still trying to process the day's events. Xiao looks thoughtful as he ponders the idea of school. He wonders what it'll be like if there'll be more people there as strong and strange as Solo and Ibuki. The group travels back on a wooden wagon, the horse plopping along the dirt road. Solo and students sit in the back, the heavy atmosphere of the morning finally starting to lift. Ibuki is excitedly talking about all the things he wants to do at school, studying, joining clubs, and learning from teachers. Xiao listens, his own resolve slowly forming. There's so much he wants to do now. Xiao looks ahead with a small, genuine smile. For the first time, he's actually looking forward to something. He's looking forward to school. Xiao remembers being an orphan with his best friend, Luca. All they had was each other, and they dreamed of making plenty of new friends together. Back in the present, Solo stands under the starry night, reflecting on the situation. Xiao calls out to him, breaking the silence. The next morning at school, the news of the recent events is already spreading among the students. To everyone's shock, Xiao actually shows up for class. His classmates can't believe he finally decided to grace them with his presence. He brushes off, telling them they're making too big of a deal out of it. He seems more relaxed now that the weight of the ritual is gone. Solo watches him from a distance, looking completely drained. Maiko Cecilia notices his exhaustion and wonders if he's okay. Solo admits to himself that he really thought things would be settled once he taught Xiao that ritual. But he's realized there are still 10 more students he has to worry about. Ibuki warns Xiao not to get cocky, reminding him that losing could mean a messy end. Xiao just laughs it off, confident he won't lose to anyone. Watching them, Solo recognizes that Xiao definitely has the talent to become a powerful wizard. Xiao shouts a loud good morning to everyone, acting like his usual self again. Meanwhile, Solo is still trying to figure out the deal with Xiao's strange eyes. Xiao throws an arm around Ibuki's shoulder, acting all buddy-buddy. Ibuki isn't having it and tells him to back off. Solo's attention shifts to Ibuki. You get the feeling that this transfer student is hiding something much bigger than he let on. He pulls Ibuki aside to ask about his background and why his grades were so bad before. Ibuki tries to play it cool, but the sweat on his face tells a different story. Solo just flashes a bright, fake smile and tells him that adults have their secrets. It's clear he's not pushing for answers yet, but he's watching. As he walks away, Solo reminds himself to be more careful about what he reveals. He knows he's already gone a bit too far with his display of power. Xiao catches up to him, wearing a genuine smile. He thanks Solo for bringing him back to Class D. Eva tries to thank Ibuki, who just looks incredibly confused by the sudden change in attitude. Xiao explains that since Luca died, everyone has been treating him like he's fragile. He appreciates that Solo treated him normally. He lets out a loud, carefree laugh. For the first time in a long while, he actually looks happy. The school bell rings, and Miko stops by to remind Xiao about their upcoming training session during the break. Xiao apologizes for all the trouble he caused. He seems ready to accept what happened to Luca and actually try to move forward with the class. Solo listens, understanding exactly what the kid is going through. He knows those words of apology aren't just empty talk. Maiko chirps in, betting that Xiao and Ibuki are going to be best friends in no time. Ibuki just stares off into space, clearly not convinced. Looking back at their fight, Solo realizes that even in the heat of battle, Xiao looked like he was actually having fun. A small, subtle smile plays on Solo's lips as he watches his students interact. A few days pass, and life at the Orion School of Magic seems to have returned to some kind of normal. However, a new message arrives from the Department of Magic. It seems Solo managed to change Xiao's trajectory, but his job is far from over. A dark reminder of his true identity flashes through his mind. Number 0. The elite assassin from the Guild Kronos. This legendary killer has one massive weakness that he can never let anyone find out about. He has a pathologically weak constitution. The stress of mission has finally caught up to him, leaving him bedridden and miserable. Solo lies in his messy dorm room, looking like death warmed over. Beside him sits a book on how to be an instructor, highlighting how much of a struggle this teaching gig really is. He's got a legit fever and can barely keep his eyes open. The transition from assassin to teacher is clearly taking its toll. He groans, frustrated that he can't even use magic to help himself when he's this sick. At least it's his day off. He thinks back on the past month since he infiltrated the school. The fatigue from dealing with all these problematic kids has been piling up. He just wants to be left alone to rot his room today. No students, no magic, just peace. He stares at the Class 2D file. His actual mission is to stop every single one of these 12 students from dropping out and becoming evil wizards. He views each student as a lock, and he needs to find the specific keys to their hearts to keep them on the right path. His head starts spinning, just thinking about the work ahead. If it was just about grades, it would be easy, but these kids have real baggage. He knows that if he fails this mission, the Kronos Guild will be the first ones to come for his head. He doesn't really have a choice but to succeed. Memories of his childhood in the guild start to resurface. He was just a kid when he started this life of killing. In a flashback, a young Solo reports his latest successful hit over the phone. Even back then, he was a cold, efficient tool for the organization. His boss informs him that he's been promoted to number 19. The young boy looks out at the night sky, already trapped in a cycle of violence he never asked for. Back in his guild days as a kid, Solo, then known as number 24, stops by a bakery. The baker hands him his usual treat, noting he seems to be in a particularly good mood. With a smug grin, he corrects the man, announcing he's no longer number 24, but has been promoted to number 19. He even takes a playful jab at number 21, apologizing for overtaking him so quickly. The baker warns him not to get too cocky, but Solo is too busy enjoying his success. It's hard to believe it's already been almost 10 years since he joined. The old man remembers when Solo first arrived at the guild, a time when things were very different for the young boy. Solo reflects on how long he's been in this life. He's been around since he was only 6 or 7, an age when most kids are just starting school. He remembers being abandoned by his parents and left for dead. If the guild hadn't recognized his talent as a wizard and picked him up, he wouldn't be here today. That's the simple reason he joined the guild. He liked the work, and for a kid with nothing, it gave him a sense of purpose. The sound of the telephone was his favorite thing because it meant the boss valued his work. For the first time in his life, he felt seen. To him, the guild wasn't just a job. It was the only place he felt he truly belonged. His elders were always there to remind him that they were just chess pieces to the boss. He was free to work for whatever reason he wanted, but he was still just a tool. His life wasn't all assassinations and glory, though. Even as a top-tier kid killer, he was constantly coming down with colds due to his fragile body. Back in the present, Solo groans as he lies in bed, feeling another fever coming on. His body really hasn't changed much since he was a kid. He wakes up from the dream of his past, wondering if he really used to be such a cocky brat. The room's quiet, but his mind is racing. He thinks about Kronos, the guild founded to do away with evil by any means necessary. It's a dark legacy he's still tied to. He tells himself that stopping a kid from Class D from dropping out is strictly for his own sake. He's pretending to be a teacher for the sake of the guild. His train of thought is interrupted by a sound at the door. He isn't expecting visitors, especially not while he's sick. Outside, a group of students is trying to figure out if they found the right room. They're being anything but quiet. The door slams open, and Xiao, Maiko, and a bookie burst in with way too much energy. They come to check on their sick teacher. Solo is less than thrilled to have his quiet day off ruined. Maiko is impressed that he has a private room, but she's quickly horrified by the absolute mess he lives in. Solo tries to shoo them away so they don't catch his cold, but they're not listening. Xiao presents a get-well gift while a bookie judges Solo's all-black wardrobe. The bookie runs a finger over a shelf and is disgusted by the layer of dust. He can't believe Solo hasn't cleaned for at least a month. He decides to take matters into his own hands, declaring that he'll erase every last speck of grime from the room. He's like an old-fashioned mother-in-law on mission. Solo is practically begging him to leave, but Maiko just thinks he's being mean. They came all this way to worry about him, after all. Seeing their genuine concern, Solo finds himself slipping back into his kind teacher role, even if it's just an act. They set out the gifts they brought, a delicious-looking assortment of sweets and treats. Maiko explains that Kai, student number 06, has been practicing his baking and sent these along. It's a thoughtful gift from the whole class. Solo stares at an egg tart, surprised that even someone like him, the cold number 0, can have favorite foods. The students encourage him to eat up so he can get better and come back to school tomorrow. Their cheerfulness is a bit overwhelming. Even a bookie joins in, though he acts like he doesn't care what he eats. Solo settles on a slice of shortcake, looking a bit bewildered by the situation. As he eats, Solo realizes he isn't used to this. In the guild, he always ate alone or with cold colleagues who were just as detached as him. Having people actually look after him is a completely new sensation. He remembers the bright faces of students and their hope that he could be a good teacher. He can't understand why they would say things like that to him. He takes a bite and has to admit, it's actually really good. A strange, warm feeling starts to grow in his chest. It's something he's never felt before, and it's a little bit scary. He tries to brush it off, telling himself it's gross to eat food other people have touched. But his own internal laughter tells a different story. Before they leave, Mako mentions that there's something important she needs to ask him. She's noticed that he seems to genuinely want everyone in Class D to succeed. Solo tries to play it off as just doing his job as an instructor. But then she drops the bombshell. The midterm exams are coming up soon. She wants to know if he has planned to help him pass. Ibuki and Xiao explain stakes. At this school, failing the midterms can lead to repeating a year, or, even worse, immediate expulsion. The maniacal midterms are the first major hurdle for the students each year. They're notorious for being incredibly difficult. The reputation of Class 2D makes it even worse. Every single year, at least one student from their class ends up dropping out because of these tests. In the quiet of the classroom, the sharp sound of a snapping pen echoes through the room. Katlia has broken yet another one, a physical sign of the intense pressure she's putting herself under. Katlia, student number 02, looks down at her broken tool with a weary sigh. Below her, Panny, student number 04, is in a much better mood, hidden behind his cat mask as he gushes over a photo from the day before. Rex, student number 03, keeps his gaze focused and determined, seemingly unbothered by the noise. Beside him, Azu, student number 05, flashes a sly smile as she tries to convince Kai to use one of her mysterious magic potions as a secret ingredient in his baking. Kai, student number 06, politely declines the suspicious offer, wanting to rely on his own natural skills to make his food delicious. Below them, Nanato, student number 07, mumbles about his terrible luck, having managed to catch his finger in a door once again. Dante, student number 08, let out a long yawn, bored out of his mind, and waiting for something exciting to happen. Meanwhile, Totri, student number 10, finds peace in the corner of the room, whispering sweet words to her beloved plants. The calm is broken by Noel, student number 11, who is frantically yelling into his phone for a demon to show itself. Below him, Nagisa, student number 12, remains completely detached from the chaos, slowly sucking on a lollipop with a blank expression. Solo stands in the back of the classroom, watching the collection of eccentric students he's supposed to lead. He realizes that looming means he has to somehow get every single one of these difficult individuals to pass the midterm exams. The sheer weight of the responsibility makes him break into a cold sweat. He clutches his head, shouting internally that this task requires far more teaching ability than he actually possesses. To make matters worse, his fever seems to be returning. When Mako asks him how he's feeling about the exams, Solo can only stare into the distance in a state of shock. As Xiao warns her not to even bother asking, the teacher is left wondering if success is even remotely possible with his class. At the Orion School of Magic, the day starts with a big announcement. The midterm examinations are coming up next week. The requirements for each year are revealed, with the first years getting tested on their broom flying skills. But for the second years, things are much more intense. Their test will be a combat trial called Monster Subjugation. The speaker emphasizes that from the second year onwards, individual ability is key, and anyone who can't keep up will be forced to withdraw. Teachers are told they can't go easy on the students and must maintain a strict, solemn attitude during the training period. Solo starts breaking a sweat, worrying that individual ability is the one thing his chaotic class is missing. Ibuki notes that the exam contents are exactly what the other students were whispering about earlier. As they walk through the halls, he mentions that Class D's actual combat prowess is still a total mystery to the school. Solo watches them, knowing that if even one student drops out, his entire mission to save the world is basically over. He realizes he needs to change the outcome quickly, deciding that training them is the only way to prevent disaster. With just 1 week left, Solo comes up with a plan to give Class D a thorough Witch's Arsenal crash course. He figures teaching everyone the same foundational weapon spell is the most efficient way to get results, especially since it's a specialty. Ibuki is practically sparkling at the chance to train under him, but Solo tells him he's already skilled enough and doesn't need it. Standing outside the classroom, he wonders if the rest of the kids even have the motivation to pass the exam. He kicks the door open and is immediately met with a massive fireball from a salamander's fireplace spell. Solo dodges it without breaking a sweat, while Xiao and Ibuki watch the usual chaos unfold in the classroom. The room is a mess of students messing around with magic and food instead of actually preparing for the midterms. Miko Cecilia, who goes by Maiko, is practicing her transformation magic but ends up stuck looking like a half-finished cat girl. The students talk about how studying is actually kind of fun when they're all hanging out together. Solo is genuinely stunned by the lack of tension in the room, wondering if they even care about getting expelled. He pulls out his fake nice teacher smile and announces that he has a great idea to help them pass the exam. He proposes a special training class for everyone to master the Witch's Arsenal spell within a week. He leans into the enthusiastic act, claiming that efficiency is the key to making sure nobody fails. The class just stares back at him in dead silence, clearly not buying into the hype. Dante is the first to shut him down, telling Solo they don't need a teacher to tell them to do their best. Azu thinks the whole idea of special training sounds like a total drag, and Kai is just happy to skip out on it. Panny decides that if the others aren't doing it, he isn't either, leaving Solo absolutely shocked. Xiao watches the rebellion silently, while Solo tries to process the sudden rejection. Noel gives a dramatic refusal about being a lone wizard in the dark, and Nanato calls the training unlucky. Katlia politely declines, wanting to rely on her own strength, while Rex and Nagisa aren't interested in the slightest. Even Toturi is unsure of what to do, looking to the others for a cue on how to react. Maiko tries to get everyone to reconsider, but they just tease her for acting like a teacher's pet. Solo's inner monologue is screaming, wondering why they're making it so hard for him to help them. The class points out that he hasn't actually taught them a single real lesson in the entire month he's been there. Solo tries to justify his sudden change of heart, acting like he just wants them to be able to keep studying. Dante cuts him off immediately, looking him in the eye and calling him a total liar. He accuses Solo of only caring about getting a promotion away for Class D, calling the whole act dumb. The entire class stares Solo down, asking how his efficiency is actually supposed to help him individually. Solo's inner assassin is fuming, and for a split second, he genuinely considers blowing up the entire classroom. He manages to keep it together, realizing that getting fired wouldn't exactly help his mission. He walks away, venting about how frustrating it is that they won't just listen to a word he says. He decides to leave the exam up to them for now, but looking at the lack of skills, he's starting to get worried. Solo runs into the school's vice principal, Nico Robert, who's already judging him for looking like a walking corpse. Nico tells him that a teacher should always be the picture of composure and solemnity, even if they have massive bags under their eyes. Solo takes the opportunity to ask a serious question about his role as an educator. He's genuinely stumped on how to get his unruly class to actually listen to a single word he says. Nico doesn't offer any easy answers, telling Solo that a puzzle he has to solve himself, while reminding him that teachers have to keep studying too. Solo is left dejected by the lack of helpful advice, but then Xiao Shahar pops up to remind him he's still stuck with Class 2D. Xiao mentions how taking a break and heading to town was a good change of pace, and Solo can't exactly admit he's a hitman on a secret mission. The school's official motto is all about raising elite wizards, where evaluation and grades are everything. In this system, Class D is just seen as the leftovers, and most of the faculty has already given up on them. Nico insists that he's different from the other teachers and believes in teaching every student solemnly, regardless of their rank. He actually acknowledges the effort Solo is putting into reaching out to his class, which hits Solo harder than expected. Solo feels like a complete fraud, knowing his serious attitude is just a cover for his ulterior assassin motives. Nico leaves him with one last piece of wisdom. Teachers aren't taught by their peers, but by their own students. Solo stands there reflecting on that, while Xiao waits for him to snap out of it. He's still stuck on the problem of getting them to listen, while Miko, Cecilia, and Ibuki hang out in the background. Suddenly motivated, Solo decides he absolutely has to give them special training, so they don't fail the exam. Xiao points out the obvious flaw in that plan. The students of Class D naturally hate every teacher they've ever had. Miko, Cecilia chimes in, explaining that it's no wonder they're hostile given how poorly they've been treated by the staff. Xiao laughs off the idea that's just about bad grades or being treated offhandedly. He explains that Class D is a melting pot of troublemakers, fun seekers, and kids with complicated circumstances. He gives Solo a friendly tap on the shoulder and delivers the cold truth. The students simply don't trust him. Solo is hit by the irony. He was voted the most reliable hitman for 5 years straight, yet he can't gain the trust of a bunch of kids. Xiao argues that the real issue is a total lack of communication between the teacher and the class. Looking out at students, Solo realizes he doesn't actually know anything about them. Xiao gives him a mischievous grin, while Solo starts to feel the pressure of actually having to connect with them. He thinks about how much of a pain it's going to be, but he knows he can't ignore the importance of building rapport. He stares at the classroom door, wondering what on earth he's supposed to talk about with a bunch of teenage brats. Xiao calls him out for the brat's comment, but quickly pivots to a good idea he's been cooking up. As the class president, he takes it upon himself to be the bridge between the instructor and his classmates. The rest of the class can hear the commotion from inside and wonders what's going on now. Xiao kicks off the first round and announces that today's lesson is going to be something they can all play together. Solo and Ibuki peek in from the hallway, with Ibuki wondering if this is really the good idea Xiao's talking about. Solo is skeptical that just playing together will magically fix their trust issues. Xiao is full of confidence, grinning as he claims that everyone will listen to him because he's the president. The classroom erupts in a chatter, with everyone trying to figure out why they're suddenly playing games instead of studying. Dante is less than impressed, hearing that they're playing tag and immediately deciding he's not doing anything physical. Xiao isn't taking no for an answer, using brute force and his authority as leader to end the discussion right there. The scene shifts to the school ground where the chaos is about to begin. Solo finds himself designated as it for the game of tag, wondering if he's allowed to use magic to hunt them down. He spots some students from other classes passing by and wonders what their deal is. He overhears some faculty members talking about how Class D is a lost cause with zero chance of promotion. The teacher of Class 3B brags about how competitive society is, making Solo realize just how deep the divide between classes really goes. Xiao Shahar claps his hands, announcing that everything is ready to go. He knows the class is feeling unmotivated from being looked down upon, and he's determined to change that. Dante and some of the other students decide to join in, figuring it'll be a fun break from their usual lackluster studies. Xiao quickly lays out the rules. There's only one person running, and everyone else is it. The goal is to tag the target, and magic is definitely allowed. Then comes the big reveal. The target for this round is going to be their new teacher, Mr. Solo himself. Xiao adds a high-stakes condition. If Solo manages to evade them, the class has to obediently follow his special training plan for the midterm exam. Solo can't believe he was just roped into this. But the real hook is for the students. If they win, Solo has to buy them anything they want. The bookie and the others immediately start imagining all the loot they can get. Azu and her classmates are already listing off expensive magical items and ingredients they've been eyeing, their competitive spirits finally ignited. Xiao grins, maintaining a facade of neutrality as the class president. Solo realizes this has turned from a simple game into a full-blown confrontation. Despite being the leftovers of the school, the 13 students are motivated to prove they won't lose to a newbie instructor. Solo realizes he's actually managed to fire them up. Solo puts on his best teacher smile, accepting the challenge. If it means getting them to study, he'll play their game. The final parameters are set, a 1-hour time limit, the entire school grounds are in play, and brooms are fair game for the students. The bookie warns Solo that this isn't just tag, it's a battle. Since magic is allowed, things are about to get intense. To make it a fair game, the students strip Solo of his advantages, forbidding him from using movement or concealment magic, and banning him from using a broom. Solo prepares to make his move as the clock starts ticking. He's ready to show them what a professional can do, even with handicaps. Suddenly, a massive cloud of white smoke erupts, catching the students off guard. They wonder if the game has already taken a chaotic turn. It's Azu. She's thrown a specially made paralysis bomb, reminding the teacher that magic items were never off limits. She's aiming to end the game before it even begins. Solo didn't stick around to chat. Before anyone could blink, he completely vanished, leaving students staring at empty air. Azu was practically vibrating with excitement. Her experiment actually worked, and seeing Dante and the others twitching on the floor like fish out of water was just the icing on cake. Xiao stood back, watching the chaos with a smirk. To him, this whole match was a joke. There was no way the class stood a chance against a guy like Solo. Inside the central hall, the chase was in full swing, but Solo was hitting a wall. He was gasping for air, his body feeling like lead because he relied way too much on magic instead of actually walking. He leaned against the pillar, lungs burning. This trial of strength was turning out to be a pathetic display of how out of shape he really was. Solo started flipping through the student files to get a better handle on who he was dealing with. First up was student number 5, Azumare C. She was a weird case. Her combat skills were bottom of the barrel, but when it came to making potions and magic items, she was top tier, a total genius in a lab. Suddenly, a kid in a horned hood named Noel Campbell blocked his path, striking a dramatic pose and declaring checkmate. Beside him stood Nanato Mikazuki, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Noel didn't waste any time. He triggered a high-level darkness spell called Beloved Child's Retainer, designed to freeze his target's body in place. The kid was really leaning into the whole mastermind of the night bit. Solo just stood there, wondering if the kid realized how much he was overacting. Solo checked Noel's file, ranking second to last with grades that were basically a disaster. It was hard to take the Chinibu act seriously when his report card looked like that. And there was Nanato, the kid in the mask. He was a complete enigma. His grades were all over the place, making it impossible for Solo to figure out where his true talent actually lay. As Solo was pondering, a voice boomed from above. Dante Dalton had found him, and he looked ready to tear the place apart. Dante came barreling in like a freight train, launching a massive attack with a shout that echoed through the hall. He wasn't holding back one bit. He unleashed a witch's arsenal spell, surprising even Solo with how much raw power he was putting behind it. The strike was aimed right at Solo's head. The impact was massive. The air shrieked as the magic collided, sending debris flying everywhere and nearly leveling the corridor. Solo stared at the destruction, a bit stunned. For a class that was supposedly worthless, the gap in power between their raw magic and their refined skills was actually pretty terrifying. Dante tried to play it cool, acting like it was just a lucky hit. But he was clearly rattled that Solo had managed to walk away from it without scratch. He started shouting that he didn't need any stupid training, claiming he was already a pro at Witch's Arsenal. It was the typical bravado of a kid who didn't want to admit he was outclassed. Suddenly, another student stepped up. Kai Alvin took a deep breath, focusing his energy for a fire spell while the others yelled at him to actually do something. Kai unleashed a massive wave of fire, the Salamander's fire play. The hallway turned into an absolute furnace in an instant. Solo reappeared behind them, completely unfazed, and scolded them for starting a fire in the hallway. He looked more annoyed about the safety hazard than the actual attack. Before they could respond, Solo vanished again, leaving them yelling at the empty hallway. He was done playing games for now. Solo kept running, his mind racing as fast as his feet. He realized Kai's power was huge, but his control was non-existent. If they could just fix that, the kid would be a beast in the exams. He checked Kai's file next. The kid had a natural gift for fire magic, but without discipline, all that power was just a disaster waiting to happen. Eventually, Solo found himself in the school's quiet greenhouse, a lush oasis away from the chaos of the chase. It was the perfect place to hide and catch his breath. He was absolutely spent, wheezing and sweating like he just run a marathon. He desperately needed a break before his body just gave up on him entirely. As he moved deeper into the greenery, he spotted a girl with long hair, humming to herself. She seemed completely oblivious to the game of tag happening outside. It was Totally Leander, and she just finished repotting a whole batch of flowers. She looked incredibly proud of her handiwork as she stood among the blossoms. The flowers were dance fleurs, and they were literally swaying and humming as if they were celebrating their new pots. It was a weirdly peaceful scene. Totally nearly jumped out of her skin when she realized Solo was standing there. Solo, on the other hand, was too tired to even stand up straight, let alone act like a teacher. She quickly stammered that she wasn't trying to catch him. She just really wanted to talk to him about something important. Solo was too exhausted to do anything but listen. Totally took a deep breath and blurted out that she actually wanted to take his special training because she was terrified of failing the midterm exam. But there was a catch. She didn't want to learn Witch's Arsenal. She wanted to focus on what she really loved, plant magic. Solo was caught off guard by the request. She started explaining that while she wasn't good at combat magic, she could control branches and make plants grow with ease. Her eyes lit up as she talked about her hobby. She admitted she wasn't great at experimenting or making potions like Azu, but her true passion was simply looking after flowers and understanding how they worked. She even confessed that she'd struggled with the basics as a first year, which made her want to get better at the one thing she actually felt an affinity for. Solo listened, genuinely intrigued. Solo realized that every wizard has their own preference, a specific type of magic they're naturally wired to be better at. For Totally, it was plants, and forcing her into a generic mold was just a waste of time. He started thinking about the rest of the class, Xiao with his wind, Ibuki with electricity, even Mika with her transformation magic. They all already knew where their strengths were. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. His plan to teach everyone the same foundation was efficient for him, but absolutely terrible for the students. It was the wrong way to build a real team. Solo's face paled as he thought about the workload ahead. To do this right, he'd have to personally oversee the individual training for all 12 students. That's 12 completely different styles he'd have to master and teach. Totally looked at him, worried that she was asking for too much special treatment. Solo just sighed, realizing that being a teacher was going to be way more work than he ever signed up for. Totally just gave him this sad little smile, saying she wasn't worth the effort. It was a pretty depressing thing for a kid to say, and it clearly didn't sit right with Solo. Solo just stood there, staring at her. He didn't say anything, but you could tell he was starting to realize just how much these kids have been beaten down by everyone else. The quiet moment was shattered when this guy in fancy robes strutted in, demanding to know where his dance fleurs went. This was the Class B teacher, and he looked like a real piece of work. He looked at the freshly potted plants and completely lost his cool. Apparently, those were supposed to be for hands-on practice for his superior Class B, and Totally had just ruined his plan. Totally was practically shrinking into herself, stuttering out apologies while the guy just kept loitering over her. He wasn't having any of it. He leaned in close, his face twisting into something genuinely nasty. He realized she was from Class D, and that's when the real insults started flying. Solo watched from the shadows, his eyes narrowing. He was finally starting to get it. Why these kids were so defensive, and why they didn't trust anyone wearing a teacher's badge. Outside, Dante and Kai were still frantically searching for Solo, having no idea that their teacher was currently having a crisis of conscience in a greenhouse. Pretty much the entire class had gathered now, including Azu and Noel. They were all wondering where their target had disappeared to. They started zeroing in on the greenhouse, wondering if Solo was actually trying or just messing with them. Time was almost up, and the tension was building. They were all surprised by Solo's sudden interest in training them. Usually, he just gave them the bare minimum effort and never got mad when they didn't pay attention. Ibuki and Nanato shared a look. They suspected he was only doing this to get a promotion, but something about the way he'd been acting today felt different. They remembered how Solo had talked about Witch's Arsenal being the most efficient way to teach. It was all about what was easier for him, not what was best for them. To them, he was just another teacher who didn't actually see them for who they were. They were just the problem class to be dealt with as quickly as possible. They figured if they could just coast through the exam, they'd be fine. They'd been treated like leftovers for so long that they'd just started believing it. But back in the greenhouse, the Class B teacher was really laying into Totally, and his words were getting nastier by the second. He called them leftovers and accused Totally of trying to sabotage the real students. He was literally towering over her, trying to make her feel as small as possible. Totally was on the verge of tears as he called her a scrap. Dante and the others arrived just in time to hear the insult, and you could see the shock on their faces. Just when it seemed like the guy wouldn't stop, Solo finally spoke up. He told him to shut up, his voice cold enough to drop the temperature in the room. Everyone froze. The Class B teacher looked like he'd just been slapped, and Totally was staring at Solo like he'd grown a second head. Solo stepped forward, his eyes locked on the arrogant teacher. He told the guy to quit nagging her, and the look on his face meant he wasn't asking. The Class B teacher was sputtering, demanding to know who this newbie teacher thought he was. He was clearly used to being the biggest bully on campus. Solo didn't even acknowledge him. He was too busy thinking about why these kids lacked motivation. It wasn't because they were lazy. It was because of people like this guy. Solo admitted to himself that he wasn't much better. He'd only seen them as targets to be managed, not as actual students with their own potential. He knew he was a fake teacher, but even a fake had a job to do. If he did become a real teacher to Class D, it would get in the way of his real job as an assassin. His eyes took on a sharp, dangerous light behind his glasses. It was time to show this guy what a real lesson looked like. Solo raised his hand and channeled his magic. In an instant, a massive vine-covered fist manifested in the air. He was using Toturi's own specialty, plant magic. He looked at Toturi and asked if she still wanted him to teach her plant magic. The look on his face was a mix of a teacher's smirk and an assassin's focus. He told her to pay close attention to his example. He was about to perform a high-level spell called Unbreaking Dawn, and he wanted her to see every detail. The plant fist lunged forward with a roar. It was a massive display of power, controlled with the kind of precision that only someone like Solo could pull off. The arrogant teacher barely had time to scream before the vine fist slammed into him. The impact was deafening, sending a shockwave through the entire greenhouse. The students were absolutely floored. Seeing their worthless class being defended with such overwhelming power was something they'd never even dreamed of. Solo gave her this dark, satisfied smile and told her she'd done a good job watching. He was finally starting to look like a real teacher, even if he was a bit of a scary one. The greenhouse was a total wreck, and the Class B teacher was out cold on the floor. The other students were still trying to process the fact that Solo had just one shot at another teacher. Solo walked away like it was no big deal, but Toturi was just standing there in awe. She realized that he had actually stood up for her. Solo started sweating a bit, wondering if he'd overdone it. He really didn't want to get fired on his first week, especially not for beating up a colleague. Suddenly, the bells rang out across the school grounds. The game of tag was officially over, and Solo had managed to evade everyone until the very last second. Dante was fuming that they hadn't been able to catch him, while Solo was just trying to look like he hadn't just committed a minor assault in a greenhouse. True to their word, the whole class agreed to take his special training. They were still suspicious, but they were also a lot more curious about what else he could do. Toturi was beaming, asking if this meant she'd finally get her plant magic lessons. She was practically sparkling with excitement now. The other students were confused. They thought they were all supposed to be learning Witch's Arsenal together as part of some efficient plan. But Solo just turned his back on them and announced that he'd changed his mind. They weren't going to be doing that generic training anymore. He was going to teach them for real. Solo looked around at his students. If they wanted to learn magic that actually fit them, instead of that generic Witch's Arsenal, then he was going to give it to them. He was ready to stop taking the easy way out. With a look of determination, he announced that he would provide special, individual training for every single person in the class. He was taking full responsibility for their progress from here on out. The students were stunned, but they couldn't exactly argue. They had made a promise to follow his training if they lost the game of tag, and Solo had clearly won that bet. Maiko, student number 9, squinted at him. She noted that this sudden burst of passion was totally out of character for him. Solo started to sweat, realizing he'd let his polite teacher mask slip. Xiao let out a laugh, teasing Solo for pretending to be a cool cat earlier. He'd seen right through the act, and it seemed like the rest of the class had too. In their minds, they saw Solo as this little cat trying to act tough. Xiao was having a field day with it, while Solo just wished he could disappear back into the shadows. Maiko continued her analysis, calling him sarcastic and unsociable with dead eyes. She definitely didn't buy the smiley persona he'd been trying to sell them since day one. Solo's inner monologue was screaming. As an assassin, he needed a non-suspicious persona, but he clearly failed to fool a bunch of teenagers. His perfect teacher act was a total bust. The class debated how teachers were supposed to act, with the bookie mentioning that teachers should always be smiling in front of their students. Solo realized he'd been relying way too much on his reference books. Surprisingly, the students admitted they preferred the real him they saw in the greenhouse, the one who actually got angry when they were disrespected. They didn't want a puppet teacher. They wanted him. Xiao and Maiko encouraged him to show more of his true self. They believed it would actually help the class bond with him. For the first time, they addressed him by his name, Solo Pastry. Solo was left speechless. He'd spent his whole life hiding his true nature, and yet these kids were asking him to let them see it. It was a completely new experience for an assassin. Xiao revealed that the whole game of tag was a scheme to get Solo's true nature to slip out. It was a huge success, and now the real training could finally begin. Toturi was still on cloud 9, thanking Solo again for helping her out. Her smile was genuine, and it seemed like she was finally starting to believe in herself a little more. The rest of the class started shouting out what they wanted to learn. From darkness magic to better fire control, everyone was suddenly eager to get started. It was a complete turnaround from earlier. As the class chatted, Solo noticed someone watching from the branches of a nearby tree. There was still one student who wasn't part of the celebratory mood. It was Rex, student number 4. With a defiant look in his eyes, he made it clear that he wasn't won over yet. He told Solo flat out that he'd never approve of him, no matter what he did. The Orion School of Magic is buzzing with the news of the upcoming midterm exam, where the main task is monster subjugation. Failing means more than just a bad grade. It means getting kicked out. Solo, the teacher of Class 2D, knows exactly what's on the line. If the students drop out, they're destined to become the world-ending villains he's trying to stop. While he's stressing about the future, his students seem way more relaxed, completely unaware of the dark fate their teacher is trying to steer them away from. Ever since that tag game, the class has done a total 180 and started treating Solo like a buddy instead of a terrifying assassin. He can feel his authority slipping away as they constantly laugh and mock the scary character he was trying to play before. Solo is fuming because they've clearly mistaken his attempt to be a good teacher for him being a total softie. As the school gears up for midterm, even top-ranked students from other classes are starting to feel the pressure of the upcoming test. Out on the school grounds, Solo gathers his group to officially explain the rules for their monster hunting mission. He breaks it down. They're heading into a monster habitat, but the catch is they won't know their specific targets until the very last second. To get them ready, Solo drops a massive rock golem in front of the class and tells his top student, Xiao, to take it out. Xiao doesn't even break a sweat, absolutely pulverizing the giant monster into a pile of pebbles with a single move. Without missing a beat, Solo calls up the next two students, Katlia and Panny. Katlia looks cool and collected, while Panny is practically vibrating with excitement for his turn to show off. The two of them launch a perfectly coordinated magical assault on a next-trained golem. Between Katlia's combat magic and Panny's summoning, the poor monster doesn't stand a chance and gets absolutely wrecked. Solo is genuinely impressed. Based on pure talent alone, these kids would easily be in the elite class A or B. But he remembers why they're in his class. One is a disaster in the classroom, and the other just treats everything like a playground. Next up is Rex Red, the student who looks like he'd rather be anywhere else but in a training session. Rex straight up tells Solo he doesn't need any special training and asks to be let go right then and there. Solo is already losing his cool, but the girls in class chime in that Rex is basically a ghost who never talks to anyone. He's the ultimate lone wolf, keeping a wall between himself and the rest of the class at all times. Solo starts putting the pieces together, realizing Rex has been turning down everyone's attempts to be friendly, from sweets to magic potions. He's clearly strong enough for the exam, but his antisocial attitude is going to be a total headache for a teacher. Rex throws a terrifying glare at anyone who stares too long, leaving poor Toturi shivering in her boots. With the initial tests over, Solo announces that he's splitting the class into 3 distinct groups. The goal-cleared group is his elite squad, Xiao, Katlia, Panny, Ibuki, and the runaway Rex. Then there's the almost there group, including Kai, who just need a little more work to hit the passing mark. Finally, there's the hopeless squad, where the girls are already making excuses for why they're terrible at combat magic. Between Noelle's weird crystal blood and Toturi's complete lack of confidence, this group is a total disaster zone. Solo realizes he has no choice but to kick off a brutal special training session to save them from failing. He tells the group that the secret to getting stronger is actually pretty simple. It's all about raw magic power. He compares it to working out or practicing an instrument. If you want to get good, you just have to do it over and over. To help them train, he releases a swarm of miniature golems and tells them to use their magic like their lives depend on it. Solo gets a little too enthusiastic during his lecture, shouting about how imagination and visualization are the keys to a powerful spell. He starts rambling about killing intent and exploiting vitals, totally forgetting he's supposed to be a teacher and not an assassin. He snaps back to reality and checks on Kai, who's trying to use his signature Salamander's fire play to cook some fried rice. Kai serves up a plate, but Solo's first bite reveals it's undercooked, chewy, and honestly a bit of a mess. Solo explains that the real point is control. It's much easier to master magic when you connect it to a hobby like cooking. He tells Kai they're moving on to egg tarts next, then heads off to give the rest of the class their own individual lessons. A few days pass, and Toturi is out in the yard trying to summon every bit of power she has for a plant fist spell. But instead of powerful attack, she only manages to sprout a few tiny, sad weeds while feeling like a total failure. Solo watches from the sidelines, seeing that while she's got plenty of motivation, her actual magical results are still non-existent. Toturi is finally starting to enjoy the lessons, shouting about how much fun she's having. Solo watches her, knowing he has to keep this positive momentum going so she doesn't slip back into depression. She's practically glowing as she practices, and Solo can't help but notice how genuine her excitement is. But despite the progress, Solo's own expression is totally dead as he stares off into space in silence. Toturi starts opening up about why she was so unmotivated before, admitting that she's been struggling since her first year. She explains that as she fell behind, her teachers eventually just gave up on her, which made her even more scared to even try. Solo listens as she confesses that she eventually got so fed up that she just wanted to be done with class entirely. She reveals that despite giving up on class, she was actually doing independent study the whole time. She proudly shows off that she managed to make a fire poppy bloom, something she couldn't even dream of doing back in her first year. Solo remembers the scene vividly. Toturi's eyes sparkle as she shares her real dream. She wants to become a great wizard so she can go back and take over her family's homestead. She shows Solo a picture of the place, a beautiful farm filled with herbs and flowers used for magic potions. Solo realizes that her motivation was never the problem. She just needed a reason to care that actually mattered to her. He thinks to himself that she has a perfectly wholesome, honest dream, and that her bad attitude was just a mask for her frustration. But a dark thought crosses his mind. If she's such a good kid now, why on earth is she destined to become an evil wizard in the future? Toturi snaps him out of it by asking about Rex, and Solo is caught off guard by the sudden shift in topic. They keep talking, but Solo can't shake the feeling that there's something he's missing about these students' supposedly dark futures. Toturi looks a bit nervous as they discuss Rex, while Solo notes that the guy's attitude is definitely a major problem for the class. He quickly shifts the focus back to training since the midterm is literally right around the corner. The day before the exam appears on the screen. The final day of prep arrives, and Kai is letting loose with a massive salamander's fire play, spelled to show how much he's improved. Kai is absolutely stoked, shouting, "I did it," as the rest of the class cheers him on for finally getting it right. But the hopeless five are still having a rough time, looking completely overwhelmed as a giant training golem looms over them. Solo is looking pretty exhausted himself, watching as one of the girls collapses in tears because she still feels like she's no good at magic. The morning of the midterm exam finally arrives, and the faculty is making all the last-minute announcements in main hall. Solo is slumped over his desk in faculty room, looking like he hasn't slept in a week as he counts the 5 students who still haven't cleared the training goals. He lets out a heavy sigh, realizing that being a teacher is way more exhausting than being a world-class assassin ever was. Ibuki is standing nearby, looking as cool and mysterious as ever, and he asks Solo what he really thinks of the bad students. As they walk down hall together, Solo admits he's starting to have some major regrets about how he handled things at the start. Ibuki brings up the fact that Toturi and Miko actually have a natural aptitude for specific types of magic, even if they haven't mastered them yet. He reminds Solo about the time he predicted Miko would eventually become a master of transformation magic. Solo asks if that was just a lucky guess, or if it actually came from one of Ibuki's precognition fragments. Ibuki confirms it, adding that he also saw a vision of Toturi becoming a powerful plant magic user in the future. And it doesn't stop there. He mentions that Pani was also destined to be a great summoner, which he's already starting to show. Solo nearly loses his mind, demanding to know why Ibuki didn't just tell him all of this from the very beginning. He starts pacing, realizing that if Ibuki knows this much about their potential, then an evil wizard prophecy might be a lot more complicated than it seems. Ibuki explains that precognition isn't a movie, it's just fragments, and they also saw that one of the 12 will be a master fire magic user. Solo's mind immediately jumps to Kai, and he starts putting the pieces together. He looks at the group of students, realizing that while they have the potential for greatness, the path to becoming evil is still a mystery. Ibuki notes that there are even some students who are total overachievers, excelling at everything they touch. Solo looks at him, wondering how such ordinary-seeming kids could possibly end up as the monsters described in the prophecy. He thinks it's absurd because, after actually getting to know them, they just seem like a bunch of regular, rowdy teenagers. As they keep walking, Ibuki starts talking about the bigger picture, the school, the country, and the darkness that might be creeping in. He explains that the school's hands are tied because if the truth about the Department of Magic leaked out, it would be a total scandal. Then he drops the darkest bombshell yet, the government's secret egg-smashing policy, where they kill off children who are destined for evil while they're still young. Ibuki and Solo walk through the stone corridors, Ibuki explaining that the public never learns of the egg-smashing because the country keeps it strictly confidential. He reflects on the complex nature of evil, how some are born to it while others are driven by circumstance, and asks if they should be targeting the sources of corruption rather than just the individuals. Stopping by a large arched window, Ibuki warns Solo that his growing attachment to the students will soon turn into a dangerous sympathy. Solo remains silent, his expression unreadable behind his glasses as Ibuki reminds him that as assassins, sympathy is the one thing they cannot afford to have. Ibuki coldly reiterates their mission. Any student they can't keep from dropping out must be eliminated, and Solo must improve his teaching skills to better monitor them. Ibuki looks down at the rowdy Class D students below, noting that while Solo might feel friendly toward them, his own interest is purely superficial. Solo responds with a flat, weary gaze, assuring Ibuki that he understands the gravity of their situation perfectly well. He recalls his promise to kill them the moment they turn evil, wondering if a professional like himself is even capable of feeling sympathy Ibuki fears. Shaking off the heavy mood, Ibuki brings up the upcoming midterm exam, worried that the problem 5 might fail and be forced out of school. He mentions that he has one particular idea to help him pass, though he admits it might be cheating a little. The scene shifts to the Orion School of Magic's transportation door room, where the second-year students are gathering in their mandated athletic wear for the test. Toturi looks pale with anxiety, her fighting spirit nowhere to be found, while Miko tries to bolster her confidence before the exam starts. Their nerves aren't helped by the snickering students from other classes who openly mock Class D for their reputation as failures and future dropouts. The chattering stops as Vice Principal Nico Robert takes the stage with a microphone, officially announcing the start of midterm. He explains that monster subjugation is a fundamental duty for any wizard, and that this exam serves as vital preparation for the real-world requests they'll eventually handle. Lifting a set of enchanted keys, the vice principal explains that each class will be sent to a different, specific location for their assessment. With a heavy click and a groan of stone, the door leading to Class D's designated exam area begins to swing open. The students of Class D look back at Solo one last time before stepping through the shimmering portal into the unknown. They materialize in a muggy jungle, a humid, overgrown wilderness filled with massive prehistoric flora and strange, glowing fungi. The girls huddle together, taking in the intimidating sight of the giant jungle as they prepare for the hunt. Solo stands before them, his voice echoing through the dense trees as he officially declares the commencement of the midterm examination. He displays a magical diagram of their target, the Gormandrone, a large, moth-like creature with intimidating markings on its wings. Solo warns them that these monsters have been overpopulating the jungle and attacking travelers, making their extermination a matter of public safety. The rules are straightforward: find and subdue the creatures. Each successful subjugation earns them 1 point toward their grade. The students' confidence shatters when Solo reveals they need 10 points to pass, meaning they'll have to take down 10 monsters each before sunset. A final reminder echoes through the jungle. The task must be approached with solemnity, and they have only a few hours to complete it. The instructions emphasize that while they should pick fights they can win, this is a live combat exercise where anything can happen. However, during a job, the unexpected may occur. The guide warns as a sudden, massive splash ripples through a nearby pool. As if on cue, a gargantuan, scaly monster far beyond their skill level emerges from the trees, towering over the terrified students. Todori and Miko are frozen in place, their eyes wide with terror as the beast's long tongue flicks out in anticipation of a meal. For those who can't handle the pressure, Solo reveals the disappearings, emergency escape items that will transport them back to safety but result in an automatic failure. The morale of Class D hits rock bottom as the students stare at the rings, the fear of the jungle outweighing their desire to pass. Solo watches them with a piercing gaze, realizing that their motivation has completely vanished in the face of such overwhelming odds. He panics internally, realizing he has no idea how to inspire a group of teenagers or get them excited about a life-threatening challenge. Just as Solo prepares to signal the start of the exam, he notices a shift in the air as some of the students step forward. A sudden, powerful wham resounds through the clearing as the first monster is slammed into the earth with a decisive blow. To Solo's surprise, Xiao and Ibuki are already in position, their wands drawn and eyes focused as they take the lead. The rest of Class D, including Kai, can only stare in disbelief as the two strongest members of their group make the first move. Xiao adjusts his eye patch and gives the others a sharp, confident smirk, asking if they have any intention of letting the whole class pass. Ibuki looks back at the students, reminding them that standing still is the only guaranteed way to fail and questioning the value of their recent training. Miko and Todori are snapped out of their stupor, realizing that Xiao and Ibuki aren't willing to let the other class's insults define them. Fueled by a sudden surge of spiteful determination, Miko clenches her fist and vows to prove everyone wrong, leading the charge into the deep jungle. Xiao and Miko lead the charge, with Miko shouting, "That's right, let's go, everyone," as they sprint toward the monsters. The rest of the class follows suit, jumping into action with renewed energy. Even the more reserved students find their resolve, but one complains he isn't scared at all. Miko waves back at Solo, shouting that she'll see him later as she disappears into the dense foliage. Solo can only watch in bewilderment as his class transforms before his eyes. Solo smiles faintly, thinking to himself that for a group of leftovers, they certainly have a lot of spirit when they're properly motivated. He notices one student hasn't left yet. Rex Red, student number 04, stands there, his arms crossed and his eyes sharp beneath his patterned bandana. Rex makes it clear that he isn't following the group's lead. He prefers to work alone and at his own pace, finding the idea of moving together for an exam to be stupid. Rex admits that while he understands Solo's logic, the teacher's attitude still irritates him. Solo's sweat drops, realizing he hasn't won everyone over just yet. Closing his eyes briefly, Rex warns Solo not to get a wrong idea. He hasn't accepted him as their teacher, regardless of what the other students think. Before walking away, Rex fixes Solo with a piercing, serious stare, asking if the man truly has the resolve to remain the teacher for a class as troubled as Class D. Rex vanishes into the jungle, leaving Solo alone with his thoughts. A voice from a nearby communication device reminds Solo to refrain from advising the students once the exam has begun. Solo adjusts his glasses, his mind racing. He wonders what exactly Rex meant by that question and what kind of darkness the boy is hiding. Back at the school, Vice Principal Nico Robert watches the magical monitors, noting the unusual developments with a thoughtful HM. Nico Robert observes that last year, many students dropped out during this very exam. He wonders what kind of abilities this year's second years will ultimately display. A new voice interrupts his thoughts. Julius, the head teacher of Year 2, approaches with a polite greeting, his hands clasped behind his back. Nico is surprised to see him, having thought Julius was away on a long-term business trip. Julius simply explains that he managed to finish his work earlier than expected. Julius offers a bright, almost too perfect smile, claiming that missing the chance to watch over his students would make him a poor head teacher. It turned their attention to the monitors. Nico reports that several Class S students have already reached the 10-point goal, showing high competitive spirit. However, the news isn't all positive. A few students from Classes B and C withdrew from the exam before it even started, unable to face the monsters. Julius asks specifically about Class D, his fingers twitching as if he's anticipating a particular answer. Nico notes that Class D usually has the most dropouts, but this year is a rare exception. Not a single one of them withdrew before the start of the test. Julius gazes at the screen, showing the energetic Class D students, a thin, knowing smile playing on his lips as he remarks on how excellent the situation has become. Maiko is absolutely dying in this heat. Between the humidity and the bugs, she's completely over it. The rest of the class isn't doing much better as they trek through the muggy forest. Azu decides now's a great time to start teasing Maiko about how much time she's been spending with Xiao and Ibuki lately. She even offers to help Maiko out with a special love potion she's been cooking up. Maiko isn't buying it, even if Azu claims the boys are probably thinking about how cute she is. Ibuki tells them to pipe down since they're in the middle of an exam, but Xiao just thinks their energy is funny. Maiko snaps at Azu to stop with the slander, but the girl just keeps laughing. Azu gets a creepy look in her eyes, probably thinking about all the new test subjects she has in Class D. Kai chimes in, praising Ibuki and Xiao for how cool they look taking down a golem during training. Then he ruins the moment by laughing and saying Ibuki is actually super dumb when it comes to books. I get a rise out of Ibuki, who looks ready to start a fight right there. Noelle and Katlia just watch the chaos, reflecting on how everyone has their own set of flaws to deal with. Ibuki gets annoyed that people are talking behind his back, even if they're technically right. High up in the observer station, Vice Principal Robert and Head Teacher Julius look down, noting how laid-back Class D seems. The exam is supposed to be a cutthroat scramble for points, with students racing to snag monster kills from each other. Julius isn't impressed, calling their teamwork tepid and typical for the bottom-tier class. Down on the ground, Solo listens to his students' constant yapping and just looks exhausted. He's the one who told them to act as a group to look better for the observers, but he didn't expect this much chatter. While the others talk, Toturi looks off into the distance, looking a bit worried. She notices that Rex isn't anywhere near the main group. Dante and Panny figure he's just doing his own thing, since Rex has always been a lone wolf. Toturi stays silent, clearly still thinking about him. Her mind drifts back to the welcome party they threw for Ibuki a while back. Rex didn't even stick around for the food, walking away before the party really got started. Toturi had tried to stop him, reminding him he's part of the class too. But Rex just gave her a cold stare and told her not to talk to him. Back in the present, Azu starts teasing Toturi about having a crush on the guy, which sends her into a panic. The joking stops when Xiao and Ibuki suddenly signal everyone to be quiet and look down. Below them, a swarm of Gorman drones is busy tearing apart and eating another monster. It's a pretty gruesome sight that has the girls shuddering, though Solo notes it's been a while since things got this bloody. 2 drones break off from the swarm and charge straight toward the group. Ibuki stays calm and activates his magic, preparing to intercept them. Xiao joins in, unleashing a gust of wind to knock the monsters back. The rings on their fingers start chiming as they rack up points for the kills. Xiao points out that since they're lucky enough to find a whole swarm, it's the perfect chance for everyone to get some points. Watching them work, Dante realizes just how much of a gap there is between him and the top students. He remembers Solo telling him to ditch the giant, flashy weapons he usually tries to make. His magic, Witch's Arsenal, lets him create weapons, but Solo pointed out that his current skills aren't up to par. To prove a point, Solo had shattered Dante's massive sword with a single strike, calling it brittle. He told Dante to focus on the basics first, like mastering a simple dagger or knife. Solo's advice was blunt. There's no point in bluffing with big appearances if the weapon is actually weak. Dante takes that lesson to heart now, ditching the giant sword to deliver a precise strike to a drone's weak point. Dante jams his blade right into the drone's eye, ending it instantly. His classmates are genuinely shocked he knew exactly where to aim. He plays it cool, claiming it's just something he picked up from a book a long time ago. Solo give him a rare bit of praise, noting that he did pretty well. Meanwhile, Nanato Mikazuki is standing off to the side, looking as gloomy as ever. Azu tries to give him a tip about the monster's weaknesses, but Nanato just mopes, convinced he can't handle a whole group of them. He's totally wallowing in self-pity, while Azu desperately tries to cheer him up. Solo watches him, remembering how training the kid seemed almost pointless with how much he mumbles to himself. Nanato is the type to blame a bad day on luck, making Solo wonder if he's just too moody for magic. He complains about everything being too hard, from breakfast to the world in general. When Solo asked if there was any specific magic he wanted to learn, Nanato didn't even have an answer. He just wandered off into the woods, convinced he was too boring to even have friends. Solo didn't let him get far, catching up to explain how a person's mental state directly affects their magic. He quizzes Nanato on what an access incantation is actually for, and the kid correctly guesses it's like a key. Solo goes on to explain that most wizards just have the words pop into their heads the moment their magic wakes up. It's a process called Witch's Revelation, where the magic practically speaks for itself. He tells Nanato that with enough practice, you don't even have to say the words out loud to make the magic work. Back in the present, a drone suddenly lunges for Noelle, and Nanato's eyes snap wide open. Noelle is frozen in fear, looking up at the terrifying insect monster about to strike. Something in Nanato snaps, and he screams that he'll kill the thing for daring to touch his best friend. All that gloom vanishes, replaced by a dark, intense rage. He unleashes a poison beat attack that completely consumes the drone. His classmates can barely believe this is the same guy, as he hit the point and walked away like it was nothing. Everyone is starting to find their groove, and Solo watches the progress with a small sense of relief. But there's still a problem. 5 of his students haven't scored a single point yet. Solo decides their only real option is to cheat, a little, and he looks towards Xiao and Ibuki to carry out the plan. The 5 struggling students find themselves surrounded by a whole swarm of drones. Nagisa is practically in tears, terrified of failing and being kicked out of school. She manages to pull herself together and unleashes a sharp, icicle blade engraving. The attack lands perfectly, leaving the others impressed by her ice magic, while another student just naps nearby. Another student follows up with a plant fist that knocks the drones back. One student gets a bit too aggressive with the drones, shouting at them to stay still. Azu uses her own arsenal of weapons to keep the pressure on while the group laughs through the chaos. Xiao and Ibuki are working in sync, weakening the monsters so the others can land the final blows. They're sticking exactly to the plan Solo gave them, making sure everyone gets a piece of the action. Up in control room, head teacher Julius watches the monitors, noting that this cheating is very much Class D style. He watches as they cycle through their abilities, wondering if they'll actually manage to avoid any dropouts. Xiao whips up a Sylph Whirlwind, while Ibuki follows up with an electric drop to paralyze the targets. Julius has to admit that Xiao is quite the talent, and the new transfer student isn't bad either. The monitors show the drones twitching on the ground, just waiting to be finished off by the weaker students. Solo can't help but tease his star pupils, laughing that they're being a little too soft with their classmates. Toturi stares at the monsters, her eyes filled with a new kind of determination. Maiko Cecilia lands a heavy blow, stealing the kill and securing a much-needed point. She is ecstatic, realizing that she actually has a chance to clear the exam at this rate. Looking at his students, Solo reflects on a past conversation with Noel Campbell about the nature of his magic. Noel had wanted to learn a complex body control spell called the Beloved Child's Retainer because it sounded cool. Solo had shut the idea down, forcing the boy to focus on basic movement exercises first. That training pays off in the present as Noel uses a small-scale, icicle blade engraving to finish off a drone. The class celebrates their collective success, cheering as the points finally start to add up. Even the usually stoic Solo can't help but feel a sense of accomplishment for his ragtag group. Ibuki and Xiao Shahar share a quiet moment of satisfaction, knowing their coordination is the key to this victory. This elaborate teamwork was all part of the sharing while calling it stealing plans Solo proposed before the exam. He had been brutally honest, telling the lower-ranked students they were essentially guaranteed to fail on their own. By pairing them with high-level students, he created a loophole that would ensure everyone reached the required score. The students were stunned by the plan, unsure if such a calculated tactic was even permitted. Solo officially introduced Xiao and Ibuki as the primary support team, whose job was to weaken every target. Toturi Leander was the first to question the morality of it, wondering if it truly counted as their own achievement. She felt that it bordered on unfair, but Solo argued that the rules only cared about the final result. He explained that real-world survival often depends more on exploiting advantages than on raw power alone. With a dark, confident grin, he declared that they were about to execute some top-tier cheating. The group could only stare in horror at their teacher's terrifyingly opportunistic mindset. Toturi finally asked the question on everyone's mind. Did Solo think so little of their skills that he had already given up on them? Solo's being blunt. He tells the students that, as they are right now, it's basically impossible for them to pass. The class can't believe their ears. Their teacher straight up tells them they lack any real ability. He doubles down, reminding them that compared to everyone else, they're at the very bottom. It's a harsh truth. Every other teacher in this school has already written Class D off. Toturi and the others can only stare in silence. The realization of how they're actually viewed finally sinks in. But Solo isn't just there to trash them. He says it's his job to make sure they actually make it through this midterm. The plan he proposes is unorthodox. Even the students are a bit hesitant about his methods. Then Maiko pipes up with her beast ears twitching. She thinks stealing points sounds like a fantastic idea if it keeps them from failing. The teacher explains it's a competitive exam anyway. Scrambling for monsters is just part of the game. Flash forward to the exam, and Xiao is sweating bullets. That first encounter was way closer than he would have liked. His strategy is simple. Let the heavy hitters do the work, and the rest just swoop in for the final blow. It's a gamble, but it's the only way a class of failures can survive this mess. The plan actually works. The class wipes out a swarm of drones, and points start rolling in for everyone. Everyone except Toturi. She's sitting there with a big fat 0 on her scorecard, looking like her soul just left her body. Up in the trees, Solo's keeping close watch. He notices she's struggling to keep up with the vibe. The group finds some fire poppies, which are supposedly super rare magic plants. Toturi tries to focus on them, but it's hard to be excited when you're the only one failing. She's totally depressed. While the others celebrate their points, she's just wallowing in her own uselessness. She starts crying, admitting she's always been bad at magic. The pressure of the exam is just too much. Xiao jumps in to save the mood. He tells her not to be so hard on herself. The day isn't over yet. He and Bookie give her a thumbs up. They've got her back, and they're not letting her quit now. That does the trick. The girl wipes her eyes and declares she's done moping around. Maiko hands over the poppy she found, a little peace offering to keep the team's spirit high. Everyone's back on track, chatting and moving forward. Even Ibuki and Xiao are acting like actual partners for once. In a flashback, Solo asks the two of them to play support. It's a bit of a dishonest request coming from a teacher. Xiao just grins. He actually likes this interesting side of their instructor. Even the serious Ibuki agrees to the plan. They all want the class to pass, whatever it takes. Solo reflects on how he's had to pull strings from the shadows before to make things look like a student's achievement. He tells Ibuki he's counting on him. The success of this whole group depends on this partnership. The class president takes it very seriously. He yells out a "yes, sir" that probably echoes through the whole forest. Zhao's eye catches his attention again. There's something strange hidden in there. Ibuki tries to get a closer look, but Xiao isn't exactly making it easy. The teacher is just glad he chose someone who can pull the class together emotionally. It's a big help. Everything seems to be going smoothly. If they keep this up, everyone might actually make a cut. But things are never that easy. They find themselves on some giant vines, realizing one wrong step is a long way down. The boy laughs it off, telling them it'll be fine as long as they stay focused. Suddenly, something splashes from above. It's acid, and it's melting the landscape around them. A massive, nightmare fuel flower monster drops in. This definitely wasn't on the low-level exam menu. The students are absolutely terrified. This thing is way beyond anything they've faced so far. Zhao's face goes completely pale. He recognizes this thing immediately. It's a flesh-eating feeler flower, a pro-level threat that has no business being in a beginner exam. He stands there paralyzed. This is the exact same species of monster that killed his childhood friend, Luca, right in front of him. Ibuki tries to fight back, but the monster's fluids are just too much. It's at acidic spray again, and it's melting everything it touches. He manages to fire off an electric drop right in the monster's face. The beast lets out a deafening shriek as the lightning crackles across its tentacles. But it's not enough. The monster is still standing, and Zhao's expression darkens. This is exactly what he feared would happen. Xiao explains the grim reality. This thing is a flesh-eating feeler flower, a high-level beast with a magic-resistant hide as tough as industrial armor. The rest of the class is in full-blown panic mode. They weren't prepared for something that even pro-wizards struggle to put down. Suddenly, the monster's tentacles lash out, snatching Ibuki right out of the air. He lets out a pained groan as the beast starts to squeeze. The flower is going absolutely berserk now, thumping its massive tentacles against the ground like it's throwing a lethal tantrum. Ibuki shouts for everyone to get out of there while they still can. Xiao is frozen, stuck between his instinct to run and his need to help. In the chaos, Toturi loses her footing. She lets out a cry as she slips, becoming a prime target for the rampaging beast. Toturi! The class screams her name as she falls. She's completely defenseless without her protective gear. Just as things look their worst, a giant wolf-like creature leaps through the air, barely missing her as it charges into the fray. Back at the monitoring station, Vice Principal Robert is losing his mind. He realizes that if Toturi's ring doesn't activate, she's as good as dead. And then comes the worst news possible. Solo informs him that Toturi isn't even wearing her ring. She's completely exposed. Toturi is huddled on the ground, shaking like a leaf. She finally realizes just how big of a mistake she made by forgetting her only lifeline. Solo doesn't waste another second, racing toward her location. He has a bad feeling that things are about to get even worse. The sound of heavy footsteps echoes through the clearing as a figure approaches the battlefield. The massive flower monster looms over the fallen students, its central mouth dripping with anticipation for its next meal. Toturi is cornered, but through the chaos, a mysterious figure watches with a twisted smirk, enjoying the desperate struggle. Back in the fight, Zhao's face is a mask of sweating intensity. He's reaching his breaking point, and he's not letting this end like last time. He focuses all his energy into his one good eye, searching for any possible opening in the monster's defense. Robert watches the monitors with a grim expression. A monster like this appearing now could mean the absolute annihilation of Class D. But head teacher Julius steps in, telling the vice principal to hold back. He thinks this brush with death is exactly what the students need to mature. Xiao is struggling to breathe, his heart hammering against his ribs. He tells himself to get a grip, forcing his shaking hands to steady. His mind flashes back to the day his world fell apart. The day a monster of the same species took his best friend's life. He knows he can't stay the same scared kid he was back then. If he wants to survive this, he has to become someone stronger. Memories of that day come flooding back. It was supposed to be a simple field trip to some historic ruins to observe magic artifacts. The teacher back then had told everyone to stay vigilant, warning them that this was a site where ancient witches once lived. Young Luca was so excited, leading the way while Xiao trailed behind, always a bit more cautious than his bold friend. Luca even teased him for being too serious, reminding him that life isn't just about messing around and studying. He gave the boy a bright grin, full of the kind of hope that only a kid with big dreams can have. But that hope was shattered when the monster suddenly burst from the earth, its tentacles reaching out to drag them into the dark. Luca didn't hesitate, shouting for everyone to run while he stepped forward to play the hero and distract the beast. He spoke of his dream to join the Wizard Knights, even as his hands trembled with the same fear that Xiao is feeling right now. They had promised to buy time together, two kids against a monster they had no hope of defeating. Then the screaming started. Xiao can still hear the sound of the beast tearing through his friend's defenses. Back in the present, the nightmare is repeating itself as a bookie is pulled into the monster's gaping maw. Xiao can only watch in horror. His hands are shaking so hard he can barely hold his staff, the weight of the past threatening to crush him right then and there. He grits his teeth, cursing his own cowardice. He's sick of being the one who just stands by and watches people die. With a desperate roar, he unleashes a barrage of magic, calling forth the night of the devilish winds to blast the beast. But the magic just dissipates against the monster's thick hide. He grits his teeth, realizing his spells are barely leaving a scratch. He keeps firing anyway, blast after blast filling the air with smoke and debris as he pours everything he has into the attack. The rest of the class has to dive for cover as Xiao starts firing randomly in a blind rage. They shout for him to stop before he accidentally hits one of them. Xiao is spiraling, his mind trapped in the past. To him, the monster looming over them is the same one that took everything away, and he feels just as helpless as he did back then. If I was stronger, he whispers, his voice trembling. Around him, the other students are shouting for him to calm down, their voices barely reaching him through his panic. Suddenly, someone smacks Xiao, commanding him to settle down already. It's the physical shock he needs to snap out his blind, magical rampage. Xiao blinks, his eyes widening in shock as he looks up. Through the haze of his terror, he sees a familiar face that he thought was already lost to the beast. It's a bookie, looking surprisingly composed despite just being in the creature's clutches. He casually explains that Zhao's blind barrage actually provided the opening he needed to slip free. A bookie turns to the rest of the class, his gaze hard. He knows they can't run. If they don't take this thing down right here, their path forward is completely blocked. He looks directly at Xiao and asks the one question that matters. How do we defeat it? He's putting his trust in the one person who knows this monster best. The bookie knows about the tragedy with Luca. He realizes that Xiao didn't just spend years mourning. He spent them researching every single detail about the creature that killed his friend. Zhao's mind flashes back to his long nights of study. He remembers the specific weakness he discovered. The monster's hide is impenetrable from the outside, but it's vulnerable from within. He explains the biological secret, a second, softer mouth hidden deep inside the first one that only reveals itself when the creature is in the middle of feeding. The bookie listens intently as Xiao describes the plan. If they can land a powerful enough blow from the inside, it will cause a systemic shock that weakens the outer armor. Without a single moment of hesitation, Ibuki prepares to launch himself back into the fray. Here I go, he shouts, charging headlong at the beast. Xiao tries to stop him, realizing the insanity of the plan. Ibuki is literally volunteering to be eaten, trusting Xiao to provide the necessary support from the outside. But Ibuki is confident. He's not planning on dying. He knows that if things go south, his emergency ring will simply warp him out of the exam. He throws himself into the monster's gaping maw, determined to stay in the fight. He's not about to let his grade, or his life, be taken by some overgrown weed. Xiao watches him go, his hand still shaking. The doubt is still there, gnawing at him, telling him that he's not good enough to pull this off. Ibuki's voice echoes in his mind, blunt as ever. He admits he might not like Xiao, but he respects the sheer power behind the boy's magical ability. He looks Xiao right in the eye, his expression one of grim determination. He's putting his life in Zhao's hands because he believes that together they have a chance. For the first time, the fear in Zhao's gaze is replaced by resolve. He takes a deep breath and finally finds his voice. We can do this. Xiao and Ibuki charge in for one final push against the giant monster. The beast isn't going down easy though, letting out a massive blast of toxic pollen. The spores hit the students hard, and their vision starts to go blurry in seconds. Magic circles flare as they struggle to keep their focus through the haze. Ibuki manages to force his magic through, summoning protective runes to stabilize their power. A massive sphere of energy erupts, clearing the toxic air in an instant. But the plan strikes back, wrapping both of them in its crushing tentacles. Ibuki breaks free and launches himself straight toward the beast's core. The monster opens its mouth wide, ready to finish them off once and for all. That's when Ibuki drops his electric drop spell, shocking the creature's heart. The plant turns a sickly shade of gray as the lightning fries it from the inside. With the monster stunned, Ibuki yells for Xiao to take the final shot. Xiao launches into the air, activating his Knight of the Devilish Winds technique. His wind blades slash through the tentacles, clearing a path through the debris. His eyes start to glow with that weird star shape again as he goes for the kill. He brings down a massive storm of blades that tears the monster apart. The giant plant beast finally collapses, its body turning into a heap of dead vines. Ibuki lets out a long sigh of relief, looking totally exhausted and covered in slime. The rest of the class can't believe it. They actually managed to pull off the win. Up on the balcony, Julius watches the scene unfold with a cold, suspicious look. As the adrenaline fades, Xiao looks at his hands, his mind wandering back to the past. He thinks about Luca and how things could have been different if he were this strong back then. He knows there's no changing the past, but he's determined never to fail like that again. From the shadows, Solo keeps a close eye on Zhao's lingering power. The other students swarm the two heroes, cheering for the class's new power duo. Nanato and the others are impressed by how well they worked as a team. Maiko comes over to nag them, though she's clearly relieved they made it out okay. Ibuki just smiles and tells her it was easy because they're all friends. Zhao's brain completely short-circuits at the word friends, and he turns bright red. He tries to walk it off, but he's still struggling with Solo's dark teachings. He watches Ibuki and realizes the guy is actually a lot like Luca was. He briefly imagines a casket, thinking about how easy it would be to use Ibuki as a sacrifice. He quickly snaps out of it, clutching his head in horror that he even had the thought. He remembers Luca's kind smile and knows that's the kind of person he wants to be. Xiao looks back at Solo, wondering why his teacher is pushing such a cold, brutal path. He finally admits to himself that even though they're a mess, these guys are actually fun. He watches his classmate walk away, feeling like he's finally found a place to belong. Deep down, he begs the universe not to let him turn into an evil wizard. Solo is busy taking notes, his assassin's mind constantly analyzing the situation. He's seen that star-shaped eye before, and he knows it's a sign of a dark transformation. He worries that the very things that make them good could also lead them to ruin. He looks at the evil wizard, warning in his mind, wondering if he can actually change their fate. Solo starts walking off, already dreading the formal report he has to file about Zhao's eye. He can't stop thinking about the word friends. His students keep using it like it actually means something. He mutters that he doesn't need connections like that, preferring to stick to his own business. Out of nowhere, a massive plant monster screeches and blocks his path through the trees. Most people would run, but Solo just looks annoyed that he's being delayed again. He pulls out a spell from his witch's arsenal, light flaring in his eye as he charges it up. A single unbreaking dawn blast completely vaporizes the creature, clearing his path. He heads deeper into the woods, assuming Ibuki and the others are doing just fine on their own. He finally tracks down the ruins where he thinks his student Toturi might be hiding. He finds her unconscious on the ground, but there's a huge beast standing over her like a bodyguard. The creature is actually Rex, who's been secretly using his beast form to keep her safe. Solo stares, realizing Rex has been following the girl and protecting her this entire time. He thinks back to what he knows about the prestigious Orion School of Magic. A memory of young Toturi pops up, showing her eating a snack and dreaming of the future. She and Rex were close, even as kids, spending their days playing near the giant trees in their village. Toturi was convinced they'd both become great wizards and change the world together. Back in reality, Rex stays close to her, his beastly gaze filled with worry. He whispers her name, clearly terrified that something might actually be wrong. Solo moves in to check her over, confirming she's just unconscious and hasn't been hurt. Solo just stares at the beast boy with a deadpan expression, making things extremely awkward. He gives a creepy little smile and tells Rex not to mind him, which is the worst thing to say. Rex freaks out, his face turning bright red as he screams at Solo for being such a weirdo. Solo tries to act like he's just there for an emergency, but Rex isn't buying the nice teacher act. With a quick poof, Rex shrinks back down into his mascot-sized animal form. Solo is genuinely intrigued, noticing the boy change shapes without using any magic. He realizes Rex is a beast person, a race that can transform as a natural physical trait. Toturi finally wakes up, looking confused as she sees her teacher and her friend hanging out. She explains that she and Rex grew up in a farming village way out in the countryside. Solo sits with them as they rest, listening to her talk about the thriving fields back home. He ponders the nature of beast people, who are a perfect mix of human and animal traits. Rex gets defensive when called a dog, insisting he's a wolf, though Toturi thinks he's adorable. Solo is frustrated that the school never warned him about Rex's special abilities. He tells them that while rare in the city, there's nothing wrong with being a beast person. They explain that most can only transform into one specific animal form, and that's it. Solo checks his documents again, feeling like he's missing half the class's information. He realizes he was never given a proper class record when he first infiltrated the school. He remembers that Class B teacher laughing his head off about withholding the data from him. Solo gets a massive headache thinking about the internal politics and the students he still doesn't understand. He wonders if Toturi being saved by a teacher will get them both disqualified. Toturi doesn't seem to care, though. She's just happy she's still in the game. Solo tells her to thank Rex for the save, then mentions he needs to go report to the vice principal. Solo stops and wonders how to bring that monitor back up. Rex looks incredibly guilty as Toturi asks if he's been following them. She puts the pieces together, realizing his timing was way too perfect for it to be a coincidence. Rex finally admits he was there the whole time, making Toturi cheer. He immediately starts making excuses, claiming her parents asked him to keep her from failing. Toturi doesn't care about the excuses. She's just happy he's always looking out for her. She looks back at all the times she got lost or hurt as a kid. She takes his paw, pointing out how he always ends up getting hurt to save her. Toturi gives him a huge smile and tells him he's the one she likes best. Rex gets super flustered and tells her to stop talking like a little kid. Solo watches the whole scene play out with a blank expression. He's actually sweating, wondering if this is what people mean by youth. Solo tells them to take the romance elsewhere, doubting these kids will ever become evil wizards. The two of them just keep being adorable while Rex tries to act tough. Solo sighs, just relieved they're safer now. Rex flips the script and starts getting heated again. He demands to know why she wasn't wearing her emergency ring. He realizes she took it off on purpose so she wouldn't be forced out of the exam. Solo looks down at the ring in his hand. Rex goes off on her for being reckless and ignoring the rules. He gets in her face, asking if the exam is more important than her actual life. Toturi breaks down in tears, calling herself an idiot. Solo watches the drama, suspecting Rex might have ditched his own ring too. Rex doesn't let up, yelling at her to be more careful. He looks away, telling her he won't always be there to bail her out. Solo just watches the heavy mood settle over them. He checks the time, 1 hour left, just as a massive impact shakes the forest. A giant creature lands right in front of them, catching everyone off guard. It's a massive moth-like monster called a Gurmadrone. Solo stays calm, while Toturi stares up in pure terror. The monster hovers over the forest, surrounded by smaller versions of itself. The ring suddenly speaks up, confirming a boss monster has appeared. A guide explains that the boss is a secret goal, way stronger than anything else in the exam. Taking it down is worth 10 points, but the students were never told it existed. The massive drone prepares to attack, while the others buzz around. The ring tells Solo that the outcome depends entirely on what he does next. Solo tells the kids they can run if they need to, but Toturi looks hesitant. Solo realizes the other teachers set him up by hiding the boss monster info. He smirks, seeing this as the perfect chance to snag those 10 points. The drone lets out a screech and lunges forward. Solo prepares to step in, but Rex stops him. Rex transforms into a humanoid beast form, telling Solo to stay back so they don't get disqualified. Solo reminds Toturi there's little time left, while Rex mentions he already has some points from guarding her. Rex's beast form looks serious as he asks her if she has anything left she wants to do. Toturi looks confused by the question, even with the boss monster looming in the distance. Rex asks her if she's really okay with failing the exam and having to leave the school. Toturi gets determined, saying she has to become a great wizard to take over her family's homestead. But then she drops the real bomb. She needs to find a husband. Solo is absolutely floored. Rex explains that with a birth rate dropping, she can't afford to go home empty-handed. He teases her about trying so hard to hide her country bumpkin accent. Toturi insists she read which accents were popular in books, while Solo is still processing the husband thing. Toturi quickly tells Solo that she and Rex are just childhood friends and nothing more. She says they're basically family, which clearly leaves Rex feeling completely friend-zoned. Solo notices Rex's ears drooping and realizes the guy definitely doesn't feel the same way about her. Toturi shouts that she won't let her family line end with her generation. A massive roar echoes through the forest, cutting the conversation short. The giant Gorman drone spreads its wings and prepares to strike from above. The monster rains down stingers, forcing Toturi and Rex to scramble for cover. Solo tells her she can't win by just running and orders her to launch a counterattack. Toturi tries to use her magic, but she only managed to sprout a tiny weed that just pokes the monster. The spell is a complete failure, leaving the monster completely unfazed. Toturi apologizes, admitting she gets so nervous she just can't make her magic work properly. Solo watches her break down, realizing her lack of confidence is keeping her stuck in a cycle of failure. Solo tells her to forget about that spell for a second and try to think of something else. He reminds her of when she supposedly made those fireworks bloom at the welcome party. Toturi thinks back to that success, not knowing Solo was the one who actually cast the spell for her. Solo gives her a big smile, telling her she has the potential to grow into anything. He immediately starts sweating, feeling like he sounded way too much like an actual teacher. Toturi remembers when she first entered the academy with Rex, full of hope and excitement. She remembers being mocked by teachers who told her she had no talent. They told her they didn't have time to waste on students bound for Class D. Back in the present, she thanks Solo for being the one person who actually believed in her. Toturi starts her chant again, her eyes glowing with a strange star-like light. This time, a massive fist made of vines and rock rises behind her, and Solo knows she did it. She slams the giant fist down on the monster with a massive explosion. Rex cheers her on from the side, while Solo watches the impact with interest. The monster is engulfed in a bright flash of light as the spell connects. But as the dust clears, the monster is totally fine. Solo realizes the power gap is just too high for her current magic. Rex steps forward with his wand, saying he's just getting warmed up, and it's finally his turn. A star-shaped glow appears in his eye as he prepares to unleash his own signature magic. Xiao Shahar's eye glints with a star pattern as he prepares to unveil his signature magic. Rex surges forward, activating his Scarlet Oath ability. Toturi provides immediate backup, casting Moonlight Escort to amplify their strength. Surprised by the sudden flow of energy, Toturi looks at her hands while Solo observes from a distance. She slams a massive plant fist into the target, creating a devastating impact. Solo is impressed, noting that high-level support magic like this shouldn't be common for second-year students. The monster takes a direct hit, but Rex is already showing signs of exhaustion. The Mandrone quickly deploys a magical shield, blocking the next strike with a heavy thump. As the fight turns into an endurance match, Solo watches closely, knowing this isn't the most efficient way to win. Rex is struggling to breathe, the magic-heavy support spell draining his energy far too quickly. He tightens his grip, refusing to let go of the technique he worked so hard to master. He looks at Toturi, his mind drifting back to the reason he started this journey. Long before Orion, Rex's family moved to a quiet village in the west. They settled in right next to the Leander farm, though young Rex was far too shy to greet his new neighbors. Little Toturi didn't let that stop her, introducing herself with a burst of energy and a bright smile. He ran away immediately, leaving his mother to apologize for his bashful nature. Rex spent his time hiding under a large tree, content to stay alone in the shade. But Toturi tracked him down, popping up with a large bouquet of flowers as a peace offering. He stared at the gift in shock as she declared them a token of their new friendship. She talked his ear off about her family's farm and how she planned to run all by herself one day. She explained that bridal veil flowers meant happiness, and she wanted him to have all the luck he could get. She wouldn't stop, adding that the flowers also symbolized wishing for someone's joy. When Rex asked why she cared so much, she burst into tears, admitting she was lonely and just wanted a friend. Eventually, they became inseparable, spending their days studying the basics of magic together. As the years passed, Toturi's cheerful spirit never wavered. By 12, Rex was a regular helper on the farm, carrying heavy loads and working by her side. The local villagers noticed their bond, whispering about how much the boy clearly cared for her. They joked about them getting married one day, causing Rex to turn a deep shade of red. But the gossip took a darker turn, as others reminded him that beast people weren't supposed to marry into other races. They spoke about bloodlines and heirs, concluding that a future between them was simply impossible. His father warned him not to cause trouble for the Leanders, telling him he would understand the reality of their situation eventually. He was told that when he grew up, he'd find someone of his own kind of love. Toturi suddenly interrupted his thoughts, calling his name as she ran over with the book in hand. She was excited about the upcoming entrance exams, even if the thought of Orion was a bit intimidating. Her dream remained the same. She would become a wizard to protect and preserve her family's legacy. She loved the farm too much to let it go, and she wanted Rex to be part of that future. Rex could only listen, the words of the village elders weighing heavy on his heart. She joked that once she got to school, she'd have to look for a husband to help her run the estate. Rex froze in shock, but she just laughed it off, teasing him that she was the older one because her birthday came first. Back in the arena, the boss Mandrone unleashes a massive blow that shatters Rex's concentration. Its vines slam into the ground with a heavy thud, throwing the pair back. Toturi lets out a scream as the monster lunges forward for a final, lethal strike. Rex is nearly taken out by a massive swipe, barking at Toturi to keep moving. The boss Mandrone counters their assault by deploying a powerful shield magic called Witch's Stronghold. Rex grinds his teeth as he realizes the monster is using the same defensive tactics they were taught in their first year. He warns Toturi that they're in a dangerous position and tells her to wait for a signal to strike. Toturi is shocked by how much he's pushing himself, asking why he goes so far for someone like her. Rex shouts that it's all for her dream, making it clear that her success is the only thing he cares about. He admits that he's come to love her family's farm just as much as she does, tying their fates together. Toturi is moved to tears, offering a soft smile of gratitude despite the chaos surrounding them. Watching from the sidelines, Solo wonders if Rex's entire motivation for coming to this school was just to protect Toturi. Solo finds his thoughts drifting away from the exam, feeling a strange connection to the students below. He recalls a warning from a bookie about the danger of sympathy, which can turn an assassin away from their cold path. He tries to maintain his persona as number 0, the cold-blooded assassin, but his heart isn't fully in it. Solo looks at the ragtag members of Class D, realizing just how much he's already invested in their growth. He tells himself they're just kids with problems to solve, but the more he watches, the harder it is to stay detached. He wonders if the simple act of recognizing their humanity is already the sympathy he's supposed to avoid. A flicker of memory crosses his mind, a time when he, too, just wanted someone to acknowledge his existence. The sudden voice of Vice Principal Robert snaps him back to reality through the magical monitor. The school officials are keeping a close eye on the battle, reminding Solo that he's strictly forbidden from helping. Solo mentally scolds himself for getting distracted by his own thoughts in the middle of a high-stakes exam. Back on the battlefield, Toturi hardens her resolve, determined to take down the boss and secure their points. Rex admits he's nearly out of magic energy, meaning their next move has to be a total victory. Toturi reveals a batch of fire poppies she collected, suggesting they use them for a strategic advantage. She explains that these plants grow wild in the jungle and might be the key to hitting the monster's weak point. She points out that the Gourmandron's eyes are its greatest vulnerability, especially since it loves the darkness. Since the monster chose to nest on this lightless lower level, it must be extremely sensitive to harsh glares. A blinding flash from the fire poppies would be just like intense sunlight, creating the perfect distraction. If they can stun the beast with a burst of light, they'll finally have the opening they've been looking for. Rex thinks it's a long shot, but he's willing to trust her judgment and give it everything they have. He orders her to go for it, while Toturi readies her wand for the most important spell of her life. Toturi vows to make the fire poppies bloom, even as Solo watches from above with a skeptical expression. Rex is worried because she's never successfully used this magic before, but Toturi feels strangely confident. She begins the ritual, shouting for the flowers to bloom as she channels every last drop of magic. As she chants "Grow Assist," a faint magical aura begins to envelop the seeds in her hand. The stress is clearly getting to her, and she knows that a single moment of doubt will lead to a total fail. Solo realizes that if the shield breaks and she fails, it's all over for Class D. He watches intently through his glasses, debating whether he should finally step in and help. Deciding that their points are more important than a fair win, he prepares to cast a secret supportive spell. He knows he can trick the observers into thinking the magic belongs to Toturi alone. Rex screams her name as a blinding light suddenly erupts from the poppies, surprising everyone. Toturi smiles as she feels the magic take hold, reassuring Rex that she won't let them down. She remembers the endless practice she put into this one spell just for a moment like this. Thinking of her classmates who supported her, she pours everything into the final burst of light. Toturi shouts her gratitude to Mr. Solo, determined to prove that his training wasn't in vain. Solo is momentarily taken aback by her intensity, his stoic expression softening as he watches her. With a final burst of energy, Toturi commands the fire poppies to bloom, activating her Grow Assist magic. The poppies explode in a brilliant flash of light, blinding the boss Mandrone and leaving it completely vulnerable. Seizing the moment, Rex and Toturi coordinate their final strike. They combine their magic into a devastating Moonlight Escort and Plant Fist combo, a giant wooden arm surging forward. The massive fist connect with a bone-jarring thud, finally bringing the beast down. A notification chimes as they secure the 10 points needed to pass the exam. Toturi lunges at Rex in a celebratory hug, while he blushes and thanks her for the assist. Observing the battle from the control room, Julius and Nico Robert are clearly impressed by the feat. Julius notes that Solo's unconventional training methods are already showing remarkable results. He decides that he'll need to have a proper conversation with the new teacher after the exam. Down in the jungle, Toturi and Rex run towards Solo, shouting their victory with broad smiles. Toturi is ecstatic, realizing she's finally passed her midterm exam against all odds. Solo offers a rare, genuine smile, telling them they did a good job. The exam scoreboard updates, confirming that Rex has also secured his 10 points. Solo shifts his focus, wondering how the rest of the students are holding up in their respective zones. Across the jungle, Xiao Shahar and Ibuki Brown are leading the charge against the final swarm of monsters. Every student in Class D works together, picking up points one by one as the timer counts down. A loud signal echoes through the trees, announcing that the midterm exam has officially concluded. The final results flash across the screens. Every single student in Class 2D has passed. The class erupts into wild cheers and laughter, finally letting out the tension of the last few days. During their post-exam break, Maiko Cecilia admits she was worried about her teammates, relieved they made it back. Panny Rao, student number 03, remarks on how grueling the final half of the test was, especially with their magic running low. Xiao and Ibuki thank the others for having their backs during the chaos. Maiko advises them all to learn from this and manage their energy better for future challenges. She looks ahead with determination, knowing she needs to master her transformation magic soon. Noelle Campbell is completely exhausted, prompting Minato Mikazuki to suggest they head back to the transportation gate. Nearby, a new student named Nagisa Snow, a boy with silver hair and a large scarf, is fast asleep on a giant mushroom. Nagisa wakes up with a lazy wow, seemingly unbothered by the high-stakes environment. He tells his classmates to go on ahead, claiming he just needs a little more rest. Maiko is stunned that someone so lazy could pass, while Xiao notes that Nagisa remains a complete mystery to the class. Xiao and Minato try to nudge him awake, but he remains stubborn. Unbeknownst to the group, two dangerous pitcher-like plant monsters are lurking in the shadows. The creatures lunge forward with a predatory grin, ready to strike the unsuspecting students. Suddenly, Nagisa's eyes snap open, his sleepy demeanor replaced by a cold, terrifying gaze. With a speed that defies the eye, Nagisa's pupil glints as he prepares to deal with the threat. In a blur of movement, the monsters are sliced to pieces before they can even get close. Nagisa is suddenly standing back with the group as if he never moved, while Panny tells him hurry up. He watches the remains of the monsters with a bored expression, thinking to himself that it was a good choice to end it quickly. As they walk away, the others warn him about staying alert for monsters, but he just finds the whole thing to be a pain. Everyone eventually gathers at the transportation door, where Toturi is waiting to welcome them all back. Toturi is welcomed back with open arms by her classmates, who are overjoyed to see her safe and sound. Rex finds himself the center of attention as the group teases him about his impressive wolf form, much to his embarrassment. Maiko, Cecilia, and Panny Rao can't help but poke fun at Rex's lone wolf persona, watching him turn bright red. Overwhelmed by the sudden attention, Rex snaps back that this is exactly why he prefers working alone. The atmosphere remains lighthearted as Maiko offers up one of her special love potions, while Toturi thanks her for the fire poppies. Solo Pastry watches his students interact, before being handed a special grow assist seed to set off. Toturi enthusiastically encourages her teacher to light up the sky in celebration of their victory. The rest of the class joins in, crowding around Solo with high expectations for a grand display. Even sleepy Nagisa Snow wakes up, his eyes sparkling at the prospect of receiving praise from their teacher. Every member of Class D gathers around, their eyes fixed on Solo as they wait for his final verdict on their performance. Internally, Solo is a nervous wreck, struggling to find the right words to compliment his energetic students. With a shaky voice, Solo manages to offer his praise and hopes for their future, activating the Grow Assist magic. A stunning, intricate floral pattern made of light blooms across the darkened sky, far more beautiful than any ordinary firework. The students are captivated by the sight, while Solo reflects on the growing bond he shares with this difficult class. They stand together in silence for a moment, mesmerized by the magical petals drifting down from the sky. Toturi points excitedly at the display, making sure Rex doesn't miss a single moment of the celebration. Smiles and laughter fill the clearing as the students of Class D finally allow themselves to relax after the grueling exam. Looking at his students, Solo feels a rare sense of pride, acknowledging that they truly did an excellent job. Nagisa lets out a soft yawn, the terrifying power he showed earlier completely hidden behind his usual lethargic mask. And so, the midterm exams concluded peacefully, with every student in Class D successfully passing without a single dropout. The following day, a mysterious message arrives for a bookie, hinting at a change in the fate of those destined for darkness. Midterms are finally over, and Solo is looking forward to a peaceful day off in his room. He's absolutely drained from the exams and everything else he's been juggling lately. But his students, like Xiao and Miko, burst in without warning and drag him out to go hang out. They head to Torialto, the closest major town to Orion, which is currently packed with newly stocked goods. The girls are way more hyped than he is, planning to splurge as a reward for passing their exams. Solo just stands there sweating, wondering how his relaxing day turned into a chaotic group outing. This town is the go-to spot for Orion students on the weekends, but it's the last place Solo wants to be. Even Rex ended up coming along, though he's clearly not happy about being stuck with a teacher on his day off. Solo asks about Ibuki and Nagisa, but apparently they decided to just sleep the day away instead. Toturi is just glad Rex actually made it, since she had pestered him over and over to join group. Rex just grumbles, claiming he only showed up so he could try and get along better with the rest of the class. Before Solo can even breathe, Miko grabs him and says he's coming shopping with girls first. He doesn't really have a choice as they start dragging him toward the clothing stores. Miko turns to him with a scary level of excitement and asks if he's ready for what's next. Solo's realization hits. Rewarding yourself means he's the one expected to pay for everything they buy. They start with a total makeover, putting him in flashy street style that totally washes out his tired face. They've got a whole catalog of outfits lined up for him because they're tired of his boring, all-black teacher look. He gets cycled through everything, noble attire, Eastern robes, and even a full cowboy getup. Solo tries to protest, but the girls are too busy browsing the store's magic catalog for more ideas. Miko and the others start trying on outfits too, from maid uniforms to elaborate traditional dresses. After Solo's fashion show, it's finally Todori's turn to pick something out for herself. She spots a specific pattern headband that catches her eye as soon as she enters the store. Since Rex's own headband got trashed during the exams, she wants to buy this one as a present for him. The other girls start whispering, not buying the just childhood friend's excuse for even a second. Todori brings up how Rex supposedly can't marry a human, which makes Solo wonder about the laws in this world. Apparently, there's no law against it, but Beast people have their own rules about preserving their kind through intermarriage. Miko and Azu start debating whether student romances really need to be that serious in the first place. Todori gets flustered, insisting they've never even looked at each other in a romantic way like that. She explains how Rex acts all tough at school because he's shy and doesn't want people getting the wrong idea. Solo listens as she reveals she was always worried he'd end up as a loner because of his attitude. She just wanted everyone to know that beneath the rough exterior, he's actually a very good person. It was frustrating for her when he'd get angry whenever she tried to stand up for him during her training. The other girls start teasing her again, asking if she's managed to find a husband for her family farm yet. Tori laughs it off, claiming she doesn't really understand that kind of stuff yet since they're only second years. They keep gushing about her needing someone kind, while Solo just sits there feeling completely ignored by his students. Then she drops a bombshell, saying the person she wants is someone just like Mr. Solo. That definitely catches everyone off guard, and Solo is left staring in complete disbelief. Right on cue, Rex shows up, looking as moody as ever despite the festive atmosphere. Todori hands him the new headband, then tells Solo to go off and hang out with the boys for the rest of the day. It's just Solo and Rex now, and the silence between them is beyond awkward as they walk together. Then Rex gets serious, asking if Solo actually has the resolve to stay on as Class D's teacher from here out. Solo is left stunned by the intensity of the question as Rex just turns around and walks away into the crowd. Solo is left stunned by Rex's sudden outburst. Apparently, the kid can't believe Todori has a crush on his teacher. Rex keeps ranting, convinced that any adult who'd be interested in a student is definitely a creep. Solo ignores the insult and focuses on what Rex said earlier about having the resolve to be a teacher. He starts to wonder if Rex misunderstood and thought he was trying to be Todori's husband instead. Getting back on track, Solo points out that Rex's entire world seems to revolve around Todori. Rex blushes furiously, insisting he's just worried about her family farm as a childhood friend. Solo doesn't buy it, noting that Rex's grades took a sharp dive during his first year. He realizes the internal conflict Rex faces, trapped between his feelings and the strict rules of his kind. Solo's internal monologue turns dark, thinking about how a broken heart could easily push someone toward villainy. He pictures himself as a meddling Cupid, realizing he needs to keep these two from dropping out. Deciding to test Rex's loyalty, Solo poses a very serious hypothetical question. He asks what Rex would do if Todori ever actually became an evil wizard. The question catches Rex off guard, since he can't imagine someone as kind as her doing anything like that. Solo pushes him to think about his responsibility as her friend if the unthinkable happened. He takes it a step further. What if Todori specifically asked Rex to join her in that darkness? Rex looks away, claiming he doesn't even want to consider a situation like that. But then he admits that if it was truly what she wanted, he wouldn't hesitate. He says he'd follow right along with her, following her wherever she went. Solo watches him walk off, confirming his theory that Todori is the key to Rex's future. Rex stops to clarify that he has no intention of actually becoming her husband, which Solo finds amusing. Needing a moment to reflect on the weight of their bond, Solo asks to be left alone for a bit. Rex watches him go, wondering if he said something wrong or if the teacher is just eccentric. He calls out one last time, thanking Solo for believing in Todori and giving her that extra training. With a respectful nod, Rex finally admits that he can accept Solo as their teacher. Solo is touched, realizing that his efforts are starting to reach these kids. His peaceful walk is interrupted by Xiao, who is currently covered in a ridiculous number of stray cats. Xiao asks if he got kicked out by the girls and invites him to go grab some food with the boys. Solo tries to act professional, but his love for egg tarts wins out over his desire for solitude. Nearby, the girls are exhausted but happy after their massive shopping spree. They relax on a bench, and Solo is just glad he managed to snag some rare magic ingredients. The girls keep teasing Todori about her love for Rex, but she just blushes. Listening in, Solo starts to truly understand the depth of the bond Rex described. Todori reflects on her ideal husband, wanting someone kind, just like her teacher or her childhood friend. Miko just laughs at her, clearly enjoying the drama of Todori's romantic confusion. Todori admits that Rex was the one who initially brought up the whole marriage topic. They walk off, just two ordinary friends with a bond that could determine the fate of the world. Later that evening, the scene shifts back to the quiet halls of the Orion School of Magic. Ibuki, or student number 13, arrives at Solo's room for their regular report meeting. As Solo enjoys some rose tea, they prepare to discuss the ongoing mission. Solo mentions at a briefing he had with Ms. Rose regarding the grim precognition of the future. Looking at the records, he knows that while everyone passed the midterms, the danger is far from over. He explains to Ibuki that if Toturi falls into darkness, Rex will inevitably follow her. Back in his room, Solo sifts through his notes, trying to wrap his head around the depth of Rex's feelings for Toturi. He wonders if such powerful emotions inevitably cloud a person's judgment, even considering if it would be simpler to just eliminate both of them. Ibuki reminds him that devotion can lead to difficult choices, though Solo is quick to warn him not to compare assassins to ordinary people. Looking at his list, Solo notes that with Rex and Toturi settled, only 8 potential evil wizards remain. Despite the progress, a nagging question remains: how exactly does preventing them from dropping out stop their transformation into villains? He considers if something tragic happens to Toturi after leaving school, prompting Rex to follow her into the darkness. A chill runs down his spine as he wonders if someone is behind the scenes, manipulating the students' hearts and minds. He knows that magic designed to control others is strictly forbidden and far beyond the skill of most wizards. Solo tries to clear his head, reminding himself that his current priority is simply keeping Class D in school. His train of thought is interrupted by Ibuki, who asks for a moment of his time to discuss something important. Before they can talk, an announcement rings out across the hallway, summoning Solo to the faculty meeting room immediately. Solo's face falls as he realizes he completely forgot about the meeting, leaving him scrambling to get there on time. He makes a quick excuse to Ibuki and dashes off, apologizing for the sudden departure. As he nears the faculty room, he laments how his assassin work is starting to interfere with his responsibilities as a teacher. Inside, Vice Principal Nico Robert prepares to call the second-year faculty meeting to order. The meeting room is an impressive space with floating platforms, emphasizing the hierarchy and power of the staff. Solo arrives late and out of breath, offering a hasty apology as he takes his place among the other instructors. The Class B teacher, Bib, can't resist mocking Solo's lack of stamina, much to Solo's internal annoyance. Solo sits down, dreading the interaction with his fellow teachers and hoping to remain as inconspicuous as possible. He worries that being too sloppy might lead one of these mid-level wizards to uncover his true identity as an assassin. His eyes lock onto a particularly sharp-looking teacher, Julius Hanen, wondering if he's always been so observant. Nico Robert begins the meeting by reviewing the results of the recent midterm examinations, starting with the top classes. Psi D, the Class S teacher, proudly reports that every single one of his 28 students passed the exam. Henry follows with Class A's results, beaming as she announces that all 37 of her students also succeeded. Bib reports for Class B, making excuses for his students' poor health before revealing that 6 of them failed. Solo can't help but glare at Bib, who seems to blame the difficulty of the monsters for his class's lackluster performance. Chammy, the Class C teacher, steps up next to announce that 6 of his students failed, including one who dropped out. The news of a dropout catches Solo off guard, forcing him to realize the harsh reality of the school's standards. Chammy explains that student number 37, Moya Meitai, decided to withdraw after a history of poor grades and tardiness. With a shout, Chammy declares that there's no need for a makeup exam and that the student has been officially dismissed. Solo is shaken by the ease with which a student can be discarded, noting that this is the first dropout in the group. He realizes he needs to be much more vigilant about his students' grades to prevent a similar fate for Class D. When Nico Robert finally calls for the results of Class D, Solo steels himself and steps forward. With a surprising amount of pride, Solo announces that every single member of Class D has passed the midterm exam. The room erupts into a flurry of shocked whispers, as the other teachers can't believe the rejects of Class D all succeeded. Bib looks particularly disgruntled, immediately questioning if the monsters for Class D were far weaker than those for Class B. He laughs dismissively at the idea of Class D succeeding, which only serves to irritate Solo further. Nico Robert silences the chatter, reminding everyone that there is no rule stating Class D must produce a dropout every year. He commends the hard work of both the students and their teacher, giving Solo a rare moment of official recognition. The moment of triumph is cut short as Bib slams his hand onto the table, demanding the faculty deliberate the results. Bib reveals that several teachers who watched the exam footage have raised serious doubts about Class D's performance. He levels a shocking accusation at the table, claiming that the students of Class D cheated on their midterm exams. Bib argues that Class D moved as a group, with higher-ranked students weakening the monsters so that lower-ranked students could land the finishing blows. He insists that this collaborative effort makes the entire exam meaningless, especially when compared to the individual performance required in other classes. Growing more heated, Bib demands that Solo take responsibility for this injustice, suggesting that the students should face expulsion rather than being allowed to pass. He scoffs at the idea of a makeup exam, insisting that their actions go against the very spirit of the academy. To everyone's absolute shock, Solo lets out a bright, cheerful laugh and tells Bib that he is entirely correct in his assessment. As the room falls into stunned silence, Solo leans in with a sharp, piercing gaze and asks Bib if he actually has any proof of his so-called unfair behavior. Solo calmly suggests a different interpretation of the exam footage. Rather than colluding, it looked like the students were simply catching their classmates off guard and stealing their monsters, a tactic that emphasizes cunning over simple collaboration. Teacher Bib isn't holding back, calling Solo out in front of everyone and claiming he's totally unfit for the job. He throws a massive tantrum, refusing to let his own class move forward unless Class D is forced to retake the exams. All eyes turn to Julius Hanan, the heavier, to see how he'll handle this mess. Solo sizes the guy up, surprised to see someone so young in such a high-ranking position. Julius starts off by siding with the older teacher, agreeing that Class D's behavior was definitely problematic. But then he drops a curveball, pointing out that technically the students didn't actually break a single school rule. With a charming smile, he blames the school's own lack of oversight for the loophole Class D exploited. To make things fair, he suggests letting the higher-ranked class take makeup exams instead of punishing the winners. Solo is genuinely impressed by the smooth political maneuvering. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. The other faculty members start grumbling, clearly unhappy with how things are being handled. Julius shuts down the noise instantly, telling everyone to quiet down and get back to business. He makes it clear that as long as the homeroom teacher believes in them, he's satisfied with the results. Julius waxes poetic about the noble path of education, leaving the rest of the teachers speechless. Solo finally exits the meeting feeling like he's aged 10 years, only to be ambushed by the vice principal. Nico Robert creeps up right behind him, giving Solo a serious fright. Robert notes how tired Solo looks, pointing out the massive dark circles under his eyes. He mentions that the situation with Class D seems to have settled for now, though he was worried earlier. He reveals that Toru was actually on the brink of being expelled due to her low performance. The administration was ready to cut her loose because of her inefficiency with magic. Solo plays it humble, pretending to be a clumsy teacher who's just trying his best to keep up. Robert explains that Class D's standing isn't just an accident, it's part of school structure. He admits the previous teacher also wanted to quit, highlighting how miserable that position really is. Solo realizes the academy is essentially a rigged game designed to keep these kids down. Robert lays out the truth. Class D is sacrificed as the bottom to keep the higher classes motivated and competitive. He proudly calls it scapegoat education, a cold-blooded policy meant to fuel elite wizards through fear. Solo clenches his fist in his pocket, fighting the urge to react to the cruelty of it all. He forces a sheepish grin, playing the part of the naive educator while plotting his next move. Solo points out that even with their issues, these students have real heart when it matters. He insists that if they actually focus, their potential is limitless. Robert just laughs it off, patronizingly telling Solo to keep up the good work. Solo reflects on how much he hates this school as he looks back at the imposing campus buildings. He finally catches up with the bookie, who greets him with a knowing smile. Solo confesses that the vice principal's sudden interest in him is making him very uneasy. Ibuki mentions that it's important to keep a sharp eye on things in this place. He casts a fairy whispers spell, creating a soundproof barrier so they can speak freely. Ibuki gets serious, suggesting the third party is actively trying to turn Class D into evil wizards. He reveals a sketch of strange eye symbol and asks Solo if he's seen it before. Solo is baffled by the symbol, and apparently, even the magic experts have never seen anything like it. Ibuki explains that the mark appears whenever a powerful curse or brainwashing spell is at play. The color drains from Solo's face as he realizes he saw that exact same mark in Zhao's eye. They realize if this conspiracy succeeds, Class D will end up destroying the entire country. Solo realizes his terrifying hunch from this morning was spot on after all. Solo and Ibuki discuss the mysterious eye, noting that so far, it's only appeared in Zhao. Solo recalls the first time he saw it near Torial 2, and the second time during the midterm exams. He asks Ibuki what Zhao's behavior was like when the mark manifested. Zhao was in a complete magic trance both times, leaving him mentally shaken afterward. Ibuki asks if Zhao's eye felt weird after the fight, but Zhao claimed everything was fine. Solo breaks a sweat as he realizes the victim doesn't even know they've been targeted by magic. The biggest issue is that they can't sense any trace of the magic being cast at all. Ibuki points out that for a wizard to remain undetected by instructors at this school, it must be incredible. Solo imagines this mysterious third party, realizing they're up against an extremely high-level magic user. Solo stares at the sketch of the eye, admitting he's never seen anything like it before. Ibuki is genuinely shocked that there's actually a type of magic Solo isn't familiar with. They conclude that the person who cast the spell is likely the only one who can undo it. They suspect the culprit is someone directly affiliated with the Orion School of Magic. Solo makes a face, annoyed that things just keep getting more and more complicated. The mission remains the same: keep Class D from dropping out while hunting for the mysterious third party. As they wrap up their talk, Solo realizes the weight on his shoulders just got a lot heavier. The bookie finds it strange that the eye would appear in Xiao, whose future has supposedly already been altered. Solo wonders if this means Xiao is still destined to become an evil wizard despite his efforts. He warns that snooping around too much might alert the third party to their presence. Ibuki is impressed by Solo's caution, praising him for thinking ahead. They have to deal with this person soon, or Class D is as good as gone. Solo sits back and watches the students in the courtyard, deep in thought. He looks at the group, wondering what's really going on in their heads. He remembers Rex saying he followed Toturi into darkness, realizing their bonds could be their downfall. Solo suggests that the third party might not be an outsider at all. He considers the terrifying possibility that the mole is actually someone within Class D. Ibuki is stunned, but Solo admits he doesn't have a specific target in mind yet. Their private conversation is suddenly interrupted by someone calling out Solo's name. Solo spins around, his guard up immediately. It's Julius Hanan, who apologizes for not introducing himself properly earlier in the meeting. Julius asks for a moment of his time, his eyes fixed on Solo. He formally introduces himself as the head teacher of Year 2. Solo starts panicking, wondering if he's somehow messed up already. Julius asks what they're doing whispering in such a deserted corner of school. Solo nervously laughs it off, saying they're just talking about general school life. Ibuki tries to help, but he phrases it so poorly that Solo ends up blushing in embarrassment. Julius recognizes Ibuki as the transfer student and offers a friendly smile. He drops a bombshell, telling Solo that he's become extremely interested in him. Solo is caught off guard as Julius asks if he can inquire about his unique teaching methods. Solo tries to downplay it, but Julius seems determined to learn his secrets. He asks for permission to observe one of Class D's lessons personally. The next day, the school bell rings out, signaling the start of another chaotic class for 2D. Solo starts the lesson with a burst of forced enthusiasm, urging the students to open their magic history textbooks. The students whisper among themselves, confused by Solo's unusually innocent and cheerful behavior. As Solo begins lecturing about witches, he notices Julius Hanan watching from the back of the room with a pleasant smile. Solo is internally screaming, unable to believe that the head of year is actually following through with the observation. Julius gives him a playful wink and a sign, promising to stay discreet and not disrupt the flow of the class. Solo is incredibly suspicious, wondering why someone as high-ranking as Julius would bother with the infamous Class D. Solo knows he can't afford to look like a fraud, especially since he doesn't actually have a teaching license. He asks Noel a simple question about when witches went extinct, hoping for an easy win to impress the observer. Noel, however, completely blanks out, deciding that some truths are better left unknown as he shuts his book. Solo sighs, realizing that Noel is officially the biggest idiot in the class, currently ranked 11th in grades. He turns to Katlia, student number 02, hoping she might actually remember the material from the previous year. Katlia just gives him a blank, cheerful stare, having absolutely no idea what he's talking about. Even Nagisa is fast asleep at his desk, further cementing the image of Class D as a complete lost cause. Solo is nearly at his breaking point when Xiao finally raises his hand, ready to provide the correct answer. Xiao correctly states that witches went extinct 300 years ago after a long war with humanity. Solo is relieved and praises Xiao, though he suspects Xiao only answered to keep up appearances. Ibuki sits nearby, seething with anger because he also knew the answer but had to play the part of a dumb student. Xiao mocks Ibuki for being crazy dumb, further fueling the silent rivalry between the two. Solo realizes the first lesson was a disaster and hopes the next one, potions, will go more smoothly. He stands before the class in a lab coat, warning everyone that preparing potions is a delicate and dangerous task. Naturally, things go wrong immediately, and a massive explosion rocks the classroom. Azu's hair is blown back, and she looks dazed as her experiment literally blows up in her face. She admits that she treats potion making like cooking and just eyeballs the ingredients, which is clearly a bad idea. The resulting brew stinks so bad that Solo can only describe it as a true mystery brew of bad luck. Solo rushes over to help another student whose cauldron is starting to smoke ominously. Suddenly, a geyser of foul-smelling liquid erupts from one of the pots, drenching the nearby area. Xiao realizes he accidentally used the ingredients Ibuki had carefully prepared, leading to the chemical reaction. Xiao apologizes with a carefree grin, while Ibuki is left shaking with rage at the blatant sabotage. Total chaos erupts as students start throwing things at each other, and Solo can only watch in despair. The scene shifts to the afternoon, where everyone is exhausted and covered in potion residue from the day's lessons. For the final lesson of the day, Solo takes the class outside to practice broom riding. He explains that while people usually ride alone, they need to practice riding in pairs for emergencies. One of the students immediately plummets toward the ground, screaming as they lose control of their broom. Solo watches the carnage with a deadpan expression, wondering why anyone would want to manipulate these kids into evil wizards. After the class ends, Julius approaches Solo to wrap up his observation for the day. Solo is terrified of the feedback, assuming Julius must think Class D's reputation has only sunken lower. To Solo's surprise, Julius tells him that the observation was actually quite enlightening. Julius remarks that although there were many oversights, there was something very positive about the class. He points out that despite the constant failures and chaos, the students actually looked like they were having fun. Solo is stunned as Julius admits that even though they're Class D, their spirit is something special. The background is a literal hellscape of motion-sick students lying on the ground after the broom lesson. The next day, Julius's observation has ended, leaving Solo alone to reflect on the strange compliments he received. Julius Hanan greets Solo with a bright, charming smile, expressing his gratitude for being allowed to observe Class D the previous day. As they walk through the corridor, Solo lets out a nervous laugh, feeling completely drained by the head of year's presence and wondering what Julius is really plotting. Julius notes that they didn't have much time to talk privately during the observation and mentions that he has an interesting proposal for Solo. With a playful wink and a confident grin, Julius leans in and asks Solo if he would like to go on a date with him. Solo's mind goes completely blank, his face stuck in a look of pure confusion as he tries to process the absurd invitation. After school, the cafeteria at Orion School of Magic is packed with students. Julius Hanan, the Year 2 head teacher, asks Solo if this is his first time using cafeteria. Solo admits he's not great with crowded places. He suggests they head to the terrace instead. There's an area reserved for faculty that's much quieter. Julius jokes about having a nice, long chat one-on-one, even calling it a date. Solo is already feeling a bit overwhelmed. He realizes Julius is exactly the type of person he struggles to handle. As they walk, a group of students spots Julius and rushes over. They're thrilled to see him back from his business trip. Julius greets them with a big smile. Solo can see just how popular the guy is around campus. He politely turns down their training requests, saying he's already got plans with Solo. The students whisper as they pass. They don't get why a top teacher is hanging out with someone as plain and weak as Solo. Solo ignores the chatter, focused on rumors of a third-party teacher turning Class D students into evil wizards. They arrive at a terrace on a floating island. It's off-limits to students and offers a peaceful view of the school. Solo has to admit, the view is impressive. It's a perfect spot for a quiet conversation. Julius sets down a plate of canellas. He's got a real thing for them and has loved the school's version for a long time. He reveals he's an alumnus of Orion. Back in his day, he was the top student in Class S. He's always been an elite. Then he flips the script and asks Solo where he attended school. Solo's heart skips a beat. This is the one question he dreaded the most. He lies and says he was homeschooled because he grew up with a weak constitution. Julius accepts the answer and moves on, asking why Solo decided to become a teacher. Solo gives a generic answer about a private tutor he looked up to, then quickly asks Julius the same thing to shift the focus. Julius gets serious. He says he became a teacher because he wants to change the school. He asks if Solo knows about the school's scapegoat education policy. He explains that the school fan competition by giving top classes better training while neglecting the bottom classes. It's a policy that's been in place since Julius was a student himself. He landed on the side of results, but he couldn't stop noticing students who were sacrificed for the system. He started to wonder if it was really okay to just let things be. Solo understands the logic, but Julius pivots to a quick history lesson. Long ago, there were witches with massive power who taught humans their magic. But eventually, war broke out between humans and witches, and the witches were wiped out. Magic became human possession, and wizards took on the responsibility of managing it. Wizards today handle everything from monster subjugation to protecting fairy forests. But their most important duty is punishing those who abuse magic, the ones called evil wizards. Solo listens in silence. Julius mentions the principal believes the school's primary goal is to produce superior wizards at any cost. But Julius believes education should be more equal across the classes. Most teachers either agree with the principal or just focused on their own research. Solo wonders where he fits in. And Julius gets to the point. He asks Solo to start a school revolution with him. Solo is taken aback by the word. Julius explains he needs a collaborator. He needs someone with real ability who isn't already molded by the school's ideology. Solo tries to slow things down, pointing out he only just learned about the school's scapegoat policy. Julius mentions the vice principal also wants change, but is too close to the principal to act. He approached Solo instead to avoid getting the others in trouble. Plus, he just wanted a tea buddy. Julius Hanan is practically beaming, pumped up about tearing down the mistakes of the older generation. Solo watches him, thinking that behind that friendly smile, the guy is actually kind of weirdo. He admits to himself that changing the system would definitely make his life easier. But he's not about to stick his neck out and get fired just to make a point. He realizes he doesn't actually know the first thing about education anyway. Looking at Julius across the table, Solo can't help but be suspicious. There's a chance someone on the faculty is behind the students turning evil, and Julius is a prime candidate. So, he keeps it blunt and turns the offer down. He just doesn't trust the guy enough to jump into a revolution. He admits the school is twisted, but he's not signing up. Julius looks genuinely surprised by the flat rejection. Julius takes it in stride, acknowledging that the real world isn't as simple as people want it to be. He points out that the students in Class D are only there because of the choices they made themselves. Solo's expression darkens as he thinks back to a similar situation in his own past. He's clearly speaking from a place of painful experience. Instead of a kind world, Solo says he wants his students to find the strength to survive in the awful one they actually live in. Julius is momentarily stunned by the raw resolve in Solo's eyes. Sensing the heavy mood, Solo quickly tries to walk it back. He bows his head and asks for forgiveness, stating his only focus right now is teaching his class. Julius relents, calling it Solo's own educational policy. Solo wonders if he accidentally let too much of his true self as number 0 slip out. Julius sighs, saying he'll just have to handle the whole revolution thing on his own. He gives a playful wink and tells Solo to keep their little chat a secret before ending their tea time. As Julius gets ready to head out, he mentions he won't push for formal alliance anymore. Instead, he plans to show the principal that great wizards can be raised without their cruel system, and he's going to use Class D's success to prove it. He flashes a warm smile, telling Solo that they're basically on the same team now anyway, whether he likes it or not. He promises to shield Solo from being fired while outwardly acting like the principal's loyal subordinate. With a whoosh, Julius hops on a broom and flies off, calling out that they should do this again soon. Solo watches him disappear into the distance. He still doesn't quite get the guy, and he's definitely not good with people who are that high energy. Back at the school, we meet student number 13, Ibuki. Solo walks through the halls, thinking about how Julius's little speech actually ended up motivating him to get to work. He finds Ibuki and asks if he's free after class to help look for something in the library. What he's looking for is the Class D record, a notebook left behind by the previous teacher. Solo had to interrogate the teacher from Class B, who hilariously admitted he lost it while organizing the library. The guy claims it's full of subjective notes and personal info on the kids, and Solo isn't letting him off the hook for losing something that important. Ibuki mentions that the last teacher quit in less than a month, so the record might be thin. But Solo is determined. He knows he needs to understand who these students really are if he's going to lead them. They arrive at the massive, castle-like structure of the Orion School of Magic Library. The inside is even more staggering, with floor-to-ceiling shelves stretching as far as the eye can see. Solo stares at the sheer scale of the place. Trying to find one single notebook in here feels like an impossible task. He sighs and tells Ibuki they better get started because this is going to take a while. He wishes he could just use a search spell, but flashy magic is strictly forbidden in the library. Suddenly, they run into Kai, student number 06, who's surprised to see his teacher in a place like this. Kai is holding a recipe book for popular side dishes, laughing about how great the variety of books is here. Kai jokes that the library is a nice break from the classroom since it's so quiet. Azu is also there, looking completely absorbed in the intellectual atmosphere of the place. Solo watches his students, noting that even the flashy ones like Dante seem to spend a lot of time here. Solo asks if they were all just here for leisure reading. He's got Miko Cecilia, or Toturi, joining the group too. He asks the kids for help, but Miko whispers that students aren't technically allowed to look at class records. Solo tells them it's fine as long as they don't peek inside. With a new team of helpers, they start to hunt through the endless rows of books. Miko Cecilia is full of energy, excitedly suggesting that they get every student they can find to join the search. Solo is taken aback by the sudden chaos as a crowd of students, including Azu, Kai, and Xiao, begins tearing through the shelves. One student even claims they already have the book they're looking for at home. Once things settle down a bit, Solo notices some familiar faces are missing. He's told that Toturi and Rex are tending to the flowers, while Katlia is busy with the training. A stern shoo echoes through the library as Ibuki tries to maintain order, causing some of the more rowdy students to quickly apologize. Miko Cecilia pauses, asking Solo to describe the missing notebook one more time. He explains it has a distinctive leather cover and a bookmark strap with the school's insignia. Despite their thorough search, they haven't turned up a single clue. Azu and Miko look exhausted, realizing they might have reached a dead end on this floor. High above them on a ledge, they spot Nagisa, Snow, casually reading a book. Nagisa, you were here this whole time? It turns out Dante was lurking nearby too, but he coldly informs them that he has no intention of helping, as it's not his responsibility. Nagisa, true to form, starts dozing off. He sleepily explains that the library is the perfect place for a nap because it's so quiet. Nagisa mentions that the other person Kai spoke of was indeed him. To Nagisa, the words on the pages are nothing more than a lullaby inviting him to sleep. Then, Nagisa points out that there's a storage area in the basement where old and potentially dangerous magical tomes are kept. The mention of the basement sends a wave of excitement through the students, even though they know it's usually off limits to them. Solo explains that students are allowed down there as long as they're accompanied by a teacher. He decides to go borrow the key, much to the kid's delight. Da-da! Solo produces the heavy, ornate key and pushes open the massive doors to the underground archives with a loud creak. As they step into the dim light of the basement, the students are awestruck by the eerie atmosphere. One student even remarks that the darkness is a perfect fit for their personality. Solo tries to set some ground rules, warning them not to go touching anything recklessly, but he's immediately ignored as the kids start grabbing books. Penny finds a particularly cool-looking volume, while Miko Cecilia is just happy that they can finally raise their voices without being shushed. Suddenly, Solo's tone turns serious. He gathers everyone around, telling them there's something important he needs to ask. Standing before the group, Solo asks them a fundamental question. Why are they even at this school in the first place? The students are caught off guard by the question, their initial excitement fading into thoughtful silence. Solo can't help but wonder, given how poorly Class D is treated, why haven't they all just quit and left the school behind? Azu is the first to speak up, explaining with a bright smile that she's here simply to research the things she loves, like magic potions and tools. She admits she's not great at actually using magic, and that Class D is perfect because she doesn't have to deal with the pressure of high expectations. Noel proudly declares that his goal is to become a wizard of darkness, while Nanato admits he's only here because his parents forced him to come. Another student mumbles in the corner, feeling cursed by their natural talent from magic and societal expectations that come with it. A fellow classmate agrees, saying their parents insisted that graduating would make their future lives much easier. Penny chimes in, admitting she hasn't thought much about the future at all. For now, she just wants to have fun while she's still in school. Penny adds that the best part of school is being able to spend time with all of her friends. Solo is surprised to realize that their motivations are much simpler than he expected. Even Xiao and Rex have their own personal, albeit less grand, reasons for staying. Then, Solo turns his gaze toward Dante, who has been keeping his distance. What about you, Dante? Why are you here? Dante doesn't take the bait, coldly stating that he doesn't feel the need to share his personal reasons with anyone. As Dante walks away, Solo reflects on how the boy remains distant, even while the rest of the class has started to bond. He still won't show me what's really inside, Solo thinks, his sharp gaze fixed on Dante's retreating back. Miko Cecilia watches her teacher, sensing the tension. Their conversation is cut short by a series of eerie whispers coming from the bookshelves. Open me! Open me! Miko Cecilia gasps in shock, looking around for the source of the voices. Miko Cecilia, Totori, find a mysterious book in a library with a sign that practically begs her to open it. As she reaches for it, the book begins to glow and float right out of the shelf. Solo Pastry realizes something's wrong, but the pages are already starting to turn on their own. A massive vortex of dark energy erupts from the book, pulling the entire class toward it. Solo tells everyone not to move, but they're already losing their footing against the suction. The darkness consumes them all as Solo gets knocked aside while trying to grab students. The magic book slams shut, and the library falls into a heavy silence. Somewhere far away, a lone eye slowly flickers open to take in new surroundings. Ibuki wakes up on a patch of grass, realizing he's been turned into a tiny chibi wearing a dwarf costume. The rest of the class is scattered nearby, all shocked to see they've shrunk and changed clothes. Everyone starts to panic as they realize their bodies are completely different. A voice from the sky suddenly announces that they've entered a story world. The students look up at the clouds, searching for the source of the mysterious voice. A shadowy figure explains that they're now characters in this world and have to defeat the villain to leave. The catch is simple. If they fail, they'll be trapped inside this book for eternity. The class isn't exactly thrilled about the book's mocking good luck message as it vanishes. Ibuki looks dejected, realizing they've stumbled into a seriously dangerous magical trap. Miko Cecilia, Totori, starts to worry about Solo, who seems to have been left behind on the outside. Back in the library, Solo is out cold with a nasty bump on his head. In the story world, the students try to stay calm and figure out their next move. Ibuki pulls out his wand, figuring they can at least use magic to protect themselves. They do a quick head count and realize Kai, Penny, and Nagisa Snow are missing. Before they can start a search, a giant monster lunges out of the shadows at them. The kids don't hesitate, blasting the creature with a barrage of magical beams. The monster vanishes instantly, leaving them confused by how easy the fight was. But just a few spells have already left the boys completely winded and gasping for air. It turns out these tiny bodies have almost no stamina or mana to spare. They realize this adventure is going to be a lot more exhausting than they thought. Miko Cecilia, Totori, is already struggling just to keep her breath. The group decides to stick together and begins trekking deeper into the forest. They keep wondering where their other classmates could have ended up. Suddenly, Miko points out something strange lying in a clearing ahead of them. They find a glass coffin sitting in the middle of the field, and Nagisa Snow is inside. Everyone freaks out, thinking Nagisa has actually died. He just sits up and yawns, admitting he only laid down because he was sleepy. Miko looks at his outfit and realizes Nagisa has been cast as Snow White. She explains the setup. The 7 of them are the dwarfs, and Nagisa is the princess. One of the guys looks completely lost, having never heard the story before. Miko decides it's time for a quick fairy tale history lesson. She tells them about the vain queen who is obsessed with her own beauty. Then comes the part where the hunter took pity on the princess and let her flee into the woods. She finishes with a poisoned apple and how the queen finally fell off a cliff to her death. Miko finishes the story with a classic happy ending, but Ibuki isn't quite sold on the whole true love's kiss thing. He thinks the idea of bringing someone back to life with a kiss is scientifically impossible. Ibuki asks Xiao if he's the type to actually fall for that romance stuff, and Xiao doesn't seem reminded. Xiao admits he likes the power of love, though Ibuki thinks 7 kittens would have been a way better casting choice than 7 dwarfs. Nanato sits alone, gloomily comparing himself to the villain because they both use poison magic. Suddenly he snaps and starts laughing like a maniac, declaring that villains in darkness are actually pretty cool. While Dante worries about being used as a guinea pig for poison magic, Azu and Noel are getting way too into the villain theme. Miko snaps at them to stop fooling around and focus on their actual survival. She reminds them that the queen is the villain of this world, and they have to find her to get home. Since they're in the forest from the story, Miko figures the queen's castle shouldn't be too far away. She rallies the group to head there first, and the whole class is pumped up and ready to move. But then they notice the glass coffin from earlier is just sitting there in the clearing. Before they can check on it, the coffin sprouts legs and starts sprinting away through the woods. High up in her floating castle, the evil queen is admiring her own reflection, convinced she's the fairest in the world. It's a classic fairy tale setup. To escape the book, Class D has to take down this magical narcissist. The queen asks her mirror the million-dollar question, fully expecting her usual ego boost. The magic mirror turns out to be Panny, who has no choice but to kiss up and say the queen is the most beautiful. Panny is doing her best to survive, flattering the queen's makeup and sense of style. Then there's Kai, who's been cast as the huntsman and is currently bowing and apologizing for his failures. The queen tells him to wipe that grin off his face, threatening to end him if he fails to kill Snow White again. Since the princess is still alive, the queen has already dispatched a wave of monster minions to hunt down the dwarves. She lets out a villainous laugh, obsessed with staying the fairest in the land at any cost. Kai and Panny are sweating bullets, knowing they're stuck serving a total psycho. Kai wonders why he's the only one forced to play the huntsman while his friends are probably having fun elsewhere. He's desperate for the rest of the class to show up, but Panny points out he doesn't exactly look like a hero right now. Back in the woods, the rest of the students are busy fighting off the queen's shadow monsters. The enemies just keep coming, making it a grueling battle for the tiny students to handle. They finally manage to clear the area, but the constant combat has taken a huge toll on their energy. Since it's gotten dark, they decide to set up a small camp and take a much-needed break. Miko is completely wiped out and flops on the ground, while the others try to recover. They start discussing Nagisa Snow's magic, figuring that since he didn't shrink, he should be their ace in the hole. The problem is that Nagisa is always sleeping, and nobody knows if he can even fight in a real battle. While they huddle around the fire, they can't help but worry if Kai and Panny are safe. Miko thinks back to Solo Pastry, imagining him with a sinister grin like he's the real villain of the story. They wonder why their teacher wasn't sucked in too, guessing the book might only go after children. Looking at the empty coffin, Miko starts thinking about why Solo even bothered coming to Orion. She asks the others what they think his true reason is for being their teacher. Xiao thinks it's simple. Solo just wants to get to know them better, though Nanato looks skeptical. Miko stays quiet, deep in her own thoughts about their mysterious new instructor. Azu turns the question back on her, asking Miko why she ended up in Class D to begin with. Miko claims she already knows the answer to that, but she's not ready to share the details. She admits to herself that she was just terrified of losing, and she thought quitting was the only way to avoid it. Miko sits by the fire, admitting that she came to Orion hoping to become a top-tier wizard, but soon realized she lacked talent. She recalls her time in the elite classes, where she was surrounded by geniuses and eventually ignored by both teachers and classmates. Back then, she felt naive, knowing her own shortcomings were the root of the problem, but still feeling the sting of neglect. Her voice drops as she confesses a deep-seated hatred for most adults and the teachers who gave up on her. The light of the campfire flickers across her face as she explains how she just wanted to graduate quietly, doing her best despite the lack of recognition. But everything changed when Solo Pastry arrived, bringing a weird energy that disrupted her cynical view of the world. With a genuine smile, Miko tells her friends that, surprisingly, Solo isn't someone she hates. The rest of Class D stares at her in stunned silence, clearly surprised by her sudden burst of sincerity. Panicking at their reaction, Miko immediately starts rambling about Solo's terrible fashion sense and his dead-eyed stare, just to cover her embarrassment. She warns them never to tell Solo what she just said, while the others exchange knowing looks. Xiao and Azu talk about how lucky they feel to have ended up together, especially since the atmosphere in other classes is so cold. Ibuki agrees, thankful he's in Class D instead of being an outcast elsewhere, before they all decide to call it night. The next morning, Nagisa, Snow, finally begins to wake up, his gaze distant as he takes in their strange surroundings. They arrive at the massive, imposing gates of the Queen's castle, the sun rising behind its jagged stone towers. Miko rallies the group, telling everyone to hurry while Ibuki makes sure Nagisa is fully conscious and ready for whatever's inside. The heavy castle doors creak open, revealing the grand, dark halls of the villain's lair. The Queen herself is waiting for them, looking down with a mixture of shock and absolute fury at the tiny trespassers. Kai and Panny look on in horror as the Queen realizes her monsters fail to stop the dwarves from reaching her throne room. The Queen's eyes widen as she demands to know how Snow White is still alive and standing before her. She erupts in a terrifying blaze of magical energy, while Nagisa just stands there, wondering if he can go back to sleep. Consumed by her own narcissism, the Queen vows that this time she will personally see to it that Snow White is finished. The floor begins to rumble as the Queen summons the Well of Despair, a dark magic that makes even the students shiver. A massive, shadowy hand erupts from the ground, grabbing Nagisa before anyone can react. In an instant, Nagisa is dragged down into the darkness of the well, leaving Miko and the others screaming in terror. The Queen laughs, explaining that her most powerful minion dwells within the well and is hungry. She drops a bombshell. If Snow White dies, the story ends in tragedy, and they'll be trapped in the book forever. The students are paralyzed with fear, realizing they have to fight for their lives while also protecting their sleeping protagonist. A massive, terrifying monster begins to haul itself out of the abyss, and Ibuki desperately shouts for everyone to save Nagisa. The Queen blocks their path with a wall of monsters, telling them they won't be allowed to interfere with their pet's meal. Miko and the others look on helplessly, the situation turning from a fairy tale adventure into a literal nightmare. Deep inside the well, Nagisa's eyes narrow as he comes face to face with a creature in the dark. A grotesque, shapeless mass of sludge and teeth looms over him, letting out a horrific sound. Nagisa notes that this thing's magic is on a completely different level than anything they've faced so far. Looking around to make sure no one is watching, he sighs and decides that he really can't afford to die here. Suddenly, his eyes flare with power, his pupils shifting into brilliant star shapes as he prepares to get serious. Nagisa Snow opens his eyes, revealing a pair of star-shaped pupils as he finally gets serious. He channels his magic, unleashing an icicle blade engraving that glows with an intense light. A massive slash of ice tears through the air, completely obliterating everything in its path. He summons a colossal hammer construct to deliver a crushing blow to the remaining monsters. The heavy weapon slams into the ground with a deafening thud, flattening his enemies. Nagisa stands calmly as the impact of his magic sends debris flying in every direction. The slime monster pops like a soap bubble, unable to withstand the sheer pressure of his power. He raises his sword high, surrounded by a whirlwind of shattered ice and stone. The intense light in his eyes fades away, returning him to his usual sleepy state. He looks at his trembling hand, realizing that even with this power, he can't fight for very long in this body. With a quiet sigh, he decides it's time to put an end to the battle. A massive surge of frost erupts, encasing the area in a jagged, crystalline sculpture of ice. The entire world seems to shatter into millions of glittering shards as his magic dissipates. Nagisa walks through the falling ice, his expression as blank as ever. He thinks back to why he even came along, originally just wanting to check out the library's basement. A small smirk tugs at his lips as he reflects on what he's managed to gain from this journey. Exhausted, he plops down onto the ground, decided that he's done more than enough for today. He reaches a hand toward the sky, noting that his role in this story isn't quite ready to begin. Nagisa's eyes drift shut as he leaves the fate of Class D to someone else. His consciousness fades, completely indifferent to the chaos still unfolding in the magic world. Meanwhile, the Snow White Queen cackles with delight at the students' desperate situation. The students are swarmed by monsters, their tiny dwarf bodies struggling to keep up with the onslaught. Panny points out that no matter how many they clear, more just keep respawning. The Queen mocks their futile efforts, ordering her minions to kill them all and prove she is the fairest. Ibuki and the others are at their limit, their legs refusing to move another inch. Ibuki collapses onto the ground as a massive monster towers over him, ready to strike. Panny tries to fight back with a quick spell, but the monster barely feels it. With a single swipe, he's sent flying across the room, leaving the rest of them defenseless. Ibuki looks up in horror as his magic finally hits its limit, leaving him completely cornered. The Queen looms over them, telling her monster that it's time to have a snack. A sudden explosion of power rocks the entire area, catching everyone off guard. Dozens of massive, glowing blades rain down from the sky, instantly crushing the monster horde. Through the smoke, a figure descends, it's Solo pastry, but he's dressed in the most ridiculous prince outfit imaginable. The students look up in disbelief, recognizing their teacher despite the frilly clothes and feathered cap. Solo stands there stoically, trying his best to look heroic while wearing a costume that clearly doesn't fit his personality. The sheer absurdity of his attire breaks the tension, and the students start laughing hysterically at him. Solo snaps at them, lecturing them for panicking and making mistakes while he was away. He looks completely flustered, muttering that the role of the prince was the only one left for him to take. Solo explains that since the magic kept the world shut, he had to force his way in using brute force. He points out that to return home, they just have to defeat the villain, who is already lying defeated behind him. The students are stunned, realizing that Solo took out the queen without them even noticing. They break out into cheers, thrilled that their teacher came to save them in his own weird way. Solo's expression hardens as he listens to the book's twisted logic, calling its actions unforgivable. The magic tome's voice booms through the hall, refusing to allow a happy ending brought about by an uninvited character. The students are startled by a sudden, massive surge in magical energy. The tome reveals its true form as the sentient, true villain, declaring that they must defeat it to return to their world. Solo realizes the book never had any intention of letting them go from the start. The class descends into a panic, with Panny shouting that he's completely out of mana. Solo shouts for everyone to shut up and stay where they are. He commands them to be good students and leave the rest to their teacher. The true villain claims to be the strongest being in this world, but Solo is completely unfazed. He summons a colossal sword, preparing to shatter the book's reality with raw power. A blinding flash of magic fills the room as he strikes the decisive blow. Solo's gaze is fixed and determined as he forces the story to its conclusion. Suddenly, the entire class is teleported back to the Orion School's library basement, surrounded by scattered books. The students are relieved to find Nagisa and Panny are back safe and sound as well. The group discusses their survival, while Nagisa admits he spent the whole time just running away. Nagisa smiles weakly, glad that everyone managed to defeat the villain in the end. Solo observes the magic tome as it dissolves into a dark, ink-like residue. Maiko Cecilia is surprised to see the book vanish, but Solo maintains he didn't do anything to it. Solo starts to worry about the property damage, fearing he might lose his job over the ruined books. Among the mess on the floor, Maiko spots a leather-bound notebook. She picks it up and asks if this is the journal Solo had been searching for. Solo is relieved to see it, finally remembering his original reason for coming here. Panny explains that the notebook is a class record used to document student behavior and personalities. Maiko Cecilia snatches the book, eager to see what the previous teacher thought of her. She opens it up, only to find the pages are completely empty. Solo is disappointed, realizing the previous teacher didn't leave a single note on any of them. The realization hits Maiko that their former instructor didn't care enough to even observe them. Solo takes the notebook back, declaring that he'll be the one filling its pages from now on. Maiko Cecilia jokingly wonders if he'll write down how cute she is. Solo dryly remarks that he'll most likely be writing about how she never listens to instructions. The class starts cleaning up the basement, surprised to learn that only 2 hours have passed in reality. The scene shifts to the hallway outside the principal's office. Julius Hanen prepares to enter the office as the school day winds down. It's revealed that Solo and Ibuki's original mission was to eliminate Class D to prevent them from becoming the 12 evil wizards. However, their orders have changed to keeping the students in school and uncovering the mystery behind the sinister eye. Later that evening, the focus moves to the teachers' dorms. Ibuki finishes tidying up Solo's room, looking proud of his hard work. Solo sits at his desk, grateful for the clean space even if he didn't explicitly ask for it. Ibuki asks what his master wanted to discuss so urgently. Solo reveals he wants to summarize all the information they have on Class D in the new record. He starts with Xiao Shahar, the top-level student with natural leadership skills, and Katlia Berry, a student with exceptional practical magic ability. He continues with Panny Rao, a talented summoner, and Rex Red, a wolf beast person who is fiercely loyal to his friends. Solo continues his entries with student number 05, Azu Merci, noting her top grades and potions despite her constant mischief and close friendship with Maiko. He moves through the list, describing Kai Alvern as friendly but timid, the gloomy but potentially powerful Minato Mikazuki, and a rebellious yet hard-working Dante Dalton. Next is Maiko Cecilia, whose sassiness is softening, and the airhead Toturi Leander, an only child and heir to a family farm whose magic growth is notably slow. The list concludes with Noelle Campbell, a talkative and sensitive student who shares a room with Nanato, and the perpetually sleeping, solitary Nagisa Snow. Ibuki is impressed by Solo's diligence, to which Solo admits he relies on these notes because he's prone to forgetting details. Solo believes this record will be vital if any issues arise regarding the students leaving school, maintaining his persona as a committed educator. Ibuki jokingly warns Solo not to record any secret mission details, and Solo asks for Ibuki's personal observations of the students. He reflects on a softer side of the students, remembering Maiko's surprising admission that she doesn't actually hate him. Ibuki pauses for a moment, considering Solo's question about the students' hidden traits. Ibuki notes Zhao's overfamiliarity and Maiko's constant insolence, but Solo clarifies that he's looking for deeper insights. Solo consults the official student directory, finding mundane details like hometowns and siblings that weren't in his previous briefings. They discuss the limitations of the school's records, noting that even Solo's own background information submitted to the school is a complete fabrication. Ibuki suggests that the Department of Magic should have more extensive data on the students' families, which they should be able to access. Solo looks skeptical, doubting that such sensitive information would be handed over to them so easily. Solo and Ibuki are going over their intel. Solo realized his assassination unit doesn't get much personal info on their targets, just the bare minimum to get the job done. Ibuki drops some news. While the higher-ups want to scrap Class D, a woman named Ms. Rose is actually the one trying to save them. It turns out Ms. Rose is straight up rebelling against the department's orders. Solo is floored by the reveal. Ibuki explains that because of this, nobody is going to cooperate with them. In fact, most people would rather see the kids drop out as soon as possible. Solo thinks about maybe meeting this Ms. Rose during the break. If he fails this mission, his whole guild is toast anyway. And it hits him. Summer vacation is right around the corner. He gets way more excited about that than the actual mission. Ibuki points out a calendar in the class record. It's completely blank for everything leading up to the break. He spots a note about something called a Fairy Cup. The next day, Solo is outside, trying to figure out what this event actually is. He wonders if it's just another exam in disguise. Anri from Class A strolls up and asks if he's finally starting to use the class record. She heard it had gone missing for a while. She mentions that every teacher uses their record differently, with some writing nothing at all. Solo is just happy she's actually talking to him. She gives him a playful wink, telling him she won't bite, at least not if the students are doing their best. Anri offers to answer one question a day while he's still new. Solo immediately asks about the Fairy Cup. She explains it's an old school tradition. Every year, fairies come from their far-off homeland to visit Orion. The students have to put on magic shows to entertain them. It's basically a hospitality contest. Solo is surprised because he thought fairies were super rare. They make their way toward the faculty room. Anri compares it to a big sporting event with a crowd. The class that wins gets a special blessing from fairies. Solo's ears perk up when he hears it doesn't affect the students' grades. He figures he can just coast through the whole thing. Inside, Vice Principal Robert calls for silence. They just got official word from the fairies. A scroll unfurls, announcing that the competition will be held on July 16th. Anri tells him it's always a hassle since they never know the exact date until the last second. Just then, Shammy from Class C bursts in with a lot of energy. She's already declaring that Class C is going to take the win this year. The teachers from Class B and S are way less enthusiastic about her shouting. Anri leans in and tells Solo that even if it doesn't affect grades, Class A isn't planning on losing. She's got a confident smirk on her face. Suddenly, Julius Hayden appears and asks Solo if he can spare a minute. They step away from the other teachers, who are already starting to gossip about the upcoming cup. Solo is still laughing about the whole thing. He tells Julius there's no point in getting worked up over an event that doesn't count toward grades. Julius doesn't waste any time and gets right to the point. He tells Solo that the principal was called in, and stakes have changed. Someone from Class D is going to be expelled. Back at the school, the atmosphere is a bit different now. The Fairy Cup is a long-standing tradition where classes compete using various spells. Panny explains to the rest of the class that the winners get a blessing. Maiko Cecilia is buzzing with excitement at the thought of actually seeing real fairies. The classroom is filled with chatter. Most of them have never seen a fairy before because first years aren't allowed to participate. Xiao Shahar wonders what kind of magic showdown they're actually going to have to do. Some students are already giving up, saying there's no way they can beat elite classes like Class S or A. Panny points out that Class D is usually stuck in last place anyway, so it's nothing new. They're just relieved that coming in last doesn't come with extra lessons or anything like that. Solo suddenly slams the desk, shouting at them to stop the nonsense. He's determined to aim for a Class D victory. The students just stare at him like he's lost his mind. His sudden burst of energy is definitely not matching the room's vibe. Solo stands alone, thinking about the ultimatum. This isn't just a game anymore. It's a chance to make everyone take his class seriously. Julius explains that the principal wasn't happy about everyone in Class D passing the midterms. It ruined the narrative that they're the school's failures. Solo is stunned. He thought success would buy them some peace, but it only made the administration more desperate to get rid of them. Julius says it's preferable for the school to have a class of sacrificial scraps to look down on. The Fairy Cup is the perfect way to justify expelling someone. Solo looks at the massive gap between classes. Class S is at the top, and his kids are right at the bottom. They're at a total disadvantage. Despite the grim news, Julius gives Solo a beaming smile. He tells him to do his best. acting like he has full confidence in the assassin-turned-teacher. He warns Solo not to tell anyone else about the expulsion threat. Solo is left staring blankly, feeling the weight of the secret. Back in his own head, Solo is sweating. He never imagined that doing well on an exam would lead to another possible expulsion so quickly. The students are looking at a chart of the class rankings. Someone suggests that aiming for the win is the only way to be safe. Solo tries to rally the troops. He asks why they aren't fired up like they were for the midterms. The kids are completely realistic about it. They know passing a test is easy, but winning a magic competition against elite classes is a whole different beast. Later, Solo and Ibuki are grabbing a bite. Solo is still frustrated that his students have already given up before even trying. Ibuki suggests that Solo is relying on him too much. He thinks the class representative, Xiao Shahar, should be the one to lead the charge. Ibuki mentions that he already agreed to meet up with Xiao today. Suddenly, we're in the middle of a high-speed clash. Ibuki and Xiao are calling out spells and going in at full tilt. A massive explosion rocks the training area as their magic collides. They both come to a stop, covered in sweat and dust. Xiao laughs, noting that it's another draw between them. They sit down by the fountain to cool off. Ibuki admits that he still hasn't been able to truly defeat Xiao. Xiao sits on the edge, wiping his forehead. He knows that Ibuki is a genius who gets stronger every single time they fight. Ibuki gets to the point. He wants Class D to win the Fairy Cup, so he needs Xiao to step up and motivate everyone. Solo is watching them from behind a tree, feeling a bit left out. He realizes the kids are actually thinking about winning too. Ibuki gives a confident smirk. He says that if he's going to do something, he intends to win, and he knows Xiao feels the same way. Xiao is a bit more grounded. He wonders if beating the other classes will actually give the kids the confidence they need. Ibuki admits that he's not the best person to be a leader. He's more of a lone wolf type. Xiao agrees, saying he isn't exactly the inspiring type either. He thinks they need someone else to set the mood for Class D. Ibuki looks over as someone approaches. He notes that their class is made up of a lot of different, unique types. Maiko Cecilia comes running over, asking what the two of them are doing hanging out together. She's full of energy, showing off the new Z/a brand nail polish she just bought. She thinks it's the most exciting thing ever. Xiao and Ibuki just give her a blank, deadpan stare. They clearly don't get the hype at all. Nearby, a couple of girls are watching the scene and laughing to themselves. They think Maiko's excitement is pathetic. They mock her, saying she should be practicing magic instead of doing her nails since Class D is guaranteed to come in last anyway. Maiko overheard every word. She's absolutely seething, her face darkening as she glares in their direction. Ibuki and Xiao are surprised she didn't just go over and punch them. They know she's had a short fuse. Maiko clenches her fist hard. She realizes that until she has the power to prove them wrong, their insults are just going to keep hurting. The girls from Class B continue their bullying. They ask if Maiko knows what the D in Class D actually stands for. They burst into laughter, shouting that it stands for dropout. They're really enjoying themselves at her expense. Suddenly, someone tells them they're in the way. A girl with very long, straight silver hair walks right through the middle of them. The silver-haired girl doesn't even look at them. She just coldly tells them to move out of her path. The Class B girls' laughter dies instantly. They recognize her immediately. Maroon Medium, the #1 student in Class S. The rest of the Class S top 3 are right behind her. Gingy Dextra and Spyro Sinistra look down at everyone else with total boredom. Maiko watches them go by. She knows exactly who they are, the absolute elite of their entire school year. Maroon stops and looks back at the girls who are mocking Maiko. She asks if they're from Class B in a tone that makes it clear she doesn't care. Then she drops a cold one, wondering if the B in Class B stands for buffoon. It's the ultimate shutdown. Maroon bluntly reminds the Class B girls that she is superior. She suggests they try joining Class S if they don't like her attitude, while making it clear that such a thing is impossible for them. The Class B girls run away crying, promising to remember this. Spyro Sinistra tells Maroon she went a bit too far, but Maroon has zero tolerance for noisy people with no talent. Maroon starts to walk away, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. Xiao Shahar and Ibuki watch her with a mix of awe and annoyance. Maiko Cecilia is left staring at the silver-haired girl's back, her mind racing as she tries to process the verbal assault. Suddenly, Maroon stops in her tracks and focuses her attention directly on Maiko's hands. She recognizes that Z/a nail polish Maiko was so proud of just moments ago, and her expression is one of pure disdain. In a tense moment, Maroon leans right into Maiko's personal space. She coldly orders Maiko to stop wearing the Z/a brand. Maiko is completely speechless, her eyes wide as she stares back at the #1 student in their year. Maroon's voice is ice cold as she explains that it's embarrassing for her to be matched with someone who has no talent. She drives the point home by asking why she, an elite in Class S, should have to concede any ground to someone from Class D. She issues a mock challenge. If Maiko is upset, she should try beating Class S in the Fairy Cup, though Maroon laughs off the possibility of Class D actually winning. With a final, crushing remark that the polish doesn't even suit her, Maroon continues on her way without a backward glance. Ibuki and Xiao look at Maiko, who is shaking with suppressed fury. They realize something has fundamentally shifted inside her. Later in the classroom, Maiko has completely transformed. She shouts at her classmates that they can't just give up. They have to acknowledge their strength and crush Class B and Class S. She's totally enraged now, screaming that the D in Class D stands for destruction and they're going to annihilate everyone in their way. Solo Pastry, Ibuki, and Xiao are caught between being impressed and being genuinely terrified. Even the unknown scarred boy seems to be taking notice of her sudden, violent motivation. With the Fairy Cup just 2 weeks away, the school is gearing up for the big event. Solo Pastry has gone full drill sergeant, rocking a Sparta headband and screaming at Class D to step it up. He's not cutting them any slack, making everyone review every single spell they've learned so far. The students are absolutely toasted, sprawled out on the grass, and gasping for air. Maiko Cecilia is the only one still fired up, shouting about how they're going to take the win. Dante doesn't look convinced, and Xiao mentions how hard winning is actually going to be. Solo finally calls for a break, and the class collectively collapses like a bunch of ragdolls. Maiko runs over to Ibuki and Xiao, ready to jump back into their transformation practice from yesterday. She gives it her best shot, trying to turn into Ibuki, but the result is, well, it's something. Ibuki calls it another failure, since she basically just looks like a girl version of him. Solo steps in to explain that changing your gender or age is top-tier difficult magic. He suggests she starts with smaller, easier transformations before trying to swap her entire identity. Maiko is determined to master it, mostly because she's desperate to beat Class S in the Fairy Cup. Ibuki and Xiao whisper about her rivalry with a girl from the elite class named Maroon Medium. Maiko starts ranting about how Maroon is always picking fights with her. It all started back in their first year during a joint lesson on transformation magic. Maiko got paired up with Maroon, who already had that cold, "I'm better than you," aura going on. Maiko noticed they were both wearing the same brand of nail polish and tried to bond over it. Maroon just stares at her, clearly not interested in being polish buddies. The teacher tells everyone to start practicing, and Maiko is nervous but ready to try. While Maiko is struggling to even get started, Maroon is just standing there, looking bored. Then Maroon casts her spell, and a bright light completely envelopes her. She pulls off a perfect transformation into Maiko, even getting the clothes and voice exactly right. Maroon starts checking herself out in the mirror, joking about how she's a beauty from this angle. She leans in close to the real Maiko and asks if she's embarrassed by how bad she is at magic. Maroon says she hates being the same as others, especially someone with no talent, and tells Maiko to stop using that nail polish. The whole room is whispering while Maroon calls Maiko a wizard's egg who lacks awareness. She sticks her tongue out, telling Maiko that the polish doesn't even suit her. Maroon keeps rubbing it in, offering to teach Maiko how to do it properly while showing off her own nails. Maiko snaps, telling her she'd never want to be her friend, and Maroon happily agrees. Back in the present, Maiko is still screaming that the brand belongs to her. Solo and the guys can only watch, looking completely drained by the drama. Solo asks if she's really picking a fight over something so trivial. Maiko rants about gatekeeping shoppers while Xiao mentions Maroon is actually the top talent in their year. Xiao and Ibuki realize just how much Maiko has been working to catch up to her rival. Maiko admits she just wants to be the absolute best at the magic she loves most. The guys start teasing her about her current skill level, making her lose again. Dante watches the chaos and quietly agrees that winning is going to be tough. Solo just smiles, thinking that a little extra fighting spirit is exactly what they need for training. Then Azu shows up with some special recovery potions, and everyone starts screaming in terror. Later that night, the boys head back from the baths, still complaining about how bad those potions tasted. Ibuki is grumbling about the lack of privacy, but Xiao reminds him they're all on a tight schedule. Kai wonders where Dante is. Xiao says he told him to meet up for the bath, but he hasn't shown. Ibuki's already done and drying off. They figure Dante probably passed out in his room after cleaning. Xiao jokes that if he doesn't wash off today's sweat, the girls will avoid him like the plague tomorrow. Zhao's actually a bit worried. Dante seemed pretty out of it during their brutal training session. He goes to check on his roommate and finds the guy sprawled out on the bed, totally zonked. Dante is out cold, looking like the day finally caught up to him. That's when Xiao spots a letter sitting right on the desk. Suddenly, Dante bolts upright, panicking that he overslept. He asks what time it is, terrified he missed his chance for a bath. Ibuki, cool as ever, tells him it's almost 9. Dante doesn't waste a second, sprinting out the door while yelling that he'll be right back. Ibuki shouts a reminder to wash well or he'll stink, and Dante just throws an insult over his shoulder. Xiao lingers in the room for a second, looking thoughtful. He takes a long look at the documents Dante left out on the shelf. Later that night, Ibuki is relaxing with some tea. Solo apologizes for the briefing running late, acknowledging that the students work hard on their day off. They start talking about the Fairy Cup and the high stakes involved. The threat of expulsion is looming over the last place class, and Ibuki is finally starting to see the full picture. Under the dual moons, the tension in the air is palpable. It's clear the pressure is only going to get worse from here. The next morning, Solo gathers the class for more training. Today's focus is defensive magic, a spell called Witch's Stronghold. Solo explains that while Witch's Arsenal is for attacking, this spell is all about defense. It's basic combat magic they should have mastered back in their first year. The students aren't exactly excited. Everyone knows that good shield magic is notoriously hard to pull off. They give it a shot, but it's a mess. The spell takes forever to cast and shatters the moment any pressure is applied. Michael mentions how Rex managed an incredible shield during the midterms. Rex admits that holding something like that is nearly impossible to do consistently. Even Ibuki says he's not great at it. Solo tells them it's tough magic, but the only way to get it right is through constant drilling. To up the stakes, Solo starts a drill he calls Sudden Death. He's launching magic shards and debris at them, and Ibuki is immediately struggling to stay upright. Solo is actually laughing, looking like he's having a blast. Rex and Maiko can only watch in horror as he tells them he's cranking up the power level. Shields are breaking left and right. Solo tells them to focus and visualize their magic as something solid, because in a real fight, they'd be dead by now. Ibuki and Dante are the only ones left holding on. Ibuki is locked in, while Dante is clearly feeling the strain. Solo calls for the last one standing, promising a reward. He's surprised to see that Xiao, Ibuki, and Dante are the final three. Solo doesn't go easy on them. A massive blast shatters Ibuki's shield, and he's officially out. Now it's a duel between Xiao and Dante. Xiao looks surprisingly calm under his barrier, while Solo wonders who will be the last one left. Finally, Dante's shield hits its limit and shatters into pieces. Solo calls him out, leaving Xiao as the winner. The girls and Ibuki are cheering, totally impressed by Xiao's performance. Xiao collapses, gasping for air and admitting it was way too close. Solo walks over and compliments him, saying he's actually pretty good despite what he says. Xiao points out the spell's flaws. He's a sitting duck once the shield is up, and it's too slow for a real-time combat situation. Solo just smiles, telling him that with that spirit, he'll find a way to make it work. He reminds him why he was the top-ranked student, and Xiao looks more determined than ever. Xiao can't help but tease Ibuki about his loss. Ibuki just gives him a deadpan look of annoyance. Solo points out that Ibuki dropped out way faster than expected. Ibuki can only admit that shield magic just isn't his thing. Solo reflects on his own combat style, which is all about striking first. His mutual destruction motto is pretty intense, and it leaves Ibuki looking a bit shell-shocked. Solo turns to Dante and gives him props for making it to the final two. Dante is genuinely shocked by the sudden compliment. He admits that seeing everyone so focused on his training was a real surprise. Solo stares at him for a long, silent moment. Then he asks if they should move on to practicing Witch's Arsenal. Dante says he just wants to improve his offensive magic. Xiao remembers Dante being decent at it already, while Solo warns that his advice usually comes at a high price. Solo looks Dante right in the eyes. He offers individual help since Witch's Arsenal is his specialty, but he warns that there's only so much he can actually teach. He tells Dante that it all comes down to discipline. If he wants to improve, he has to be ready to put in the work. Solo's gaze gets incredibly intense as he prepares to drop some serious truth on his student. Dante looks stunned as he asks Solo how he managed to figure out his specialty magic. Solo remains silent as Dante stomps away, shouting that he'll just train on his own and doesn't need anyone's help. Later, Ibuki leans in and whispers to Solo, asking if he has a moment to talk privately. Solo agrees to meet up later. Back at the dorms, Solo sits on his bed, lost in thought. Outside, the night sky is illuminated by two glowing moons hanging over the Orion School of Magic. Suddenly, Solo's eyes widen in alarm as he realizes that his precognition is failing him. He discusses the situation with Ibuki, explaining that the Department of Magic had foreseen two possible futures, one where the country is destroyed and another where Class D drops out within a year. Ibuki is shocked as Solo explains that while several students were confirmed to still be in school a year from now, they've completely disappeared from the timeline where the country is ruined. Solo warns that the risk of Maiko and the others dropping out has returned, much to Ibuki's confusion. He points out that while they successfully navigated the midterms, the upcoming Fairy Cup introduces a new threat, the certain expulsion of whoever finishes in last place. Solo concludes that regardless of the circumstances, the path always leads back to the same disastrous end where Class D brings about the nation's downfall. He solemnly notes that as long as the members of Class D are still around, steering history away from that dark path is an almost impossible task. Solo recalls his instructions from Ms. Rose to do whatever it takes to prevent any expulsions from happening. He looks at a symbolic frame of his 12 students, realizing he must remain completely focused on guiding every single one of them. As chibis, Solo and Ibuki acknowledge that they can't afford to take their eyes off the students they've already managed to save once. Solo rubs his temples, frustrated by the feeling that they've been pushed back to the very beginning of their mission. His hand trembles as he admits he thought he wouldn't have to worry about these students being seen as failures anymore. Ibuki tries to calm him down, offering some tea as Solo vents about the constant stress of every test potentially leading to a dropout. Ibuki wonders aloud if there are other reasons students might leave, like bad behavior or simply choosing to quit on their own. He mentions how Ms. Rose told him that back in her day, it was quite common for students to leave for personal reasons rather than failing grades. Ibuki suggests that Solo should try being a bit nicer to anyone who seems particularly worried, but Solo just sips his tea and wonders how he'd even notice. A sudden thought strikes Solo, and he pauses mid-sip, wondering if there's more to Dante's behavior than he initially thought. He recalls how unusually aggressive Dante was being and realizes that asking about specialty magic was very out of character for him. Solo explains the nature of specialty magic, noting that while some are born with a natural talent, others only discover what feels right through years of dedicated training. They discuss how external factors like upbringing can influence magic, like how Todori's love for nature makes her a perfect fit for plant magic. He compares finding one specialty to discovering a talent for art or music. It's a complex process of self-discovery that isn't always obvious. Solo thinks back to Dante claiming that Witch's Arsenal was his forte, though he still has his doubts about whether that's actually the case. Turning the conversation back to Ibuki, Solo asks if his own specialty is clearly electricity. Ibuki confirms that his time in the assassination unit felt natural to him, and Ms. Rose had even praised his natural aptitude for the work. Ibuki looks Solo in the eye and asks when exactly Number Zero figured out his own magical specialty. He admits he's curious about the legendary assassin's past and how he came to settle on Witch's Arsenal as his primary tool. Ibuki suddenly bursts into a flurry of questions, wanting to know everything from Solo's hobbies and favorite books to what kind of laundry detergent he uses. Solo dismisses the questions, telling Ibuki that his past isn't nearly as special as he thinks it is. As he stares into the distance, Solo's thoughts drift back to the core of his power, the Witch's Arsenal. A young, battered Solo reflects on the first time he ever used magic, and the first time he used it to take a life. From the peaceful city above, you'd never know the darkness hidden below. Down in the guts of the lower districts, life is a lot grimmer. This was home, a maze of crumbling stone and damp laundry hanging between sagging buildings. Young Solo spent most of his time alone in a room that looked more like a landfill. The table was a mess of empty bottles and spilled booze. It wasn't exactly a great environment for a kid. He looks rough, his face covered in bruises and fresh cuts. Solo's mother was usually around, but only to demand food or more alcohol. When she found the cupboards empty, she immediately turned her anger on him. Since his father wasn't in the picture and his mother refused to work, he grew up without enough to eat or wear. He was just another one of those unfortunate kids you see in every city, wishing he'd been born into a rich family instead. One day, while digging through the trash for scraps, he found an old animal picture book. It turned out to be a magic book. The moment he opened it, the illustrations came to life and danced in the air. He was completely mesmerized. It was the first time he'd seen real magic. His first thought was to sell it for some extra cash, but then he heard a girl's voice calling for her mom. He peeked through the shadows to see where the sound was coming from. A woman was walking by with a bag of fresh bread, praising her daughter for doing so well in school. Solo watched them, wondering what kind of place school even was. The girl was so proud to show off a book she'd borrowed from the library. They walked off together to have egg tarts, leaving the boy alone with his trash heap find. He looked back at his own book, the gap between their worlds feeling wider than ever. He knew his mother was struggling, and his father was a piece of trash for leaving them. But that didn't make the constant screaming any easier. She blamed him for everything. According to her, his birth was the only reason his father walked out. To her, he wasn't a son. He was just a burden that kept her from having a better life. She screamed that he never should have been born, calling his very existence a sin. As she grabbed the one thing that made him happy, the picture book, and smashed it to pieces. The abuse was constant. Back then, he was always just waiting for those days to finally end. He held on to a tiny hope that maybe one day, she'd listen to him like the mothers he saw in the street. He dreamed about simple things, getting handmade sweets or going to school like the other kids. Even in his dark, cramped world, some part of him was still wishing for the dawn to come. But instead of dawn, he heard a heavy clank. She didn't want him wandering off. She chained him by the ankle like a dog. One day, the door opened, and his mother stood there with a couple of shady-looking guys. Solo looked up, confused by the strangers in their house. For the first and last time in his life, his mother actually said she was sorry. The men just laughed, looking at the pitiful brat tied up on the floor. The truth hit him like a physical blow. His own mother had sold him to experimenters. He managed to break loose and sprinted into the snowy streets, his hands still bound together. Gagged and gasping for air, the realization that he'd been abandoned and sold made his heart sink. But he didn't get far. The men caught up and started beating him into submission. They didn't care if they hurt him. As long as he was alive for the experiments, he was still valuable. In his mind, Solo screamed for anyone to save him as a blinding light began to swell from within. A blinding, radiant light erupts from the boy, the true form of the unbreaking dawn, magic awakening within him. His pupils shift, taking on a star-like shape as the power surges through his veins. The force of the explosion is massive, tearing through the alleyway and blasting his captor's back. Young Solo is left gasping for air, his eyes still shimmering with leftover magical energy. Reaching out, he realizes the daybreak he always wished for has finally arrived, but it's brought a lot of destruction with it. When the light finally fades, the men who were just beating him are dead, scattered across the snowy ground. He's completely drained, his body trembling from a sudden surge of power. One of the thugs stares back with lifeless eyes, his face frozen in a final moment of pure terror. Solo looks around at the bodies, his mind racing. He can't quite grasp that they're actually gone. He stares at his own hands, wondering if he's the one who caused all this. Out of the swirling snow, a mysterious figure appears, accompanied by a strange, wide-eyed owl. This was the moment his life changed forever, the day he met the man he'd come to call the boss. The boss mentions he'd heard rumors of a shady deal in town tonight, but he didn't expect to find this. He takes in carnage while his owl notes that the dead man belonged to a dangerous organization. He turns his attention to the small, bruised boy and asks if he's the one responsible for this. The owl is stunned. It's rare for a child of 5 or 6 to awaken magic this powerful. Solo is terrified, wondering if having this power makes him a monster. The boss explains that these men were part of a group that captured wizards for illegal experiments. The kid breaks down, terrified that he's going to be arrested for what he did. He asks through his tears if he's going to be executed for taking those lives. He's convinced he's a bad kid because of the destruction he just caused. But the boss stands over him, explaining that these men were an evil that needed to be erased from the world. He tells Solo that his organization was already planning to eliminate them. It was their job. A hand reaches out, and the boss's voice is surprisingly gentle as he tells the boy he's committed no sin. He gives him a reassuring pat on the head, promising that he has no intention of killing a blameless child. His face remains hidden in the shadows as he explains that killing children isn't what he does. For the first time, the boy looks up with something other than fear in his eyes. He remembers his mother's voice screaming that he was a sin and should never have been born. But the boss's words are the exact opposite. He tells the boy he did a good job ridding the world of evil. Solo had always wanted to be reborn into a better life, just to escape his own misery. The stranger's kindness is overwhelming as he tells the boy that if he stays a good kid, things will change. He cries freely now, the weight of his mother's hatred finally being countered by a stranger's acceptance. The boss decides they'll handle the cleanup and leave the boy with the Department of Magic since he's now an orphan. He starts to walk away, assuming their encounter is over. But the boy shouts for him to wait, desperate not to let go of the first person who ever treated him like a human being. With a sudden fire in his eyes, he begs the boss to take him along and teach him how to do that work. The boss and his owl are caught off guard. He warns the kid that their work is nothing to be proud of. Solo doesn't care. The boss explains that his guild, Kronos, exists solely to eliminate those who abuse magic. He looks the boy in the eye and asks if he really has the resolve to take lives under his command. Without a hint of hesitation, Solo tells him he can kill and that he's not afraid of evil people anymore. The boss warns him that the organization isn't lenient. They have no use for anyone who is useless or disobedient. He reaches out his hand, officially welcoming the boy into the guild as number 0. Young Solo is finally smiling, a glimmer of hope returning to his eyes as he joins the guild, Kronos. Transitioning back to the present, Solo explains that he dedicated himself to the study of magic from that day forward. He was given a home and books, but it wasn't an orphanage. He had to work hard and prove his worth to stay. The occasional words of acknowledgement from the boss were the only doting he ever received, and they became his main motivation. After years of rigorous training and countless missions, he eventually rose to become the guild's top operative. Ibuki is completely starstruck, his eyes practically sparkling with genuine admiration for his hero's past. He's vibrating with excitement, feeling incredibly honored to have heard the origin story of the legendary number 0. Solo is a bit overwhelmed by the enthusiasm, especially when Ibuki starts grilling him about his study habits. Ibuki settles down for a moment and asks Solo why he chose such a dangerous and lonely profession. Solo looks back, a little surprised by the personal question as he continues to pour more tea. Ibuki reveals that his own past is remarkably similar. He too was sold by his parents to be a test subject for experiments. He explains how he was eventually taken in by the Department of Magic and chose to become a useful tool for the country. Because Ms. Rose saved him, he feels a deep sense of loyalty and follows her every order without question. Solo reflects on the sheer coincidence of their meeting. It seems we had pretty similar circumstances, huh? Ibuki gives a small, genuine smile, hoping that their paths crossing was more like destiny than chance. Solo looks away, perhaps a bit uncomfortable with such a heavy sentiment, and tries to steer the conversation back to magic. Suddenly, a frantic knocking at the door breaks the late-night silence, startling them both. They're on high alert, wondering who could possibly be visiting at 2 in the morning. Solo quickly poofs into his black cat disguise, telling Ibuki to make sure no one sees his true form. Ibuki watches the small cat hop away, asking to hear more of Solo's stories the next time they're alone. He's still buzzing with a million questions, but Solo just grumbles and tells him only if he feels like it. As he leaves, Solo reflects on the boss's words about not killing blameless children, a mantra that has stayed with him. He worries about the future of Class D. From the guild's perspective, they're just targets that need to be eliminated. He looks back at Ibuki, thinking it's the first time he's ever seen the boy make such a relaxed expression. Solo vanishes into the night, saddened that a child raised as an assassin has to carry such a heavy burden. The knocking on the door continues, louder than before. Ah, geez. Who's at this hour? It's Noel Campbell, laughing maniacally about an invitation to a blood-dark night. Ibuki is completely bewildered as Noel continues his bizarre, sleepwalking monologue. Nanato Mikazuki is right behind him, panicking and trying to lead the sleepwalking Noel back to bed. Nanato apologizes for the noise, explaining that Noel just started roaming the halls and is asleep again. Ibuki watches them go, his thoughts drifting back to Solo. He realizes with a bit of sadness that Solo didn't recognize him. Elsewhere, Nagisa, Snow, sits on his bed, silently going over some papers as the night draws to a close. He looks exhausted, the weight of the upcoming competition clearly taking its toll on the student. Finally, the sun begins to rise over the academy. The long-awaited morning of the Fairy Cup has arrived.